By the end of this video, you are going to understand every top lane champion in League of Legends, and to help us, we have Coach Chippy's Korean Challenger player and full-time top lane academy coach. Let's get into the details. Now, Chippies, starting off with the most popular top laner in the game, Platinum Plus, Yone. 8% pick rate. Why is Yone the most popular champ for top laners here? Chippies, what's going on here?
Yeah, that actually caught me off guard today. Usually Garen is the top dog. Recently it's been Teemo, but for Yone, I think, the long story short, he's just extremely fun. People are very drawn to kits that are really enjoyable and smooth to play him. Even though I do think the majority of players are playing him wrong, I think, yeah, it's just really enjoyable to play.
So yeah, let's talk about some things that you've observed with coaching Yone players. What do you mean by people play it wrong? Because I also, I mean, a lot of the guides that we do in We Teach Elite Academies is teaching people how to play the champion properly, because people are playing champions at like 30% of their capacity. It sounds like Yone is one of those. What's the big misconception with ability usage or narratives around this champion, you think?
Yeah, definitely. So when most players play Yone, they chuck on the lethal tempo, go ignite or exhaust, and they kind of play like Olaf, just trying to run people into the dirt, beat their head in. But when I versed the really good Yone players on the Korean server, these 16-year-old freaky prodigies, they're pretty much playing them like a range champion, like basing me with their Q range, their W range. They'll like Q3 auto snap back to E, so you pretty much can't hit them. So in my opinion, the really good Yone players, they play 100-0 trade style. So they stay full HP, chip away at you, and you just can't hit them. It's like versing a Vayne pretty much. And then when you're low, then they commit with the lethal tempo, then they finish you off. But they don't just brute force to get both of you low HP, because that's not really what Yone wants to do.
Would you say that Yone has a clear identity? Or would you say people kind of struggle to really grasp what the champion's about?
I think overall, I'd say it's very difficult to know the reference points, because any champion that's good at short trading and long trading, because sometimes you can just run them down with lethal tempo, right? If they make a mistake, or if you stack up enough by Q spacing ahead of time and then go in. So I think champions like him, Zilean's another one, who is good at short trading and long trading. It's very, very hard for players to understand. And then you'll probably agree, as someone that made a Yone guide in the MLA, that the mid game on Yone is just so hard, where you can't really split push, you can't really team fight, you just have to farm extremely well and take opportunities that are free. But as we know from coaching, when it comes to team fighting, the average player, they see champs on their screen and boom, E flash, ulti Q, everything straight away. They're not waiting patiently for, all right, this is good because it's a 5v4 and this guy doesn't have flash. They're not thinking that deeply about it. But on Yone, if you don't think about those details, you will just get one shot.
So would you say people, okay, because it's interesting, because in the mid lane academy with Yone, a lot of Yone players are okay in lane. Actually, which is because I guess it's a shorter lane, right? It's smaller, and a lot of people are able to kind of get to the mid game in like an okay position. It's just that they just fall flat on their face in the mid game, right? Because they don't really understand what their identity is. They don't really know how to team fight overly effectively, so typically they either over split push and never group, or they never play side, vice versa, right? So would you say in the top lane academy, people are struggling more so in the lane, and they're just not even getting to the mid game? Or is it more like they actually are kind of getting to the mid game and falling flat in the face in mid game?
I think lane is 50-50, kind of matchup dependent. If they verse a matchup that they can run over a little bit, like a Mundo or something, where you just win the long trade and you can make it volatile, or like Kale or something, they will do a lot better. But of course, you can imagine playing against Renekton or Sett with Ignite. It's going to be a different story. If you don't know how to utilize your range and mobility advantage over these champs, you're either going to be 0-5 or 5-0 in the first 5 minutes. So I'd say, on average, when I look at a student's match history, it is a lot of like 5-1, 1-9, like on repeat, kind of copy-pasted.
Yeah, I played with Yone yesterday, 1-10.
Yeah.
The classic.
Yeah, I think that's not uncharacteristic for Yone for sure.
Definitely. And team fighting as well, like I mentioned, just blowing their load instantly. ERQ, oh, I'm dead straight away, or didn't really get a good angle because you didn't wait for your Rel or your Rakan or whatever to engage for you.
So Yone has this like really like sexy aesthetic, right? He's like this cool,
he's one of the coolest
anime dual wielding sword person. Like everyone wants to play Yone. So for the people out there that, they've heard this so far, they've heard you say, well, look, he's hard, and Curtis talking about our mid game is hard, whatever. What advice typically, where should Yone players be directing their attention? What are some common learning objectives or areas that you get Yone players to kind of focus on to improve on this champion?
I think specifically overall, in terms of rank starting place, I think between Emerald and Diamond is the best place to start Yone. Any higher and you're going to get run into the dirt, but any lower, you don't have that foundation yet. But as you're queuing up and trying to learn him, I would just say don't go into your game trying to brute force people. Actually think about the range advantage of your Q, of your W, practice that spacing element. It's like Ambessa. If you were to play Ambessa, you don't want to just jump on people's heads. You kind of want to kite around them. Yone is very similar in that way. And yes, you have the option to lethal tempo around people's head in, but that shouldn't be your default when learning. Just get a crack for 10 sets per minute, facing them low diff, and just feel out the champion that way instead of 0-10, 10-0 on repeat.
Yeah, I love that. And the last thing I want to say about Yone is that, okay, so like if you think about it, there's a lot of kits in League of Legends that have high skill expression. If you think about kits like, Ambessa, Yone, but in maybe even like Jayce to a certain extent, champions that have maybe minute advantages with ranges, their ability to kind of get in, get out. These are very highly skill expressive kits. Now, if these champions were to be stat sticks where they could just go in and kill someone, they would be broken by concept. They wouldn't make any sense. So the way they're balanced is that their numbers are actually usually a little bit weaker than a lot of other champions. Like, again, you look at a stat stick a lot of the time, like a Renekton or a Sett or something. If you're just going in full HP and they're full HP, a lot of the time you're going to lose. And so, like, something that I work with when I work with a lot of players who play these sorts of champions, that I have to just, let's get aligned here for a second. Your champion has all this skill expression. You have all these creative little trades that you can do. You need to accept reality that in order to have success in this champion, that, you have to be trading with a lot more nuance. You have to be trading with a lot more attention to detail. You have to be trading with a lot more attention to detail with your cooldowns. And I think a lot of people who play champs like Ambessa and Yone want to come in and just throw their dick around, and it just doesn't work. Have you found that, like, have you found yourself also having to explain that sort of thing in the TLA?
Yeah, 100%. I call it elegant trading. I just say you're playing like a caveman. You need to be elegant on champs like Yone. It's not elegant at all.
It's like Lord of the Rings. Like they think they're like Gimli, the dwarf, but you got to be more like Legolas. You've got to be like the elf, keeping your distance.
So Yone does have like basically a dead even 50% win rate. Does that surprise you? Would you see more people like think they could play Yone and like it would have more of a negative win rate? And do you even recommend people play Yone? And is Yone good for learning fundamentals of laning and top lane?
I'd say no. I'd say the main reason the win rate's pretty even is because only Yone players would play him. Like, you don't see a Garen guy whip out a random Yone game for no reason. I think it's pretty rare. So I'd say that's probably a big reason why the win rate's even. In terms of what I recommend him, maybe if they're Emerald Diamond again, but he wouldn't be my first choice for sure. Like, not even top 10. I think learning that spacing minigame is really difficult. Because I say, hey, just play elegant, use your range advantage. It's really hard to just play on the Yone Q range. Yeah, it's way more difficult. It'd be easier to learn, wave control back time is on a more simple to execute champ for sure.
Okay, next up on our list, number 2, we have Malphite with a 7% pick rate. And this is, my explanation of this is the most common as well that we saw with a lot of champs on some of the other lists. This just must be people just off-rolling. Right? Or like, they're just like top lane, I'm just going to auto-lock Malphite. Or is this Malphite pick just to counter all the Yone players?
Yeah, probably. I think Yone is Malphite, is the ultimate counter pick champ to have in your pool because you could play him with legit 0 Malphite games. As long as you know roughly what to build, just sit down, queue them and ult them. I think this champ's just so easy to execute. Probably the easiest to execute champ in the game. And if you only pick him in perfect spots, you're going to win more than half your Malphite games for sure. And the perfect spots are usually going to be heavy AD comps, but mainly immobile. So if they have like a Felios, it's way better than like something like Xayah or Israel that can dodge your ulti, right? So immobile AD champions. But yeah, if they ever have an AD mid or AD top jungle that's kind of mobile, especially AD range top, Malphite's going to be an amazing pick for you. And a lot of players hate range tops. So I think Malphite finds his way into people's pools a lot. Is like, I don't want to play Garen into Vayne today. I'll just do Malphite.
So my question is, is Malphite in a way too simple, whereby you're not going to be learning the fundamentals quite well? Like, is he a champ that skips the fundamentals in some regard?
I'd definitely say so, yeah. I think he's a champ where you're not really laning. You're just getting pushed in, queuing people, and then R'ing them when they're low. Like, yes, there's things you can do, like with any champ, buffer W3CC or whatever, but I'd say, yeah, he's not a good champ for learning the game. He's just something I like students to have in their pool, because it's like, man, this game just looks bullshit for my Sett or for my Darius. Malphite time and just, collect that free win. Because top lane, one tricking is the most optimal, but it's very boring. So it is nice to sprinkle in some easy counter picks that a student doesn't have to play 300 games on.
So what's the X factor skills for a Malphite player?
There's got to be some skill.
Yeah, so like obviously, because
right? a great Malphite?
I mean, I've played Malphite in entered games, right? I'm just queuing too much. I go and then I'm just like, I can't even weak side. So what are the differentiators between like a great Malphite player, someone that can even play those Malphite games in tough Malphite games and still get results?
I think there's no one that can get too much results in the tough Malphite games. I always check. I'm always curious. I think the highest ranked Malphite OTP is like 200 LP playing AP Malphite. So I think they really struggle. But in terms of what would make a Malphite play, better than the average, I think the way you mana and HP management, resource management, that's the one. Yep. Because you don't want to go in 1 second. Your spells cost a lot of mana, so you need to make sure you're using them well. And cutting trades short. QEW click backwards, and sometimes you space an extra auto attack. So there are a little more advanced things you can do. I'd say the big one is team fighting, because a lot of Malphites are keen to, like we talked about with Yone, I see a champ on my screen, I ulti straight away. But sometimes it's better just to hold ulti, to bash people, because if you're a mage or an AD carry player, and you just look at this Malphite who's not ulting, it's like, okay, I can't play the game, I'm waiting. That can be more impactful than ulting a lot of the time, just holding that spell. But a lot of Malphite players just see, I'm the engage, I'm going first no matter what. AD carry flashes it, and then you're useless.
So it's like tracking flashes. What are some learning objectives that you give people with Malphite?
Yeah. So for outer game, you're holding ulti, tracking flashes, pretty much the two ones. Making sure you're farming when your ulti's down, looking for plays when your ulti's up. There's like the 3 principles of Malphite in the mid game. And for lane, it's just, making sure you're not just spamming Q, because if they have Doran Shield second win, you're going to run out of mana before they run out of HP. They mainly just play kind of for farm 1 to 5, and then 5 to 9 you can start to pressure them. So those types of things.
And can you talk to me a little bit about AP Malphite versus tank Malphite? Do you have like a recommendation, or is it just really obvious? Like I'm playing it as a pocket pick in my pool, and I'm just going full tank because I just counter the entire heavy AD comp. Is there times where AP Malphite's better? Like what's your thoughts on that?
I think most of the time, because you're only picking Malphite in the perfect game, you should just build tank, because the perfect game they have a million AD champions. But there are certain matchups like Kayle. Malphite's a famous counterpick to Kayle, where you want to build AP, so you can just one-shot her straight away before she can land an ulti. And if she R's you just click backwards, right? And your pokes, really sticks, because versus Kayle, you don't want to both farm. Of course, it's going to be good for her. So with AP, your poke really lands. You can really throw in 1v1. So in a matchup where you kind of want to get an advantage like that, you can build more AP. Or maybe something like a Olaf, you wouldn't want to build tank. Or like a Darius, they'll just sit there and beat you up. You could go more AP, but again, you probably shouldn't be playing Malphite in that game anyway.
Yeah. Would you say that it's probably best to just, those tank buster type champions, just cop it and still build tank because you're just so good against the rest of the enemy team comp? Like the Yasuo mid, the, Philios ADC or Jinx ADC, or should you really think to optimize the whole AP versus tank?
I'd say, if it's something like a Trundle, like a full tank buster, you could build AP. But if I was solo tank Malphite with, some shitty comp like Graves and Pyke, I'd probably just build tank anyway.
Yeah. And would you say, so you said, it's very interesting because I feel like, as you said, Malphite's one of the hardest counterpick champions in like the entire game. Like I feel like other roles don't have something
to that extent. Like, would you say that to be an effective top laner in ranked solo queue, you just have to know how to play Malphite and just have it in your pool? And do people in the top lane academy, you recommend them to do this, and they just say, that's just too boring, I can't live with myself playing Malphite, I'm just not going to have it in my pool? What's your thoughts about that?
I wouldn't say you have to have it in your pool. It is just good for everyone to have it, because again, if you do versus that guy that blind picks Vayne or Quinn or something, or Jason, like a silver or gold Jayce, it is just a free win with no counterplay. But yeah, players hate playing it because it's so boring in the TLA, and I think it's mainly because when they play against it, they really hate it. They get so stressed that they don't want to be the guy that plays it.
Okay, Garen. This is the one you expected to be the most popular. 7% pick rate, one of the highest win rate champs on the current patch. Garen, you thought this was going to be the most popular pick. What's your thoughts on Garen?
I love this champion. I think he's the ultimate vehicle to learn top lane with. Like, if you gave me a fresh level 30 guy off the street and you had to get him emerald as fast as possible, like, just use Garen. It's so good to collect. Like, he's a good champion in all those ranks, and he's really effective for learning, because I say this every day until I run out of voice in the TLA. The biggest issue with our below emerald, and especially below gold students, is they play so passive. So they're not taking trades, so they're not learning, right? They're just sitting on their bike in the garage, but they're not actually going for a ride, so they're not getting any better. But with Garen, you can play like a bit of a psycho, take some bad trades, heal it back up, take some good trades, sweet, play for the kill. There's like the ultimate way where you don't have to fear. Because if you take a bad trade on Jax, let's say your lethal tempo ignite Jax, your Nexus explodes, your game's just over. You're stuck under tower, never playing again. But on Garen, just chill for 20 seconds, get back in there, get your hands dirty. So I think
that's
this champion is
passive,
just awesome.
Right? The passive healing.
Yeah,
the passive healing, do you think
best
is just...
passive.
It's sort of like a massive get out of jail free card. Do you think it's actually just flat out broken, this passive?
Yeah, the passive's just too good, and combined with like good wave clear and no mana cost, he's just super stable. Even if you miss a back timer, which would end most champions' games, just chill, just passive it back up, one shot a wave, and then base and come back. Like, you always have ways to get out of bad situations with Garen, which means you should feel more confident to make mistakes and make good plays and that type of thing.
So Garen also is a champion that scales very well moving into mid game as well. So is that like a thing is that another reason why you typically recommend Garen for people below Emerald? Because games or below Platinum, because games start to stall out a little bit? Is that factored in?
Exactly. He doesn't have that burden of like, I must get fit in lane. I still think they should try to, because again, everyone in those ranks are making mistakes. You can punish. But exactly right. If you just scale up inside, get good farm, you're going to be useful no matter what. So it doesn't really matter, because even if you get behind, you farm so well, your tempo's so good, even the movement speed is a factor too. Because you could imagine a champion where you push in top and you're slowly walking your way to mid compared to Garen. You can just make a lot more plays, maintain higher farm with him. So yeah, definitely the scaling element's a big one. I still think champs that don't scale well can be good, like Sett, for example. I think you try to get a lead on Sett. But yeah, Garen, that's why I always call him the top dog above the rest, because you scale well and the lane phase is just way more consistent and stable.
So my big concern, and I want you to see where I'm going wrong here, Chippies, is I kind of think about the way you're describing Garen. I'm trying to kind of compare that to what would exist in mid lane, right? And obviously you've got a champion like, let's say, Malzahar, which is like really, really easy to execute. A lot of people can win with it, but in a way, it kind of dumbs the game down too much, where it can bypass some fundamentals. And then you've got champions with another layer of kind of complexity, maybe like that of like a Veigar, where it's very effective. It's not as forgiving as something like a Malzahar, and does kind of force you to learn fundamentals. So is there ever a fear for you as a coach when you see someone like just only playing Garen, they've only played Garen for quite a long time, whereby you feel like certain aspects of the game they may be avoiding, or there's certain things about the game they can't really learn because they've overplayed Garen?
And there's the great question there. Definitely, I've thought about this a lot. And the way I think about it, every champ you play, there's going to be pros and cons. And that's definitely the main con of Garen. It's like, sometimes your wave clearance sustain is too good, to the point where you're not getting punished, so you don't even know you're taking bad trades. But again, I would say after watching, let's just say out of 100 below gold students, 99 of them are playing mega, mega passive. So I need them to trade. I need you to push yourself and play more aggressive. So even if you got to platinum and maybe your mana management's not so good, or you're not as good at slow pushing and hard pushing as maybe a Jax player, I'll take that any day over someone that's sitting under tower and not playing the game. So definitely, yeah, that is a downside. But again, if you get to Emerald with Garen, you're going to be very good at many, many skills, because he's pretty simple as well. You're not like cheating the game. You're not like a Singe or a Warwick that can bend rules and then, going from Singe to Jax, it's like a different League of Legends game. But going from Garen to Jax or Garen to maybe Darius, I think they're going to have a much better time.
So we've been talking a lot about Garen in the context of the lower elo brackets, right? Being a great champion for learning trading, getting to platinum, getting to emerald with. But what about Garen above emerald, right? Do you not recommend it to people above emerald? Because obviously there are high level Garen players out there. There's that, is it Wrist? Is that his name? The Garen OTP, one of them. I mean, there's a few of them anyway. So yeah, how do you think about Garen above Emerald? And do you recommend people to play Garen above Emerald?
Yeah, there are 3 really good Garen players. There's Palco, Stray, and Gangplank King, and they always kind of get challenged every season. So it is possible. I think it's going to be very difficult. So let's say you have me an Emerald student. I wouldn't recommend him play Garen, but if you get to Emerald with Garen, that's sort of the bus stop, right? Where you can get back on the Garen bus if you really like him, you really enjoy him, or you can change it up if you're getting sick of him. So if you love Garen, it's not really a question, right? Just keep it going and push up. And it might be harder than, if you just played meta. But if you enjoy it, it's fine. But yeah, if you're at Emerald, you're like, I don't really like Garen, but I'm scared to swap him out, and you're just like autopilot playing him, you should definitely swap, because he's not going to be a great champion in Master Plus. It's possible. One tricks make him work. You have to be obsessed with the champion. I've only seen people obsessed with him make him work, not someone who just like casually has him in their pool.
So I was going to ask one more question about mid-game specifically here. So for people that, let's say, they start to get good at their trading, right? They start to get over that mental block of being scared to trade, and they actually end up getting ahead. Do Garen players struggle translating leads, or is it one of those champs that once you're ahead, you can usually kind of just close out the game relatively easily?
I think it's easier than most. You're always going to have the top lane specific issue, not really Garen specific, of do I split push or do I team fight here? And of course, a student will team fight too much and then be like, oh, that didn't work. Next game, I'll just split push, right? You need to figure out when to do each one. But I'd say, yeah, it's probably going to be easier than most because you have the option to side lane or team fight. And the rule I like to teach for it, keep it simple. If you can make progress 1v1, so if you're actually killing the guy or blowing up his tower, do that. But if he's just catching waves and you're not doing anything, then look to make a 5v4 play. Look around mid, look around dragon, and if there's nothing to do, back to top. And you just kind of repeat that until a good play opens up. But it's solo queue after 1 or 2 waves, someone's going to be inting. So yeah, I think typically if you learn that formula, you'll be fine.
Okay, our 4th most popular, highest pick rate top laner is Darius. Negative win rate, 49%, but people still play this champion. Is this because Darius has so much lore, so much, he's one of the oldest champs in the game? Everyone knows he's like a top lane champion. Is this a thing where people struggle with him, Chippies, because people are just not aggressive enough? Like you said, that's a big thing that top laners need to learn, how to be more aggressive, how to min-max matchups and trade in.
Yeah. I have a lot to say about this champion. So I think out of all guides I've made, we always make a section like common mistakes to avoid. Darius, that one's the most important by far, because every Darius student I've ever had, Master, Emerald, Diamond, it doesn't matter. They make the same mistakes where they get a lead in lane, and then in mid-game, they think they're Tryndamere split pushing and just get ganked, lose their summoner spells or die. Because on a champ like Darius or Olaf, your summoner spells are just worth more than your life, a lot of the time. So if you're trying to use that same level of energy that you brought to in lane, which is why people find it hard, because in lane you play super aggressive for the 1v1, running people down. If you do that exact same thing past 14 minutes and get ganked and lose both your sums, now you don't have flash till 19 minutes. The game's just ruined. You need to be really aggressive in lane, but then it's like a switch. Now in side lane, I'm really careful. I'm tracking the jungle. I don't want to push too hard. And people really, really struggle with that because from their point of view, I'm 3-0. I need to push my lead. And then boom, die to a gank or lose sums and the game's just ruined. I think that's the main reason why players lose so much on this champ.
So you actually don't think it's a lot of the time lane problems? A lot of the time people can get ahead, no worries, because the champ is just one of the strongest laners in the entire game. It's more everyone falls apart in the big game with this champion.
Definitely. I think the reference points are very clear for Darius in lane. Bounce the way back, long trade. Run them down with Ghost. If you do long trades, you'll win. If you do short trades, you'll lose. I think a lot of players intuitively know that. You don't want to get 3 bleed stacks and walk away, right? You want to keep it going. But yeah, like I mentioned, in the mid game, they do the exact same thing in lane copy paste, and you're going to get heavily punished.
I feel like by the sounds of things, because he has such clear reference points, he sounds like a pretty good champion to learn some solid lane fundamentals. Is he a champ that you recommend for people below Emerald for that reason?
I would say gold is a good starting point because the resource management can be tricky and people will just take trades by the enemy tower, which means you can't get long trades. So I think from gold to challenger, amazing champ. He's one of the only old school champs left that are good in challenger games. He's not pushed out by the new dogs. So I think, yeah, he's an amazing champ to start because you can just keep him going till Chell. It's not like Garen where it's like, oh, only Garen 1 tricks for life can play him. I think a lot of players can play Darius to a Chell level if they put him in their pool.
So what makes that just confuses me? That's crazy to me that you could, because like obviously there's that guy, that European guy, right? Raider, is that his name?
Yeah, he's so good, man. I've versed him a few times recently.
So what makes him so good with Darius? How is Darius able to be played to a challenger level?
Right. So I versed him actually a couple of days ago, and I just think there are a couple of things. First one, he's super consistent. He very rarely dies to ganks or overcommits in team fights or a side lane. So he's a low-def Darius player, which is really important because Darius is actually one of the best top lane champs in the game at level 16, 3 items. He scales amazing.
Wow.
Strong early, dog shit mid-game, amazing late game. Because you just reset off one guy, some idiot, some Nautilus that hooks in, and just pentakill their whole team. So when I play against Raider, it's like he's very consistent. It's even hard to get ganks involved. And his micro is on another level. He plays Darius very elegantly, going back to that word, where he's sort of spacing. Because a lot of Darius players will right-click you, pop Ghost, and sit there bare, take their hand off the mouse and keyboard. But he's sort of kiting in and out, not losing any time. Because the bleed stack actually lasts a while. You don't have to stack 5 bleeds as fast as you can. You can auto W click away with Ghost, kind of do the stanky leg, come back in, get your third one. You don't need to rush into it. So he's very, very elegant like that. And yeah, just for the micro level and minimizing mistakes, I think it sort of separates him from the rest.
So does Darius want so it's interesting because Korean solo queue, obviously Raider went to Korea and he got really, really high rank. He's originally though from EU, right?
Yep, rank 1 EU. Yeah.
Rank 1 EU. So what we've got is a commonality between, obviously EU and challengers. The games are maybe a little bit faster than maybe some other servers, maybe even that of like NA. Would you say that when you've worked with Darius players across, in the TLA from all these different servers, does Darius perform better on certain servers than others or not really?
I think it's pretty similar. I think in my head, Korea should be the hardest because the range top players are way better, but they still manage to make it work. So there's definitely things you can do.
Okay.
Yeah, Darius is just a funny one because, yes, as you said, it's not clear the mid game because you're not a split pusher.
No.
But you can ruin team fights.
You're a fighter.
Like I can see how the narratives form with like Darius players, especially, ones that I might be seeing when I'm coaching some junglers, like some Darius on their team, like Platinum. Like they get, what I see in the game is they know, a lot of I find they know not to split push. So they come and team fight. They bomb the team fight and they just sit in the side lane for the rest of the game and just lose the game.
Yeah.
Like their narratives, their playstyle just adapts based on just one play. Like, so how do you deal with people that just get really, a lot of people just give up on Darius? Like, what's your experience?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think Darius is the biggest champ where there's like this one hurdle that makes the most people quit him, where if you get over it, and the hurdle is sort of playing into range comps, I would say. A lot of people really enjoy Darius at the start, playing up against melees, beating up Garen players, and then they start versing Vaynes and Teemos and Quins, and they just give up because it requires you to develop pretty high-level micro, and that's not intuitive, right? It's not intuitive as just hooking someone and running them into the dirt. You have to kind of walk as a wide arch, click back, click forward, that type of thing. It's a hard skill for people to develop, and in team fights, I think the biggest issue I see is they just think they're engaged, like they're 4-0 flash hooking the backline. But it's actually better to play Darius more like a front-to-back champ, more like a Cassante, like a peel tank almost. Where you just sit there in front of your carries, not behind them, in front of them, because you're still front line. And then anyone that goes in, enemy Lee Sin, enemy Nor, anyone, you just reset. Or if your team goes in, you follow them up. But you're not the engaged, so don't go in first. You just need one guy. It doesn't matter who it is. You don't need to focus a 5-0 AD carry. Just kill the 0-2 Nautilus with your ulti, and then pentakill everyone. But yeah, a lot of players pop the Ghost, pop the flash in. And probably what you're seeing in your games, Nathan, is they do that early team fight when AD carries are running around with noon quivers and they're useless and they're doing well. And then late game when everyone has 3 items, if you flash in, you're going to die straight away.
They go into AD carry, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. That's instead of hitting the tank supports. Yeah, that's a huge, just unintuitive thing for just a lot of people is that just killing the tank supports is sometimes the best way to just win a lot of fights, even though they're 0-10, because you get the kill so quick and then you guys can all come back and go for like another boxing round, a second round of like all your cooldowns back up.
But another thing that's really...
sorry to cut you off there, but it's more like if you kill anyone with ulti, your passive procs.
Oh, it's the reset. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And late game, you get so much AD. I think someone calculates like 8,000 gold of AD, something crazy, something disgusting. And then you just Q flash in, Q flash ulti, and Q flash out will kill anyone, level 16, pretty much. So it just gets insane.
So another thing that I've noticed with Darius is that if you think about what you've just described, in order to push the ranks with Darius and deal with these ranged top laners, you need to really invest in like playing a more elegant iteration of Darius. But think about the actual archetype of the champ's identity. You're like this like bruiser fighter thing. This Chad. Yeah. And the type of player personalities that are drawn to a champion like that of maybe like a Garen or a Darius. They're a very different type of person that is drawn to like a Yone or like a Fiora or a Camille. Whereas those kits are a lot more intuitive to like be elegant with your trading. You know what I mean? So that's what I found with a lot of players is you get coaching, same in the Midland Academy. There comes a point in every champion's journey where you do need to become elegant with your trading. And some players who have a background in those more sophisticated mechanical champions, that's very intuitive. You get that. It makes sense. But I'm really putting myself in the shoes of a Darius player that they're getting to a coaching session. They're in like high emerald or diamond 4, and then you're talking about spacing and kiting and all like, tethering and all these things. And the Darius player is like, fuck, that's not what I signed up for. I thought I could just, bash some heads.
Yeah.
And that's, I feel like the painful experience of a lot of champions in League of Legends.
Yeah, definitely. They just want to run people into the dirt the whole game. And then when they try that at 15 minutes, lose both their sums. They're like, what's going on here? Why can't I 1v2 inside?
If this episode is getting you excited about learning League of Legends, our We Teach League Academies are going to be perfect for you. In the ranked achievements, we are getting over 70 results a week. People not just climbing one division, even multiple divisions. There's a link in the description below to check it out and to join the academy. We'll see you in there. Okay, next up is Sion. 6% pick rate and a whopping 52% win rate, one of the highest on the current patch. Is this another case of a champion that I personally off roles have second role Sion, and I can win a lot of games, even in Grandmaster Challenge, even though I am not a good top laner at all. What do you think about Sion?
Yeah, I think Sion's a champ where you're never really the lose condition. Because even if you die, you just kill the wave. You're always in a relatively decent spot. And even if you're 0-3, 5,000 HP, you're going to be useful. I think that's a big part of it. Is like there'll be games where you play badly but still get to win more often than, Fiora, if you're 0-5, you've ruined the game for your team, no matter how good they are. But on Sion, I think a lot of players that play him are mains as well. Again, I don't really see many people that casually play him. I recommend they do. I think it's a good champ to have in your pool. Let's say you're going back to our Darius example, you're a Darius main, and they pick some like Teemo or something, just go Sion with Comet and just run him down. You're going to win the lane. So I think he's a good champ to have in the back pocket and definitely one of the better champs in solo queue at the moment. A better tanks, sorry.
So what makes Sion such a niche champion? You're talking about why do not many people play Sion, do you think?
I think we're going to say the word elegant all day, but going back to that, you need to actually play the spacing quite well. Because if you think about it, your E, your W, your Q, they're all range abilities. So if you just sit there fighting people that have Conqueror or Lethal Tempo, you're going to lose. You need to play that range advantage, and there's little things you can do, like hit the Q, get in your grass border and click backwards, where a lot of Sions, they stay there and get retraded onto. I think that's not intuitive for people. And also, resource management's tough as well. You will go if you use your abilities poorly, and people hate running out of mana.
So builds. There's so many builds with Sion, right? You've got the Bow Special. You've got, Tiltarella in our server. There's just a trillion Sions with different builds. So for people that are just looking to play Sion as just like second, third champion in their pool, what is like the most archetypal kind of approach to Sion, would you say?
Yeah, typically I like half tank, half damage. So you do a tank item, then Titanic Hydra. I think that's the best solo queue build because you're still super tanky, but you also have a lot of threat and damage as well. So like Unending Despair Titanic or Hollow Radiance Titanic, and then just whatever tank item you need. I think that's the stock standard. I think the AD builds like Lethality are quite terrible and just for content. But yeah, you can squeeze in some damage items like Titanic, it's fine. That's what I'd recommend, like a mixture of both.
So what are the common mistakes with Sion players? Right, so let's say they get through, because it sounds like to me what you're saying, lane phase is actually not too bad for a lot of people. It's more so mid-game, am I wrong? Or
I actually think lane phase is important. I mentioned that it's hard to be the lose condition, but you want to be the win condition in solo queue. So you have to do quite well in your lane. But a lot of people, when they play tanks, they're like, oh, I'm a tank. Let me just chill and kind of do nothing almost and just go even. But Sion is really strong in lane, especially level 5 onwards. You can obliterate a lot of champions. You have so much poke, and ERQ can just kill anyone that's 60% HP. So you have strong poke, strong all in. So you should be playing for advantages. I think one thing as well that people really struggle with is making plays with the ulti. If you base a level 6 ulti bottom, double kill, TP back top, the game's over.
Yeah,
it's a free win. You know, ulti mid, ulti bottom, really, really good. So people either over roam and lose 3 plates for no reason, or not roam at all. So I think it's just, that's not an intuitive skill to look at the situation and be like, if I ulti him, they will die. Or if I ulti her, they'll flash away and it's not worth my ulti. It's like really hard to read.
So would reviewing your ultis or your kind of your lull state, your transition periods be a big learning objective that you set for Sion players?
Yeah, I definitely love every time you're basing, use that lull state. They have free time to look at the map and be like, can I look mid? Can I look bottom? And actively decide this looks good, I'm going. Because if you make that decision, this looks good because of this, and you go and it doesn't go well, that's going to stick in your mind. You're going to be really aware of it for next time. But if you're just kind of vibing and just ulting off cooldown or not ulting at all, you'll never develop that skill.
And so how would you compare Sion to like the other tank roster in top lane, like the Malphites and all that? Do you think Sion, is it a harder champion, like a higher skill cap? Where do you put Sion in the tank roster? What's your thoughts?
He might be the second hardest tank after Cassante, if I thought about it. Easy to play, second hardest to master, that type of way. But I think he's the second best tank in the game after Cassante. Really, really strong. The problem with him is you are just a full tank champion with relatively low threat. Of course, if you hit the ulti on the Jinx, like she's going to die, but that's not realistic. Normally, people will block your ulti. So you are a bit more team reliant than maybe an engaged tank would be, like a Zac or something.
All right, next up we have Jayce, 6% pick rate, and not surprising at all here, a negative win rate. Not as negative as I would think, 49.7%, still higher than Darius. Jayce, the famous Jayce. Obviously, he's a champion that the idea of playing Jayce is great. What do you think about Jayce practically?
So Jayce is one of the best top lane champs in the game at the moment. He has been for a while. I don't know if it's much to do with, I think it's partly the meta, but also just the average play of league, average skill of league players get better every year. So 10 years ago, everyone sucked at Jayce, and now there's just so many good ones running around. And this champ's just really, really good at the moment. Big reason why the win rate's so high.
So what makes Jayce... Okay, so Jayce has obviously been, the center of a lot of controversy over the years. There's been memes on, I got a Jayce off, I'm just going to lose the game. They're going to be versing like a Malphite, and we just like insta lose. So when you're coaching the average Jayce, what mistakes are we seeing? What do Jayce players typically get good at as well? What skills does a Jayce typically develop?
I think the big starting point where Jayce became really good, really popular was people running Grasp on him. So that fixed his issue. Jayce's one weakness was no sustain, right? Pretty much, and vulnerable. But with Grasp, you were quite tanky, and people would build Shojin, and there was even unending Despair builds back then. So that's what made him popular, and then people just got good at him and kept playing him. What I see from students is the biggest issue they have is making it too volatile. Jayce, we're going to say elegant every champion, but you need to stay full HP. You need to doesn't matter what matchup you're in. You chip away them, you stay healthy.
Small wins.
Small wins. But because Jayce has Hammer Cube, I swear he just takes over my student's mouse and just flies on in. Because if you just stay in range form, get them 1 HP, and then hammer form in, or even just keep them stuck under tower, bleeding forever, that's the ideal way to play him. Because if you're both low, you're going to die to a gank, or you're going to get flashed on. You need to stay full HP, and that requires pretty high level spacing.
I've always viewed Jayce as like a pretty insane scaler, to be honest. And like I feel like a lot of Jayce players, like you just said there, they think, I've got this range advantage. I want to keep shitting on these guys, and then they maybe die to a gank, or they just tunnel vision in the 1v1 or whatever the hell it might be. And a big like thing that I've said to a lot of Jayce players is just, you should see what it feels like to get to like 2 items with 10 CS per minute.
Yeah.
Like just what, even if you're missing other opportunities, like what does it feel like to get to that point? How do you view Jayce's scaling, like relative to maybe some of the top players?
No, you completely nailed it. The number one reference point in my Jayce guide is just, don't play Jayce trying to shit on your opponent. Just play him getting 10 CS per minute, not dying to gank. You should think more about CSing and jungle tracking than obliterating your opponent. Then, when you have that foundation, you can do that 9 out of 10 times, then start pressuring your opponent really hard. Because the champ does scale well. You spike really hard, clearly on items. You have a lot of good poke and front to back damage. I don't think it's a champ anymore. Where back in the day, I think the build was like Bork, Black Cleaver or something, where if you don't get a lead, you are completely dirt useless. You don't need to do that anymore. You can just have really good farm and 0 deaths, and you'll consistently win most of your games.
What is the build at the moment for Jayce top?
Normally Ghostblade, Manamune, Shrouders, but there's one as well where they do the say a red lethality item that they changed recently.
Full take.
Yeah, that one. You do that as well.
Yeah.
So like Ghostblade Voltaic for like a one-shot build. But yeah, the standard one's always going to be Ghostblade Shrouders. But you can into Kasate go Black Cleaver with Grasp and Malphite. Remember back in the day, if they had Malphite, you had Jayce, instant loss, no mercy. But now if you take Grasp, it's actually favorable for Jayce at the top level. So yeah, you have a lot of options there, but mainly Ghostblade.
Yeah, it's funny. I always see the scariest Jayces that I verse are the ones that have 10 CS per minute, are insanely farmed. But a lot of the time in the solo queue game, as you said, Chippies, I'm thinking about it when you said volatility, they might get some kills, like some trades back, but like they're done. They're like 3-3 or maybe like 4-3 or whatever after like the lane phase or early mid game. And I always just have this number in my head of like seeing a Jayce top lane like 130 or 140 farm at 20 minutes. I just always just see that if I press tab.
Yeah, and their defense though, you are playing Rex side. There's not much they can do.
That's true.
Exactly
No. I was saying that for like my students. And when I play as a Jayce,
right.
it's an 80 at farm at 200 at 20 minutes.
Nice.
Okay. Any other comments? So do you recommend Jayce to people? Sounds like you're quite hot on Jayce at the moment here, Chippies.
I'd say Emerald Plus. I'd recommend him Emerald Plus. I think before that, the difficulty is just too high. You're going to fail spacing, get killed by Garens, by Setts, by Darius's. But Emerald Plus, they start to get better spacing.
Is Jayce a champ that you need to OTP, or can you have it in a pool?
You need OTP at the start, but then when you get that foundation, you can have it in a pool for sure.
All right, next up is the dreaded Teemo. 6% win rate. Pretty much dead even. Sorry, 6% pick rate and dead even win rate, 50%. Teemo, what do people talk about Teemo in the top lane academy? Do people play Teemo to actually improve, or is Teemo more of just a champion, just be annoyed against all the proper top laners that want to play the proper champions?
This one's so interesting to me. I think Teemo's biggest problem, he just has a bad reputation. No one wants to play him because it's just a hated champ, just by design. But I actually think this is the best range champ from Iron all the way to the Challenger. Like not every rank, I mean the only one you could play through all those ranks. And I think it's good. I think he's the best range champ for an Iron guy to climb to Chal with. I think it's really good to learn that. He's really good in lane. He pretty much loses no matchups. Right now, he's really broken too because of Static Shiv. If you hit the tower, it's going to one-shot the wave and poke them. It's very, very cringe diverse. I actually think this champ's here really good for learning that range top spacing fundamental with. But of course, in tier lane, it's Teemo. We hate him. No one wants to see it. So I have very few Teemo students, actually.
So Teemo, over time, I feel like, again, it's typically an OTP champion. You don't see a lot of people casually play Teemo, or at least in my solo queue games. If it's a Teemo player, it's a hardcore Teemo player. Is that something, do you think, is that because Teemo is actually got a very high skill cap and a lot of people are drawn to that? Or is it just more like, again, it's just the psychopath Teemos that just want to play Teemo and they're just an outlier in the community?
I actually think, I wouldn't say this for many champs, but it's the second one where only psychopathic Teemo one-tricks want to play him. But I think someone that's good at Jayce and Kennen could play Teemo with no problem. That'd be perfectly fine. They just don't want to, which is, again, that bad reputation.
So how does a Teemo win a game? Walk me through, because I genuinely... So I'm thinking Teemo, they have we all get it, has an oppressive lane, you have the blind, your range. Right? What's next? How does a Teemo go from that to killing the Nexus?
Yeah, that's probably the hardest part for sure. And there are two options. And normally during the early stages of the mid game, so maybe 15 to 20, you live in the jungle, right? Dragons up next, you're in top jungle, shrooms everywhere. You can stay invisible by like wolves with a shroom down. So when they start it, you make a pick on jungle, that type of thing. And just keeping the enemy top stuck under tower, especially with Static Shiv. It works really well. But then later on, of course, you can't just split push bottom and give Baron. You get it to the objective early, set shrooms everywhere, and then you try to kill them when they walk in. So you just pretty much play teamfights like a front-to-back AD carry, but you always need to get to the fight early and sort of set up shop.
So what are the big mistakes you see with Teemo players?
Teemo students, I think in lane just take too much damage. Again, like Jayce, they're just brute forcing, making it volatile when they should stay full HP, and not utilizing their stealth enough. Like, you can't die to a gank if you're just hidden in the bush. And then for mid-game, it's just having a bad read. They normally just group all the time and fight because they're not being creative. Like sitting in the jungle, hidden somewhere on a shroom, expecting support's going to come here to ward and hit my shroom and I'll kill them. That type of thing. It's not intuitive to learn. That's why I think mainly Teemo one-tricks learn them. again, I think good range top players could play him in lane really well, but they'd have to study some bots to learn what to do in the mid game.
I'll be honest, like speaking anecdotally, I could be completely fucking delusional here, but I am often more scared of a mid to late game Teemo than nearly any other champion on the roster. Like if a Teemo has gotten to mid to late game and they have control over the map, I genuinely have a mental block. Like it is so infuriating to close out a game versus Teemo because often their dueling is actually very frustrating a lot of the time. They're slippery as hell. Their shrooms do so much damage. Am I off here, or do you also find it difficult to deal with a good Teemo in mid to late?
It's just annoying to end the game because if you're trying to do an objective and one guy hits a shroom, all right, he has to base, we have to wait a bit, or he can shroom the mid lane to break the waves and stuff like that. That definitely makes it hard to win a game versus Teemo if he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, exactly right. It's not that like you can't beat it, but he will really make it annoying.
Yeah.
Very, very
exactly.
annoying.
I guess it's quite obvious talking through this why Teemo gets this really bad rep. It's just like one of the most annoying champions.
Stepping into a shroom is one of the most, as Charlie said in one of the previous episodes with Shaco boxes. It's like the sideshow Bob stepping on a rake and getting hit in the face. That's what it's like. That's what it feels like.
100%.
All right, next up is Aatrox. 6% pick rate here, 50.44% win rate, which surprises me, honestly. I just don't see Aatrox get results in my solo queue games. Maybe I'm off here. Talk me through Aatrox. Is Aatrox one of the hardest champs in the game for top?
I wouldn't say that. I think kind of middle of the pack difficulty. The problem with Aatrox is, the main problem, right? He's what I would call the most average top champ in the game right now. He's not good. He's not bad. The main reason why I just don't see why you'd ever want to play Aatrox is Ambessa is pretty much just Aatrox with like 200 years version, right? The Aphelios version. Just a better version in every way. There's very little scenarios where, okay, Aatrox actually looks better than Ambessa here. Ambessa is just the way better version than him. Spikes harder, better in lane. There's no real reason to play him anymore.
Yeah, because if you think about Aatrox, his identity, right, is like he was always traditionally the top laner that could like play with a range advantage, right? That's like what you kind of play like a poke champion in a way. You're tethering, you're spacing, you're keeping them at range. And that's what Ambessa does now. Ambessa does the exact same thing, but Ambessa has like, you know, one of the best ultimates in the entire game, right? And scales insane. So what do you think Riot need to do to bring Aatrox back to, you know, the forefront? Because Aatrox was a really popular champion back in the day, right? He was even competitive like every game. He was super, super popular. What does Riot need to do?
Yeah, I think he's just missing an item. If you remember back when Aatrox was king, first they had the Stride Breaker when they had the dash, if you remember how OP that was. Then Gore Drinker, then Duskblade. So he always had an OP item that he could abuse. Now he doesn't really have a great one. Like he builds Shojin or Sundered Sky first, which as a first item, that's kind of average. He doesn't have a juicy item. I think they just need to give him his niche back where he's like the ultimate drain tank, but he doesn't really heal that much compared to other champs anymore. So he doesn't really have a reason to pick him. But yeah, either buff his healing in some way or give him an item that he can actually build and enjoy.
So is Aatrox more of like when does he spike? Is he a mid game, late game? Like what is Aatrox? Is power spike like?
In lane level 5 is good. Probably in game level 9, 1 item's his best spike. Then 2 items it's like okay, and then he just sort of falls off. Where Ambessa has like a second awakening, 3 items, where 1 item's way stronger, 2 items good. So yeah, I'd say for Aatrox, probably 5 and 9 are the 2 big ones. And you're not on a clock, but you want to do as much as possible during that level 11, 1 to 2 item spike, while everyone else is weak. And if you don't, you're going to lose.
So is Aatrox a champ that you recommend people to learn for particular reasons? Like high elo, low elo, or is it just not really recommended by you anymore?
Yeah, pretty much never anymore, because below Emerald, I think using their range advantage and, you know, short trade mindset is going to be hard. And above Emerald, play a champion like Ambessa or a champion that's better, like Jax or something. So yeah, I don't think I've recommended him at all this past year, just because he's so average.
Does Aatrox have matchups that he like dominates? You like pick him to like counter a matchup, or is he just again average across the board? It's just about your skill.
Yeah, he doesn't really have hard matchups or doesn't have amazing matchup. Again, just the most average top in the game. He's pretty fine in most lanes. Of course, you'd rather not verse like a good Irelia or some range top players. But yeah, he does fine into range, fine into tanks, fine into bruises. He's just like a fine champ, but not great or not bad.
Well, his pick rate is very high. I mean, he's top 8, right? So there has to be a reason why people are picking him. And do you think, what's your hypothesis here, Chippies? Is it just because he looks cool and he's got a cool aesthetic? People haven't caught up on the whole outdated kit. Like, what's going on here with the community?
Yeah, so really cool aesthetic is a big one, and the kit feels really nice to play. It's very smooth and feels good to play. It's just enjoyable to play. Kind of like Jhin, where I think that champ's terrible, but pretty fun to play. The Aatrox is kind of the top lane version, and there's still a lot of long-term Aatrox players from back when he was the king, and they're just sort of waiting for him to bounce back.
Okay, well, we'll keep tabs on that.
Jax is up next, another OG old school champion with a 5% pick rate, and again, about even win rate, so just doing about average right now in Plat Plus. You just recently, you think, finished a Jax guide not long ago. Is that right, Chippies?
Yep, up yesterday.
Yeah, literally went up yesterday. So, yeah, walk me through that guide process, I guess. You know, what do you see with Jax players? What should people learn? Whether there's some narratives around Jax people have?
Yeah, so Jax is probably the hardest champ with easy spells in top lane, I'd say. Like, the spells aren't complicated. Q, point, click, jump. W, and hard to order. Right? It's pretty straightforward, but using them is very difficult. It's not intuitive. Like, if you think about Garen, if you QE or R someone and W their combo, it's always going to be good. But Jax is like, no, sometimes you can't Q, you have to lead with movement. Sometimes you Q without Eing, but sometimes you E to preload your stun and then Q. It's like, it's very hard to teach. But with the basic guide, the main issues I run into that I really harped on is the first 3 waves. Because Jax, you actually have terrible wave clear. If you guys know how the E works, you need to absorb auto attacks for it to actually do any meaningful damage. So if you can't hit them, the minions aren't going to hit you, and it's really hard to crash a wave. And you have shit wave clear and shit sustain. So if your wave gets stuck outside the tower, you guys probably remember from your top lane journey what that feels like, the wave like half in, half out. As Jax, your Nexus just explodes. I always say that in review, like I pause it at wave 2, Nexus exploded, it's just over. Because if your wave's stuck, it's so hard to fix it. And your resources are going to run out because they're going to poke you while they're under tower. Your mana's going to run out as you desperately try to get it in, and then there's nothing you can do. So I always recommend top priority, cleanly crash wave 3 or wave 2, depending on the game, get the first recall off, maintain control. Because if you don't, you're just going to bleed out straight away.
It's really funny because our last episode we talked about complex champions, you put Jax in there, and a lot of the community got angry that you put Jax in the hard category. Is that because you're saying it's hard to teach? Or
it's hard to
like
teach
actually and play? Because people were saying it's like, oh, Jax is just super easy to play and it's super easy to, against it just looks like a ruffle stomp champion.
Yeah, Jax wins snowboard. I get why they feel that way, right? If you're an 80 carry main versus a 3-0 Jax, he's just going to like headbutt his keyboard and one-shot you and beat your head off. But in lane, you can imagine just thinking about playing Jax versus Jayce or Jax versus Teemo, even versus like a Garen. You have to execute extremely, extremely well. And the margin for error is like very small. Again, resource management being really hard. That's why I even recommend the basic guide. Just take Mana Flow Band at the start. Even though at the top level you want inspiration, just take Mana Flow Band because you're going to run in 3 seconds. And without mana, you can't play the game. So yeah, definitely, I get why people feel that way because a fed Jax is very, stompy. But getting to that point consistently is really hard.
I think Jax's kit is so odd to me. It sounds so basic, but it's just a kit that I feel like it lacks so much. Like like if you think about, okay, well, in my head when I think about like a lot of top laners, you're a top laner that either has like very clear like obvious trading patterns, but if you don't have obvious trading patterns, like it's easy for you to kind of like navigate and kind of scale. Whereas like, okay, think about Fiora and Camille. Their mobility is not really tied to jumping on a specific thing. They can just kind of dash, which is huge. Yeah. Their trading patterns are, I think, a lot more, even though there's a lot of skill expression, I feel like they're a lot more intuitive. Whereas like Jax is like, you got no wave clear. Your mobility is tied to jumping onto something. You kind of need to you kind of want them to fight you to kind of get value from your E. And like how you use, like how your kit can interact into every other champion is like incredibly overwhelming. It seems like it would be a champion that would really, really require like advanced matchup understanding. Am I wrong there?
No, that's perfect. I always say Jax has the hardest matchup spread in top, but not hardest in terms of like, oh, you lose so many lanes. It's more hardest in this matchup, you have to play it this way, but in that matchup, you have to play it that way. There's a lot of nuance and different ways to play. Where again, on Jayce, if you're full HP and chipping away your opponent and have good farm, you're going to be fine in any matchup. right?
Yeah.
But Jax, like the way you trade is very, very hard. And if you don't know it, you're going to get poked out, stuck under tower, bleeding. And yeah, you don't want to be running around with a phage at 12 minutes. You're going to be completely
You know what it reminds
useless.
me of? It actually reminds me of the Silas of mid lane. That's what it reminds me of, where it is a good champion, but every matchup plays out so differently because of how your kit interacts with so many different kits. And it's a champion that typically draws a particular type of player where, like, again, that you need to put a lot of time into it. You need to really develop a lot of mastery. And people do have a mental block. So, like, oh, there's a Silas who has, they pop off in this game and they snowball. But getting to that point is not easy to do. And there are ways to simplify it. You can simplify your approach, but how you play your first few games on the champion is going to, like, hence why we've done the structure of the guide, beginner, intermediate, and advanced, right? How a beginner Jax is going to navigate the lane versus an advanced is polar opposite. But yeah, it's just a very, very misunderstood champion, I think, in the league community.
Definitely. I'm going to throw a student under the bus a little bit. I'm not going to name him, but we have a student who got to, I think, Diamond 3, Diamond 2 of Irelia. So, of course, really good. He's playing one of the hardest champs in the game. Really good understanding, but he tried to pick up Jax. He's struggling in plat games on him because the champ is super unintuitive to play. It's just not clear what to do. Where on Irelia, even though the mechanical skill is way harder, it's pretty intuitive. Give 4 stacks, take long trades. It's going to be good. But yeah, the reference points is such a big thing.
Wow, that's insane.
Okay,
so why should people I want you to now be a Jax salesman for a second, right? Why should people play Jax? Why is he a cool champion to play? And what could you learn playing Jax?
Yep, so Jax is one of the best solo queue champs of all time, which means every season you're probably going to be A tier, sometimes S tier, right? So it's always going to be a really good solo queue champ, and the skill ceiling's really high. So you're always going to be able to develop and get better and better at him. Another thing is, I love the flexibility of him these days. You're probably seeing like the Dusk and Dawn AP build. There's like 4 rune pages you can take. And one thing I really like about him, back in the day, Jax with like the old Shojin where it reset your cooldowns, or like Blade of the Ruined King, you're like a Tryndamere, right? Just full split pusher. When you think of Jax back in the day, the modern day Jax is, I call him the perfect 5 in terms of the scale of team fighting and split pushing. He's amazing at team fights. You just get so tanky with ulti now. And he's really good at split pushing too, which gives you a lot of options. If you're fit and your team sucks, you can carry fights or you can win through side lane. That gives you a lot of options in the game. So players that don't like being one-dimensional will really love Jax.
So what rank do you start to recommend Jax?
I'd say gold is a good minimum because, again, you're just going to get obliterated by silver and bronze Garens and stuff like that because your resource management's going to be so poor. So gold is a good minimum. So yeah, gold all the way through to gold to master is a good place to start him. I wouldn't want to start in GM or challenge versus some challenger Jayce or Ambessa and just get obliterated. So yeah, between gold and master is a good starting point.
Okay, next up we have Gangplank, who's looking S tier right now in terms of win rate, 5% pick rate. GP, I don't see this in my games at all, or the students
it's
that
actually
I
a high pick rate as well. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
5%.
Yeah, it does surprise me.
Yep.
Where are we at with GP?
Why is Gangplank good right now, by the way, with win rate?
Yeah, so the Deathfire rune's really good on him. That just got put in the game. So he's kind of back there, yeah. Because
well, didn't actually that get nerfed, didn't it? A little bit? Because now it does magic damage. Does that not matter for GP?
It'll matter a little bit, but yeah, not as much. So definitely, he's a champion where I call him similar to the Katarina of mid, where you can't trust the win rate completely. Because everyone that plays Gangplank is like 500 games plus, right? So it's only for sweater one tricks. And the pick rate is because they're playing it so much, I guess. But yeah, I think this champ's in a pretty good spot at the moment, maybe around A tier. And yeah, just scales extremely well. Lane is pretty strong. There are definitely some hard matchups. And one problem you'll run into is kind of before level 13, you're a little bit of a shit stain in team fights. That's when your barrels get really quick. But when you are level 13 plus, of course, champ's just insane.
So it's just it's a very archetypal, minimize early type scale, mid to late. Right?
Yeah, I think he can be a lane bully in a lot of matchups. The kind of formula is you pressure level 1 with barrels, and then after that you kind of stabilize, get to Shen, and then with Shen you can start to bully pretty much any melee champ in the game. And back in the day, you'd probably think of like Jayce as a famous counter to Gangplank, but these days there's just so much sustain in the game with like D-Shield, Second Wind, and all that. You can do well in those matchups too, because if you get 1 or 2 barrels on Jayce, like we mentioned, Jayce needs to be full HP. He's really going to struggle.
So what's the weaknesses? I mean, the way you're describing GB sounds like he's
It's like the best
broken,
champ in the game.
right? So
Yeah, true.
what are the downsides of GP? Why do people? I mean, it sounds like you're not recommending him a lot. Why is that?
Yeah, it's just the difficulty. It's the main barrier, right? If everyone was good, like if Gangplank was easy, I think everyone should play him, but it's just so difficult. You have to play 500 games minimum, and even then you're still not going to be that good at the champ, to be honest. So I just think, difficulty is the main barrier for entry.
What makes him difficult?
So again, that range spacing element to it, but you're like a full melee champion. You're not a fake range like Ambessa, who 4 of her abilities are range. It's like just your barrel and Q, but you want to get proccing and passive as well. Again, make it elegant with the barrel slow, with your movement speed from passive, weaving in and out, and pressuring all that while surviving ganks. Really, really hard. I also think, similar to Jackson away, the matchup spread you need to have advanced knowledge on too. It's not, just Q people and barrel in every matchup and you'll be fine. It's like there's a lot of nuance to that as well. Again, adding to that difficulty.
Interesting. So what sort of things do you, when you work with GP players in the TLA, what are some things that you end up focusing your attention on in reviews?
I think their barrel placement is always the biggest issue, because when I verse, there's some good gameplay one tricks in Korea. They're barreling in a way where it's like, if I farm, I'm going to get shit on. If I go on him, he's going to insta barrel while I'm in midair. It's impossible. And that barrel
it's like the threat of the barrel, right? You just they hold the barrel there,
Yeah, where the Gangplank shoots will just double barrel off cooldown, then they've got none left, because your opponent can see how many barrels you have. So they can play the game if you only have 1 or 0, right? So you have to be really on point with that. And just the spacing element as well. Very, very difficult. And doing all that while surviving ganks. I'm going to bring it back to that. Gangplank students love dying to ganks. That's a big issue.
So it sounds like a lot of lane, a lot of trading, matchup stuff, a lot of like fundamentals, and that's where you're living most of the time. You're not really getting into the weeds and mid game as much with GP, you would say.
Yeah, I mainly focus on lane, and mid game team fighting is quite important because you're not split pushing. You're just farming as quick as you can to level 13. And in team fighting, this applies to lane as well. You have to be good at the barrel mini game. When you miss Gangplank, it's just a barrel mini game. Whoever's better at hitting the barrel, right? And in team fights, it can be pretty difficult as well to not get your barrel cancelled by like a Caitlyn or something. And then in lane, you have to be, kind of roughly know the auto attack speed of the champ you're versing. I think, it just makes it very, very hard.
Hey everyone, Charlie here, TPing in with a special announcement to interrupt your top lane episode. Now, you may have seen Curtis wearing this lovely, interesting t-shirt today. This is the first ever We Teach League merch drop. Now, we have partnered with a local artist here in Melbourne, Microsoft Paint artist, Mikey Angelo, and he's made this lovely Nathan riding Nunu t-shirt. Shout out to Alex B from the Bot Lane Academy who made the GIF that has inspired this t-shirt. Now, this is a limited drop. It's only available for about a week. It goes out of sale on June 7th, Sunday at Eastern time at midnight, and then it's gone forever. So if you do want this t-shirt, jump in the description. There's a link there, and then you can have this beautiful piece of art.
Okay, so we've gone to the best champ in the game to now the worst champ in the game here in terms of win rate so far. Renekton, 5% pick rate, 48% win rate. Is Renekton just in a rough spot right now? Has this always been the case for Renekton?
I think he's above average, to be honest. He's not in a rough spot. The problem with Renekton, for the average player, you have to be really good at speeding up the game. Because you are the best champ at the game from level 6 till your 2-item spike. And that means you need to get a lot of work done. But, players in solo queue probably use it too. Maybe less so for jungle, more so for mid, but it's like, they're just playing, They're just pushing, team fight, I'll take it. Flank mid, maybe I'll take it. But they're not making their plays happen. They're not strongly pinging. They don't see their jungler on Gromp and they're like, what are you doing? Get to Dragon right now. Assist me. And that's a skill. You need to be the bus driver, is what I call it on Renekton. You can't just sit at the back of the bus and win games on him.
Yeah, and that's a skill for a lot of people, I would just say in League of Legends holistically, taking control of a game.
It's really intimidating.
It's hard, right? To use your mole states and be like, you know what, Dragon's coming up in 60 seconds, guys. Let's get excited. Let's wake up. Let's stop, walking back to lane. My team's going to randomly be taking a fight and I'm just jerking off under a top tier 1, right? You need to be at these fights. And it's a skill that a lot of people are very intimidated to develop. So it sounds like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Chippy, that a lot of people seem okay in lane. It's more like they're getting ahead and just not translating. So translation of leads, is that a big part of the conversation?
Yeah, most of them can win lane well. The reference points are clear, like 1 to 2 kind of chill. Level 3, really broken. Level 6, best champ in the game. But yeah, being the bus driver is so intimidating because they don't know what the best call is. So they're scared to make a call that could be wrong. They're really scared to get flamed or pinged or whatever, or just lose the game from their own decision. They would rather their team get caught out and they lose 5-1 and, kind of on the high horse a little bit.
Yeah, that's better. Like Passenger, as you're saying, you're not going to win games being a Passenger as Renekton.
I think Renekton is an excellent champion for learning top.
Yeah.
Right? Would you tend to agree with that?
There are some, like we mentioned with Garen, there are some rules you can, like having no mana and insane wave clear just means that you don't have to be as good at like wave control and stuff. But for learning trading, especially, that's really, really important, definitely. A really good champ to use for that.
But also winning the game. I just feel like a top laner that could I mean, I might be delusional here, but like I'm thinking of a Renekton, a player that is good at Renekton and knows how to win a game with Renekton. By default, in my eyes, it just has to be a pretty good top laner because they understand, okay, well, like I like how to pressure the map, how to actually have your presence felt, and obviously they need to obviously have a competent lane and trade well to kind of get into a good position. So even though, they might be rough around the edges with, I guess resource management and maybe wave management, whatever. I don't know. I just feel like I don't see many bad, good Renektons. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I agree in theory, but I think the reality is for top laners, they're not going to make those calls until at least Emerald Plus, probably even Diamond.
Yeah, probably biased. Yeah, true.
Yeah. But in theory, like if you're in Platinum or Emerald as Renekton, try your best, like bus drive, call people where to go, because if you don't, you're going to lose the game. You want to have as many fights as possible, while mid and AD carry champs are just dog shit useless with their Ludens and their Noon Quivers, because when they have Def Cap and IE, you're just going to get killed, right? You need to be the bus driver. And it's a good champ to learn that, because if you don't, you're not going to climb.
Do you comfortably win lots of matchups in lane as Renekton?
Yeah, I would say so. There's some, like he's a champ that does well into pretty much everything. Doesn't love range, but if you get onto the range level 6, you're going to win. I think, you'll win most of your matchups, I would say. Especially if you follow the reference point. Some Renektons throw lane level 1, because level 1 you're actually weak. Because people think, Renekton lane bully, let me shit on them from level 1. But Renekton, his kit makes a lot of sense, right? You need the dash down, dash away, or you're going to get run down by Darius's or Olaf's or something. They're level 3-6. If you play those cleanly, you'll probably win most of your matchups.
I see. So you need all 3 abilities unlocked. Yeah, it's the same with Udyr with like his, he needs 4 abilities for like his kit to all work together because you need to be able to get your passive down and have all 4 stances. So yeah, I guess that seems like quite a common narrative, because I do see Renektons get first blooded so many times in my games. It's like, he's like level 2 or level 1 or like the heavy shot. I'm like, that doesn't seem right.
Yeah, again, bringing it back to players struggle on champs that are good at short trading and long trading. The Renekton versus Sion, you can long trade. Renekton versus Olaf, you have to short trade. But even some matchups, you short trade until level 6, and then you long trade. So it's like, there are some patterns there that it's quite hard to learn.
And are you recommending Renekton to people?
I'd say definitely Emerald Plus is like the best starting point for him. Even Platinum is fine. But below Gold, no. Because if you're in Silver or Bronze, you're not going to have the fundamentals of like wave control, back timer. How do I expect you to shock call and 1v9 the drive the bus there where you don't have your license?
So is it a champion that, again, is more of like a niche counter pick? Should it be a core duo? Like, how do people have Renekton inside of a pool?
I think, it's good to have as a secondary or third champion. Picking with AP junglers, like Nathan will probably agree, if you're Elise or something, you have a Renekton or Nidalee Renekton. Yeah, it feels amazing. Even champs that aren't like skill shot based, like Renekton Karthus, just feels good. Champs like that. So picking them with AP jungle, and Chris is not going to like this, but anytime you see a melee mid, Renekton's just broken. If you're Chris playing Yasuo, I'm going to play Renekton, right? Yasuo, Yone, it's just so hard for them to play into Renekton.
I think Renekton has a really good win rate in mid lane right now, by the way.
Really?
Yeah.
I know a lot of people complain about like these top laners invading mid lane. Yeah. Garen mids, Renekton mids, Shen mids, Riven, like just all this bullshit.
Yeah, so Riven mid.
Get out, please.
Riven mid's popping off right now.
Riven mid? Yeah. Get out of my games.
All right, next up we have another one of our tanks, K'Sante. 5% pick rate, dead even 50% win rate in Platinum Plus. K'Sante's a tank top laner. Obviously he is very famous for having the most overloaded kit in the game. A bit of a meme. What do you think about K'Sante?
Yeah, I hate this. This champ's just unbalanceable. I think this is probably their worst. I think Riot does a good job in like balancing the game and champ design. This is their worst design champ of all time. I think it's impossible to make it balanced. Right now, it's probably the best they're going to do, where he's pretty good in high ranks, so probably GM Chell, and lower than that, he's terrible. So I hate this champ. I hate when students play it as well. I just think this champ is way too hard to execute, but you're a peel tank. So let's say you're an Emerald and you execute them well, you're a peel tank. How are you going to carry games and close out games as a peel tank? So it just doesn't make sense.
So give the viewers some context there. You said he's not good below GM, and it's a very specific rank here: Grandmaster and Challenger. What makes him effective in Grandmaster and Challenger games, and not effective below that?
So 2 main reasons. If you're a GM and Chal play him, you're going to have pretty insane micro, to be honest. And this champ requires really high lift, again, being elegant, but he's got a range advantage. He's got multiple forms of CC and mobility. So utilizing that to like poke people down without getting hit, without giving them any long trades. Because K'Sante, he'll lose long trades 1 to 5, but you can't actually long trade onto a good one. Because again, too much CC, mobility, poke. So you have to really squeeze out that advantage, that spacing minigame. Like the Q range is short, but it's still a range ability that you have to use. So I think that's quite difficult for people to really get the hang of. People see K'Sante and they're like, EWR, and try to one-shot people from full HP. But no, you have to be really, really on point with the spacing. And as well, he's a peel tank. So you want to have really good, if you're playing in Master, even if you're 3-0, if your AD carries 0-5, they're not going to play well. But in GM and Chell, the players are better and their mental is better too. So I think, yeah, you'd always rather have like stronger backline players, even if they're doing badly. Like you agree in Challenger, people try way harder than in Master. If you have a 0-6 Ashe that's not trying to win and you're 4-0 K'Sante, you're going to lose the game because you're a peel tank.
Interesting. I feel like the skill expression with K'Sante is nearly always, at least, I mean, I'm biased, I don't see them in lane, but it feels like they know how to get maximum value from the R. So I feel like the R is the X Factor ability for K'Sante, right? That's what makes the kit, you know, that's what I feel like gives it such a unique identity. So when you're reviewing high-level K'Santes, do you spend a lot of time on R usage in mid-game?
Yeah, definitely. I review team fighting mainly. I think the mid-game macro is straightforward. Like you're a tank, you're not split pushing. Some K'Sante students split push, so we have to fix that quickly. But yeah, team fighting is quite hard because you have really impactful abilities. Like your tank W and your R is like super, super impactful. So you can't use them poorly. You can't just W in Nautilus hooks in, then you don't have W, right? You need that threat. And if you are early, you get really squishy, so you're going to get one shot. And you don't, sometimes it's actually worse to R the AD carry out of the fight and kill them by yourself because then your team loses their tank. So yeah, it can be quite advanced in that way.
Yeah, I feel like K'Sante is, I mean, it kind of was their intention, right? From the very get-go. I think they said something like, we want a very skill-expressive kind of tank. And they probably knew, I think they even said, I might be butchering the quote, but like they wanted to have a very high, like a high elo, skill-expressive tank. And they kind of have done that in a way. But, you know, it's just one of those champions that I feel like is just forever going to be pro-locked, right? Challenger/pro play locked. And just not a good solo queue champion from what it looks like. I'm surprised it has the pick rate it does, to be honest. Why do you think people pick K'Sante so much? And even it sounds like you coach people in the TLA. What's the appeal, do you think?
Yeah, he's probably the most fun tank. I'm guessing why. Like when you think of tanks, Sion, Maokai, Ornn, it's like, I'm just a meatball with like pretty slow abilities. But K'Sante, it's kind of like Yasuo, right? You're quite fast. You've got mobility. Around. So it's just fun factor, I think, is the main reason.
Right.
Yeah, tanks shouldn't be fun. That's where Riot messed up. Like, why are they trying to make a fun tank? You're meant to be fat, slow, and mobile. It makes no sense. Exactly. Of course, that's going to be impossible to balance.
Yeah.
Yeah. If your coach picks you a tank and you're happy, something's wrong. It can't be like that.
Okay, next up we have Yorick, which does surprise me. Quite a good pick rate right now, 4.7%, dead even win rate. I love Yorick. I honestly love seeing Yorick's again, especially in lower ranks. Like, I'm like, that Yorick is just going to be a menace. And do you know how many questions I get in the Jungle Academy saying, Nathan, how do I deal with Yorick?
How do I deal with this Yorick?
And my answer a lot of the time is, there's not much you do. You've lost the game. You know, that's it. It's the best game of the game. Go next. Just losing piece. Like, why did he get fed in the first place?
All right, so I want to structure this. First of all, I want you to give us a walkthrough what Yorick's identity is, but I also want you to then talk about, like, what ranks is this champion effective and why?
So for the longest time, I thought this champ was terrible, but now that the meta shifted to heavy ranged, so unfortunately, top lane, really good champs right now is like Varus, Vayne, Jayce, a lot of these champs, and Yorick actually pretty much destroys all of them in lane. He's really, really good into range. So I think that's why he's so good right now. So if you're in lower ranks, you can play him into like Teemo and Quinn and you'll do really well. High ranks into Jayce. So I think that's his clear identity to me. at a high level, right? He's the ranged answer. Because he keeps Jayce stuck under tower in the mid game, he wins the lane against them, so he can make these ranged champs that usually have perma pressure quite useless. And the reference points are clear: 1 to 5, chill, level 6, keep them stuck under tower, and then just split push. But he can team fight too. I think a lot of Yoricks think they're, Tryndamere or Trundle or something, they just never group. But if you're fed on Yorick and you rock up to a fight, hit E on that backline, like you're going to get some work done too.
So what makes him so effective into ranged champions, Chippies?
So pretty much his non-committal trade pattern. So if you think about Jayce into Jax has to jump on you to do anything. So you're always going to get shit on the retrade. But Yorick can just go fishing, toss out knee, miss, all right, walk away, toss out knee, miss, walk away. And then when you hit it, you commit, put the cage up. So yeah, the E and the W, like caging a Varus or caging a Jayce, when they're poked down from E, you can play for kills and gank setup. So it's just a non-committal trade style. And he has a lot of sustain on his Q as well to make up for the poke the range champ will get onto you.
Interesting. Because back in the day, I feel like that was not his identity whatsoever.
Yeah, not at
I feel
all.
like back in the day, right, Yorick was considered like
like a
you played into
bruiser.
tanks or something,
Yeah.
wouldn't you?
Tank
I think it was
buster.
like a tank buster, right? You had a free lane into like a Sion or some shit, and then it scales out of control. So why is Yorick just not good into melees? Is that the consensus?
Some melees are good. Like if you blind pick him in verse Jax or something, you're probably not going to be too happy. He's okay into melees, but I wouldn't say it's worth it because you are way worse at team fighting. So I wouldn't, like, Yorick versus Renekton, you'd just rather have Renekton on your team. Way better at team fights, way stronger. But yeah, the ranged champion, like, their benefit is they're going to get pressure and do well in lane. But if Yorick can neutralize that, really effective. But yeah, I agree. I think he had a mini rework, which is why he shifted. And then it took people a few months to realize, like, oh shit, this champ beats all the meta champs right now. So that's sort of where he's at the moment.
So what ranks is Yorick effective in, Chibbies?
I think Master Plus is really good as a range answer, and lower ranks too. I don't want to be too technical. I think Gold and below he's really good, and then Master Plus he's good. Not quite as good in like Emerald Diamond, where team fighting gets really important and jungle supports get better at catching you, because then you have to get a better understanding. But it'd be fine. Like you could make him work there. I just think his best position would be the low ranks and the Apex tiers.
Because that lines up perfectly with what I see. Like there's a lot of like bronze and silver kind of people that complain about there's a fed Yorick in this game. Like they come to a review, take a look at this VOD. This Yorick's like 3-0, moving into mid game. They split push out of control, and there oftentimes isn't an answer. And what I say, you just got to try and group and team fight, right? Punish his bad team fighting. You know, if you can kill the maiden, kill it. But a lot of the time, it's kind of like Yorick is just very effective. Like split pushes in general that get ahead. Like even Tryndamere, I think, and these sorts of champions in like silver and bronze can be very annoying to deal with.
Yeah, split pushing is really powerful gold and below, and then you're not picking him for the split pushing and Master Plus. It's not split pushing is not good, but Master Plus everyone's playing meta abusing dogs on their Vaynes and their Jayces, so that's why he's really effective there.
Okay.
And what about the builds with Yorick? So like over the years, like I think that's part of why he's less of a tank buster now, because he like does full damage, right? Like a lot of the time, he's one shots these range like a lot of champions. Like the Yoricks, when I sometimes gank a Yorick, there's a point where I'm like, this champion's doing too much damage, and we're almost getting 1v2'd.
Normally just Triforce, keeping it standard. Just Triforce Rush. You can go Steraks if you need it, or Hullbreaker some games. Just pretty standard bruiser items. I don't like the lethality build that much. I think it's not real. Yeah, you're just too squishy.
I see. Was that a thing in the past though, or am I just thinking about it a couple of months ago? Lethality was really strong at some point, but now that's gone now. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's not that common. Now people just go Triforce.
Okay, next up we have Mordekaiser, which surprises me. Really struggling with win rate right now, 48%. I love Mordekaiser. What's going on with Mord?
I think Mord might just be a culprit of players getting better every year, because it's like very slow, easy to dodge skill shots. 4 years ago,
the range matters, right? The range top, surely that's contributing to it, right?
Yeah, he's one of the worst top lanes in the game in Master Plus by far. I think I put him like bottom 2 on the tier list, because you're just going to get obliterated by Vaynes and Varuses every game with no mercy. Nothing you can do about it. I think below Emerald, he's still good, so I still recommend him for below Emerald students, because you got that. You can still play for extended trades, and you've still got that poke. So it is nice in that way. And clear reference point like 6, you just kill them. But I think, it's just too easy to outplay in lane and team fights. That is just, that's why his win rate's so low.
I feel so bad for Mordekaiser, because I think Mordekaiser is such a cool kit, well designed, clear reference points, like
top lane champ.
It is a really great, just archetypal top lane champion. But just with the way the game has evolved, with like all these like top laners playing range shops and just like people are getting better mechanically. The kit just is a little bit too rigid. It's a little bit too one-dimensional. And that's where the game, and especially top laners, like top laners are typically very good mechanically. You have to over-index in your mechanics as a top laner. And I feel as though nowadays, like Mordekaiser is just, unfortunately, got a bit of an outdated kit.
Yeah.
Right?
I really like the champ because I always check the one tricks, like, come on, someone get challenges so I can make a video on it. But they're always like low master on Mord because the champ's just too weak. It's gone to the point now where players will build like Rockabout Rylai's. So then the Rockabout applies the Rylai's just so you can hit your E. It's like they're desperately trying to be a real champ. But yeah, again, below Emerald, don't let us pull you off. Still amazing to play there. One of the top 3
you can learn a lot of
champs.
fun. And you can definitely learn a lot of fundamentals with Mordekaiser. Like when we were doing work in the TLA, I will still stand by this. Like if you're a gold, platinum, silver top laner, doing a chample cycle of Mordekaiser is going to teach you a lot about wave management, knowing when you're strong and weak, like even thinking critically about your mid game, right? Getting to position early so you can kind of, rip out the jungler, things like that. There's a lot of really great habits that you can develop with that champion.
Definitely. And we talked a lot about in this episode where champs that are good at short trading and long trading are quite difficult. Mord's probably the easiest one to learn that skill on. Because you can just of course, EQ auto walk away or just a Q walk away. You know that's going to be good. But there's going to be times where you proc their passive and run them down the lane into the dirt. So I think if you want to learn that skill, if you struggle, if you're like a Zilean or something, you don't know when to long or short trade, Mord could be a good kind of training wheels for that.
Is he an R-reliant champion? Like, can you literally do nothing without R?
Yeah, pretty much. But the good thing about his R is not just like, I can kill this guy 1v1. You're ungankable with R because you just kill the jungler. So what I see students do wrong is they'll kill their lane with R and then they'll just play lane like normal. Like, I'm level 6, I'm fine. But R's on cooldown and then you get ganked because you have no escape. You're going to die to a gank without it. So yeah, he's extremely R-reliant.
All right, next up is Irelia. Looking S tier with win rate here, 52%. Surprising to me. Why is Irelia doing so well right now?
This is my least favorite champ to coach in the game. It's not even close. I think this is so hard. So win rate, again, she's a one-trick only champ. You're not going to see a Renekton guy whip out his Irelia for fun very often. So one-trick champ, win rates will always be a bit skewed, which is why I'm a win rate hater personally. But for Irelia, this is the hardest champ to coach in the game because it's just you're gonna make Irelia-specific decisions or mistakes, that lose you the game. Like so many times I'll see, their wave control looks good, their game plan's good. And then they Q a minion that's 5 HP too healthy, their Q drops, and they die, and now the game's over. Because Irelia is one of the hardest tops to play from behind in the game. But if you make a mistake, the mistakes are so like mechanically difficult to avoid that you're almost guaranteed to make one, almost every game you play in, unless you're like King or some crazy player.
Yeah, I feel like Irelia, same for me. It's one of my least favorite champions to coach in the mid-lane academy as well because you can't. I wouldn't say her early lane. She does have clear reference points in terms of when she's strong and weak. I do think that. I do think you kind of know what you want to do on Irelia. Like, like what sort of, what you're trying to look to do. But the actual execution is so heavy. The execution burden is so heavy that it's so painful as a coach because you're like, you got the right idea. Your attention is focused in the right places, but you've just missed your E here. Or you didn't W the right ability, or you did the wrong combo on this all in with your R, or you can't go for this all in here because you got no mobility because your mobility is tied to minions and things like that, or you don't have enough Q stacks. There's always something going wrong, and because you're so bad from behind, you're like a stat check champion with no utility that has to go in. Once you're behind, you're fucked. Right? And I think like it's one of those champions that it has immense skill expression. It can do a lot in the right hands, but it's just such a brutal learning journey. And I think you got to be kind of built different to want to OTP this champion.
Yeah, you have to have such a strong mental. I use that word as well. The burden of execution is just on another level. It's just crazy to me that your wave control, back time, everything can be perfect, but you just queue the wrong minion and you die, and now the game's over. I remember making the Irelia guide. I'd like die once to a Sett or something, walking back to lane, he has a freeze. I'm like, I'm going to go 0-10 this game. What do I do? Like, I feel so bad for my students just being here. Just sit back and don't get XP, or like try to roam when your champ sucks at roaming. It's so brutal, which is why I always prefer coaching the mid game, because the mid game, winning games on Irelia is also very hard, But at least it's like that one's way more coachable than just hit your Qs, please, or hit your Es, please. You know.
So what advice would you give to the Irelia community? I'm sure there's some Irelia top gamers out there, you know, love the champion. They're obsessed with the champion. Where should they be spending their time in reviews? How do they improve and climb with the champion?
My biggest piece of advice is slow down, because most of the mechanical mistakes you make is because you watch your Rail King videos before you queue up, and they're just like EQE, they're trying to do everything super quick. But Irelia with 4 stacks, you're going to beat any champ, whether it's 2 seconds slower than a Chal Irelia or not. So just take it slow. Just lead like Q the minion when you're sure it's low HP, use your E very slowly, like E1, and just hold it for a while. You don't need a combo quickly. I always say you should be comboing well, not comboing quickly. And, you know, that's what a lot of students are getting better at now in the TLA. I saw someone, he gave me a clip, he did a team fight, whereas like, objectively, if you were to be critical, he played the fight quite slow. But he didn't miss any abilities, didn't drop his Q on a target, and it was just really well played. And that's all you need to do when you're starting for your first 500 games. I know that seems like a lot, but just take a breath and slow it down. You're not going to be really quick until 1,000, 2,000 games, just being honest. So just slow it down and do things well.
I would say as well, one thing I say is just, you know, don't need to force shit pre-Bork. I mean, like, you know, you are a very, very, very good user of Bork, and like post-Bork, your champion completely transforms. So like your entire goal should be, how do I get to Bork without the game imploding? Because at post-Bork, you're going to win you're going to be able to out-duel most people, and you can start to be a little bit more rough around the edges post-Bork.
There might be a mid lane specific benefit where you can just chill versus a Victor with Darius.
Right.
Top lane if you're trying to chill versus.
Yeah, it's a bit different top lane.
You have to lane. You have to try. You have to fight.
Yeah, versus Ignite Sett, you're not chilling till Bork. It's like one of you are dead.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, guaranteed.
All right, next up we have Sett. Sett top laner, because you played a lot of Sett.
Did play a lot of Sett.
You made the original top Sett guide for the Top Lane Academy. Where's Sett at right now? What do you reckon for Sett? Is Sett, let's just start with recommendations again of Elos. Is Sett just more of a below platinum, gold, master champion?
Below Emerald, one of the best tops to play, for sure, for a below Emerald player. Again, he's similar to Mordekaiser, where Master Plus, one of the worst tops in the game. Most of the one tricks are just floating around low Master. So again, range meta, try to play Sett into a good Vayne, Aurora, Jayce. It's like, it's not possible, right? But below Emerald, even if you verse Teemo or Vayne, they're not going to be spacing well enough. Like, you're going to be able to hit them with E if you know what to look for. So yeah, below Emerald, amazing. He's a champion with clear reference points and just really strong in lane. So he's a good champion to push your limits on and try to get fed and actively carry the game on. You don't want to play passive on Sett.
Yeah, I found Sett to be one of those champions where like, I was playing it in like Master Plus games when I was learning it, and getting kited was one of the worst experiences of my life. And I went to hell and back on this champion, playing it in the Apex tiers. So I guess for Sett, what does Sett teach? What do you think Sett teaches for these below Emerald players?
Yep, I think playing for extended trades, which means you have to learn wave control to bounce the wave back and that type of thing. So extended trading, really important on him. I'd say as well, he's got combos, but they're not super complicated. So you get a feel for like EWs or, you know, auto into Q, you know, spacing it out. You're not just going to QEW like on Garen, right? You do have to use your abilities a bit more carefully. That's kind of the first thing I work on with Sett students is they'll just like Q to get movement speed and then just EW straight away. It's like, no, just lead with movement, start punching, and then Q before they get away, and then E before they get away. So it's like, if you can milk your abilities well, he's a really, really good champ for that. So yeah, sort of practicing how to long trade, how to use your abilities well instead of just brute forcing. And he's a good champ to learn those types of skills on.
What do most Sett players struggle with?
I think range matchups, of course, and team fighting. I think they're not good at team fighting because they've seen a clip where the Sett ultis a 10k HP choke happen to the team and one-shots everyone, and they're just always trying to do that. Where Sett, especially with Flash, is a really good flanker. If you just rock up behind and scoop the Caitlyn to your team, like, he's just going to get one shot. So you can play for that pretty consistently, but a lot of Setts just sit on yellow trinket, never try to flank, and they'll ulti like the Nautilus and it'll be slightly off tether, you know, their angle will be slightly off, and they're just using your ulti like a point-click CC that moves people on Nautilus. So it's like, yeah. stop trying to tunnel on the clip, the Reddit clip where you do 10,000.
I will say, Chibies, the amount of dopamine you will get from Ring a front line into the back lane, getting an EW and one-shotting someone on 3 items is one of the greatest League of Legends experiences a person can have.
All right.
It
Don't
was
let me stop
so
you then.
fun.
Let's keep it
It
going
was
then.
so, the dopamine was for weeks. I'm set for weeks. There's one play.
The W flash 3k damage. It can't be beat.
True damage.
Yeah.
True damage.
Yeah. Yeah, you can one-shot tanks.
Yeah, you one-shot tanks. You one-shot anyone.
It's mental. Okay, so Sett. So you're big on sounds like Sett chippies for people. Like
Well, below Emerald,
below Emerald. So why would people not play Sett? Like, what are some counter narratives people say? You know, let's say when they're choosing champion channel in the TLA, and you say, you know, I would like you to play Sett. Like, I don't really like the idea of Sett. Like, why do you think that's the case?
I think, like Curtis said, getting kited is the worst thing in the world. I did mention below Emerald, the range top players are making mistakes if you know what to look for. But the reality is they probably won't know what to look for, so you will get kited around by Teemos while you're developing that skill. It's pretty awkward. And even in team fights, again, if you're not looking for flanks, you are going to get kited around. You can imagine playing Sett versus like Zyra jungle and Jinx Lulu. It's like you're going to feel like a complete shit stain. So I feel like, if you hate versing those types of range comps, you're not going to like Sett.
Okay, so it may sound dumb, but like how come? So Darius can be played to a challenger level consistently, and Sett can't. How do these two? How does this come about?
That's a good question. I think scaling, like, yes, you can get the 3k damage Sett W, but realistically, it's not replicable. Like, people are going to not give you the scoop if they're a frontliner in high ranks, and people are going to flash your W, and then you're useless. So I think Darius' scaling is more like locked in. Because the enemy team, not all 5 of them are going to sit back and never go in. They have to play the game if they play melee champs. And also, like, your team can engage for you. So, again, all you need to do is R1 guy, and your champ becomes broken. And that's very, very replicable. You can do that almost every comp you play against. And then his lane as well, he's got more threat into ranged, even compared to Sett, because he has double sumps. Like, Ghost Flash, and it's just more consistent to run them down than Sett would be.
Right, so it's just basically reliability of getting your damage off, which sounds, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay, next up we have now the dreaded Vayne. 4% pick rate, negative win rate 49%. I generally believe people can win lane with Vayne, but they can't win games.
I think Vayne, I'm going to say straight up, Vayne is one of the, I'm going to say straight up, Vayne is one of the best top laners.
Okay.
It just, anecdotally, for me, I'm obviously biased in the Apex tiers, but I think Vayne is, he just wins games. Vayne top wins games.
And I think Vayne doesn't win games.
All right, well, who's right?
All right, I'll settle it. So I think, depends on the rank. I think in Apex tiers, Vayne is, pretty broken. I think it does win games. Sorry, Nathan.
Yes, thank goodness.
The lane is just broken. It scales too well. I think below Emerald, the Vaynes just try to make Gosu montages and just tumble in and die. The thing about Vayne that you need to understand is, like, the Q is not just for damage. The Q is mobility. You don't always have to tumble forward and get eaten by the Sett. You can just lead with movement. You get movement speed walking towards them. It's OP. Just walk at them and hold the Q. For example, when I play Olaf into the Chal Vaynes, they'll never Q me. They'll just auto me, and then when I Q them, tumble to the side. So there's no counterplay. But in Emerald, the Vayne would tumble forward, tank an axe, and die, and be like, this Olaf matchup's so hard. There's nothing I can do, right? So the good Vayne players, if they have good Q and usage, they're never going to lose lane to a melee champ. Never. And then, team fighting is pretty consistent. Just play front to back. Don't do anything crazy. Maybe you can do something crazy at the back end of the fight when everything's used. That does take a bit of skill. So again, Master Plus, I think, broken champ.
So I'm going to go out on a limb here again. Might be I'm cosplaying Charlie with the wild takes. I think Vayne is an easy champion at top.
Mental.
Okay, now this is my hypothesis. This is the reason why. Think about why Vayne was difficult in bot. Vayne's difficult in bot because you have low range and you get shit on by everything in lane. And
Caitlyn's.
You have like range supports and Caitlyn's and Ashes and whatever. In top, you're outranging the enemy in most of your matchups. And so the hardest part of Vayne is getting to your items and getting to their lane. That is, and nowadays people's mechanics are just better, right? Most people don't struggle with like clicking their character as much nowadays. So I'm going to go ahead and I don't think Vayne is nearly as hard than what people think. And the people that are struggling with Vayne are still making just very like basic mistakes that they would probably be making on any other champion anyway.
The go-to montage.
Where am I
Chippy's
wrong?
talking
Yeah,
about.
the
Because, I
montage.
mean, our famous...
Am I right or am I right?
Our famous case study with Delirious, you know, he's the Vayne. He said Vayne was the easiest champ in the game, and he said he was insane at it. And we reviewed that game, and then he ruined the game for his team.
That is true. Maybe Delirious
he
is
was
the
the Emerald.
prophet. Maybe
He
he is
that
the
was-
prophet. He's the Messiah. He was right all along. I don't know.
I think with that, you're correct in theory, but in reality, in gold, they're just going to get eat by the Sett or dash done by Renekton and not buffer their E correctly and just get killed. Because even though you do have the advantage objectively, you're still way harder to play than Garen, Sett, Darius, like all these champs that'll just get onto you. Oh shit, I got hooked by Darius because I was one step too close. Now I'm dead. Now I'm a 0-3 Vayne ruining the game for my team. Or even different, like I'm really good at spacing. I'm dodging every Darius spell. Ah shit, I died to a gank. Game's over again.
Right.
So I think, balancing that spacing better than your opponent in lower ranks on top of never dying to ganks, too much.
Okay, let's do a comparison here. We're talking Emerald, okay? Emerald 4. What is harder to play, Jax or Vayne?
Jax for sure. So yeah, Emerald Plus is where I'd start to recommend Vayne a bit more.
Interesting. That is an interesting comparison,
It's
actually.
back in.
After talking about Jax.
Right? So I'm saying, what I just think, okay, like in general, I just think that like the whole narrative from like, let's say from the external, like we're talking as biased mid laners and junglers and we're representing everyone else but top laners here. There is this perception that like, oh, playing range chops and Vayne, like it must be like super hard. Like you got to be really good to play these. I think that is just a narrative that is old and outdated.
Old school.
And yeah, sure, for the lower Elo brackets, but like we're talking Platinum Emerald Plus, like it's not nearly as difficult as I think.
Chippy says, people are getting better at the
People
game.
are getting better at the
and we
game.
are.
Like, and there are
Yeah.
many of these top laners, like arguably, like it probably is harder to win a game with Mordekaiser in Emerald than Vayne.
Yeah.
Like, is that delusional? Am I delusional?
I think, it's not really the champs that are hard. It's the skill of spacing, right? If you're good at spacing, you're going to be good at most champs. We had a student, Thanasis, who he was Emerald for a while. And every day I just roasted him on his spacing every day. And there was one session where I was like, wow, he's spacing really well. And he just shot up to master, like really quick.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So if your spacing is at a decent level, you're going to be way better. Like your Vayne's going to be good, right? If you understand my HP bar is more valuable than enemy top, I care more about staying full HP than hitting him. And you just get good farm and take the free damage when they walk up. Like you're going to have a good time for sure. But if you try to make a montage, you're going to ruin the game for your team.
But last thing I'll say on this, I am passionate about Vayne, right? We're talking about like being hard to gank, right? Okay. Or sorry, dying to ganks as Vayne and ruining games dying to ganks. You're a champion though that should have wave control in a lot of matchups, and you have mobility. Right? So when we talk about champions that are very vulnerable, let's compare that to Irelia. Your mobility is tied to minions, right? And there's going to be a lot of matchups where you may not have wave control. So like, I don't know, like I just think that we need to start shifting the dialogue at a community level. I mean, maybe this is not the right time for that. We'll do this in another video together. But like the general consensus of like what is difficult in like I would argue that like Sett is just harder than Vayne in like a lot of elo brackets, like post diamond. Winning a game with Sett would be harder than Vayne. Sett has no mobility, right? You're going to lose wave control in certain matches. That's harder than Vayne. So, like, I don't know. Like, I just think that the top lane is a role that has evolved so much in such a short amount of time that what would sound completely delusional 3-4 years ago is actually quite reasonable now.
I definitely agree. I think these days there's so much good educational content out there that the average player is just getting better and better. Like back when we played, we didn't watch any videos. We just played the game pretty much, almost never watched our VODs. So now it's a lot easier to learn skills. I do think there's other problems. Like, for example, if you make a mistake on Sett, if you're 0-1 versus Darius, you can still play off your Ignite and get the kill and come back. But on Vayne from behind, it's like you have no wave clear. If you miss one back timer and you're low mana, you're just stuck there jailed forever. So it's like there's other problems they'll face. But I would agree with the fact it's like winning games on her would be easier than Sett. Like you'd have to put more into Sett, where on Vayne it's just like if you blind pick, if you blind pick Vayne into Malphite and they've Rek'Sai jungle, that's going to be way harder than winning on Sett. But yeah, if it's Nathan on the enemy team. But typically, on Vayne, if you understand the reference points very well and you have a good level of spacing, it would be easier when they're on like a Sett and Diamond or Master.
So does Vayne have the same bad rap as a Teemo for the range tops, or is Vayne like a bit more, people have this, going back to the community narrative, more respectable in terms of, you get Masters Heroes Vayne, pretty good player compared to maybe a Teemo. What's the view of Vayne in from your perspective, and also Top Lane Academy students?
I think, she's still hated, but there is that element of respect compared to Teemo. Like, more people will play Vayne than Teemo because they think it's like more respectable, but I see them as very, very similar.
Is Vayne recommended? Like, do you need a range champion in your pool these days, or what do you for a top lane?
You don't need one. I wouldn't recommend her per se. She's like mainly as a counter pick, right? If you see them pick Olaf or Sett or Darius, like really, really good champ. But yeah, for below Emerald, the execution would be a bit difficult. I would put the money on the gold Sett actually to beat the gold Vayne if the Sett had some mastery. But for Master Plus, I do recommend it as a counter pick.
So what about you, Chibbies? Do you have a range top in your pool at the moment, or not really?
Everyone's going to hate me for this, but the range top I play is Zilean, the best champ in the game.
Zilean? Oh my goodness.
Because I was sick.
Get me out.
Yeah, every game I was versing Anivia, Aurora, Rumble, all this bullshit. So I needed something. And when I coached a team, I had my top player Zilean, and it was just broken. So I just stole it.
Okay, well, you heard it here first.
Yeah, I guess we got to talk about Zilean. Is Zilean even picked at all?
Probably not.
No.
Okay.
I play a bit of Jayce too as well, but I find it hard only playing a couple games a day to keep my Jayce to a high level. But Zilean, anyone can play that guy. He's a support champ.
All right. Well, we might have to come back to that one later on in the video.
Yeah.
Okay, we're moving on to another tank here. The famous Ornn. Ornn top lane here.
Curtis's favorite champ in the game.
Yep. Love me some Ornn.
Back to the forge. Ornn. So
Ornn, I think, fixes every composition, I would say. Ornn fixes every comp.
Yep, exactly. Ornn right now is actually in a good spot. I think he was quite terrible for many years. The reason he's good now is just the XP buff, the top lane quest. So you get your items upgraded pretty quick. So I think, he's in a solid spot. He's not quite as good as Sion or Cassante because his lane phase is weaker, and laning phase is pretty much everything. And top lane is the most important thing. But on Ornn, I think the problem you run into is you are a bit team reliant. Like, you are a full tank champion with low threat. Like, you have good engage, but you're not going to kill someone by yourself as Ornn, right? So that's going to be the problem you run into. And as Ornn, the thing I don't like is when students are like, I'm Ornn, let me just scale up for free and don't do anything. But Ornn has a pretty good lane in certain matchups. Like, you can pressure people pretty hard.
Yeah, I see Ornn get solo kills all the time.
Yep.
I'm just laughing because Ornn, when you were a pro player, just played it every game, and Chibis hated playing Ornn. He's like, pick me Fiora and I'll just win the game. And I'm
Curtis forced him onto it.
Forced him on, and it's just such a meme. It's just such a meme because, again, Ornn, I would say, like, if I see an Ornn as a mid laner on my team, I'm thinking, okay, cool, I can use that. But in reality, being the Ornn is just like
miserable
experience.
I remember there was a point in solo queue where I played 50 Ornn games in a row, and Curtis said in chat, respect, like, keep it up. We hadn't talked in like a year with respect on the Ornn, right? Just had to get him good. Champ's just too good back then.
So does anyone play
in solo queue?
Do many people play Ornn in TLA?
We have some Ornn one tricks here. They really like the champ. I think I see a couple of complaints like, my champ's so team reliant, but they just keep coming back to him.
They're addicted to the Ornn.
Yeah, so for that, would you not recommend him if you're not an OTP for a solo queue? Like, in terms of your pool, like, is just Malphite and Sion better tanks? Like,
yeah, they're easier to play, I would say. Not to, like, easier to play at a base level, Malphite and Sion. Ornn, I think it does have that ceiling. Actually, no, Sion, has a higher ceiling than Ornn. But to play Ornn, like, decently well, you can't just have 20 games on him. Compared to Sion or Malphite, I think you can get away with it. So there's that issue. He's mainly just an OTP champ. Again, with like Doran's Helm being in the game and the extra XP, you can make him work, but I only really see people OTP him. I think for tanks in your pool, like you mentioned, Sion, Malphite, Cassante, if you're a high rank player, Cassante, this makes a bit more sense.
What about Mundo compared to an Ornn?
Mundo's not a tank. Mundo's a split pusher.
Sorry. I forgot about that. Yeah, that's narrative.
We'll come back to Mundo.
Okay, Gnar. This is another competitive champ, right? Is this good in solo queue?
He was bad for a while. I think he's getting better now because Doran's bow is just a little bit OP at the moment. And he's one of the only tops that can use it well. And he can also go Doran's Helm too. So when I play Jax, the Gnar one tricks go like Conqueror with Doran's Helm and Barrier. It's super annoying, can never kill them. So I think he's a lot better in solo queue now than a couple patches ago. But yeah, really high ceiling for sure. Really hard to play.
I've always had a hatred for Gnar in solo queue. I've always just thought it was like one of the worst solo queue champions in top. Whenever I saw a Gnar, it's going to be an auto lose. Because I feel like Gnar for the longest time, it just requires so much coordination
with your Mega Gnar.
Right, with your Mega Gnar, like to have impact in the right moments. And obviously there's the good Gnars. Like I feel like it's just one of those champs that you have to have a lot of mastery on Gnar to make that champion work. What would you think about that, Chibies?
Yeah, definitely. I only really see pro players play Gnar because they're playing it 20 scrims every day or like full one tricks. But the full one tricks don't do too well. It's not really a champ you want to pick every game because he's very like, not matchup specific, but he's a champion that will always give you a 6 out of 10, right? He's not like a freak in this game. Yeah. He's kind of like average, but slightly above average now. So I think he's really good to have in your pool if you're a Master Plus pro player pretty much. But other than that, I don't think, a silver guy should be playing Gnar, platinum Gnar. I don't think it's going to be that useful.
So basically, the only two reasons you should play Gnar, you just love him and you want to play him because you enjoy him, or two, you're like a Apex tier player, maybe looking to have him for your competitive pool and you want to kind of keep him in the rotation. That's basically it.
Yeah, if you're in like an amateur league or something, fearless drafting, like Gnar, it's a really good champ there.
Do you coach any Gnars in the TLA?
Yeah, we have a few because the champ's it's just a cool champ. I think he's one of the coolest designed top lane champs for sure. So we do have a lot of people that are drawn to him, but they don't really stick on him for too long. They like have Gnar phases.
What do you work on with these Gnar players?
Mega management, I always complain because you want to start your team fights off with 60 mega because range form Gnar is broken. You got Triforce Black Cleaver, you're just an 80 carry at 2 arms killing everything and then swap to mega when you need to. But students will like pop mega pushing out the wave. Sometimes you have to say goodbye to 6 minions. They have good mega for the dragon fight. And that's something a lot of players struggle with. Even Zeus, I always complain about his mega management. He's like insane and Gnar mechanically, but he's greedy for farm, so he'll pop his mega poorly. So it is a hard skill to learn. Yeah, the mega management. And for lane, it's all about, if you can get to tier 2 boots on your first recall, by being disciplined, staying full HP, playing for good farm, you win. But you can imagine versing a Jax if you've got like longsword tier 1 boots. It's not great. You want Tabby's first go into all these champions, or Swifty boots into like an Olaf.
Interesting.
Okay, Mundo. So let's talk about that narrative around Mundo being a tank. Why is Mundo not a tank?
Yes,
people have this, this perception of like, cue the Illaoi, the music, the briefcase or whatever it is,
unkillable
Mundo running at you. They'll be like, well, that looks like a tank to me. He's unkillable, Chibbies.
So yeah, the way you win game on Mundo is not very tank-like. So for example, Ornn, you just push, like if the side waves didn't exist, if they just despawn, you'd be so happy. He's group up in 5, but Mundo would be depressed because you need really good farm on Mundo. You need to be ahead of the curve or you will get one shot because you're only building HP. So, and you're surviving by regenning more than their damage. So if you're weak, you're just going to die. So you need to, and they're going to have healing cut too. So you need to beat that. So you're maintaining really good farm and you normally play for side towers because if you're even on Mundo with Warmogs, you can ignore most champions and just headbutt the tower in front of them, get really strong. And then like late game, level 16, 3 items, you just run people into the dirt.
So what is Mundo as popular? Because I think it did get nerfed. Did it get nerfed a bit?
I think so. The popularity dropped a lot.
It dropped a lot, right? So what, do you have many TLA Mundo players in the TLA?
We had a lot during when Illaoi was popping off, but now a lot of them, have sort of stopped playing him.
So what do people struggle with Mundo? Is it like getting to the point where they're strong, or is it like then they're strong and they just don't know how to kill the Nexus?
Now, if they get strong, they'll win the game. It's the lane, because his lane is weak. So, and it's quite boring, to be honest. I never recommend Mundo for a student, except for like a counter pick. I never recommend someone main Mundo, because you're not going to learn the game. You pretty much, if you briefcase farm till level 9 Warmogs, like you did well. So you don't, and they're just going to keep pushing you in. So you don't need to have good wave control. You're like back timer, you have infinite, you have no mana, that type of thing. Trading, you're not really trading, you're just queuing them if they go on you. So yeah, you don't really learn anything playing him, which is why I don't really recommend him for students at all.
Interesting. So he's basically now at this stage, you would say just like a niche, should be like a niche third pick in a pool or something for certain scenarios.
I'd put him in the Malphite category, like very impactful counter. If they have a low damage comp, like if they pick Jin or Ziggs AD carry, mid is not like a, like a Lux or something, Mundo's unbeatable. Like you can't lose. They actually can't kill you if they don't have sustained damage dealers. But if you pick him every game and you verse Vayne top or Gwen or, a Phelios Lulu, like you're just going to die. So
useless,
as a niche counter pick, especially if you have a free matchup, like imagine a game where you're Mundo versus Malphite, Lux, Shen. You cannot lose. It's not possible. So it's like, those are the situations where you should play him.
Yeah, it's actually, now that I think about it, when I lose to Mundo and solo queue, it's nearly always because, we have low damage, we have no one that can shred him, and then it's picked in the right scenario. It's just like a free win.
There is one really good Mundo one trick in Korea. Ambessa makes it work. And that's just because his micro is like just leagues and leagues above. And he farms really efficiently. So he's always got 10 cents per minute. And in lane, it's like very elegant. It's very hard to hit him using the approach velocity.
Theme of the episode.
Yeah. If you want to be a good top lane, you have to become elegant. Sign up to some ballet classes or something. Because, this guy is just, it's hard to hit him. And he won't just sit back and queue. Like, he'll put pressure on you. He'll pretend to auto you. And it'll be really annoying. So, I think there is a skill ceiling to him. But for 99% of players, just have him as a counter pick only.
Okay, next up we have the Ambessa. So we're in the new school champions. Now, Chippies, what is your current stance on Ambessa? Hasn't Ambessa been nerfed a lot?
Yeah, she was probably one of the best champs in the game when she was released for ages. But recently they nerfed her ulti speed, which actually had a pretty big impact. Because now there's so many situations where pretty much you can just sidestep it now. Which, of course, as you'd imagine, you lose a lot of threat in fights and skirmishes 1v1. So this is the first time since she came out that I dropped her from S tier to high A tier. Still a really good champ, but not quite like broken anymore.
So Ambessa's kind of represents modern day, new age top laners, right? So what makes Ambessa such an incredibly powerful kit? And I guess for people that let's say coming back to maybe to League after a bit of a break, it would be good to get a bit of a refresher. Like, what makes Ambessa so powerful?
So pretty much range, having range in your kit is really important in modern day champs. If you think about what was broken back in our day, it's like Renekton, what a broken lane bully or something like that, right? But these days it's stuff with range about like Rumble, kind of a melee champ, but pretty much range. And Ambessa's the same thing. All three of her abilities are ranged. And her passive gives you extra range on auto. So that combined with 4 dashes, so much mobility, versus real melee champs like Olaf or Jax or Camille, you can kind of just chip away them without taking any damage in response. So it's pretty much that alone makes you a broken blind pick. So champs like her and Rumble and Jayce, they just go to every single game. They're never bad because it's not like back in there, it's like, oh, I'm Camille versus Jax, I'm hard counted, the game's really hard. It's like you pick Ambessa, you're always fine.
How many games does it take to start getting a feel for Ambessa? Maybe her lane phase matchups, trade patterns.
Ambessa's a weird one because at the top level, her ceiling is all about utilizing their range advantage, spacing. They're kind of playing like their range champ identity. But from what I see students, I always say every Ambessa review, you're not Jax. Like stop Jax queuing onto their head because they'll just queue and just jump directly onto the enemy top. And Ambessa's weakness, you lose long trades. They've got Conqueror, Lethal Tempo, you're going to lose the long trade, right? So when I see they get better, it's probably like 300, 400 games plus. But
300-400?
That's to play her at a high level, but just to like have a good time on her, I'd say 50 games, to be honest. She's a champ that you can like pick up well, but then go from pick up to being insane is a big gap, I would say.
So what is the highest skill? What is the highest skill element of Ambessa? Right, I mean, and when you think of her kit, is it the Ambessa's ability to kind of get onto the backline, be very like let's say nuanced and specific about your engage windows? Like what's I guess a better question. What skills does Ambessa actually teach? I think that's a better question.
Okay, so spacing is the answer to both your questions. Spacing while on Ambessa, your abilities are all range, but it's not like your Teemo versus Garen, right? It's like it's very short room margin for error there. Even your passive auto has a little bit more range than normal people. So it's like, yeah, it's really hard to utilize that super, super well. And the skill it would teach would probably be spacing. Playing around cooldowns is a big one. Every Ambessa review I complain, like, why are you walking up? 2 of your spells are down. Like, you need to wait. But it's not black and white. It's not like an obvious one where, say, Jax, your E is down, don't walk up. But on Ambessa, sometimes you can walk up with 2 abilities. Sometimes you need all of them up, so it's a little bit harder, but it still teaches that skill. Playing around cooldowns, facing your opponent, short trading, these are all really important skills you'll learn.
Now, I'm going to ask the important question. Is Ambessa balanced?
Oh, I would say no. I think that gem's not balanced. I think it got nerfed so it's not overpowered, but I think overpowered is different to balanced, right? I just think the champ's just too strong in lane. It's too hard to play against if you play champs that weren't born in 2025 and onwards. Like, if you're trying to play something like Fiora, like Fiora is actually now they ban Ambessa. It's just too hard for them. So Fiora or Olaf, it's like really, really hard. So I would say not really balanced. The laning phase is too powerful. I'd rather them make her stronger in the mid game and a bit easier to deal with in lane.
So I'm going to go out on a limb here. Again, I'm doing my Charlie cosplaying. I think the most frustrating element of dealing with Ambessa is the W shield. I think the shield that's what makes her frustrating, in my opinion, just in my limited experience, because I've done a little bit of Ambessa mid coaching and playing. I played a little bit of it myself in mid lane, not top. The W shield is a very, very, very important part of the champ's kit. What do you think about that?
Yeah, the shield's just too strong. It's like, it makes any trade for her winning. If they remove that it gave a shield and maybe gave it like a damage or a stun or something, it'd still be a good champ, but that shield just makes her like too crazy, definitely.
Yeah, the concept of shields in League of Legends are broken by concepts because it baits people in. Right? Like anything in League of Legends that baits people in.
Don't take damage, get out.
Yeah. Because what people think is that they go in and it's like, oh, low HP and Ambessa, cool, I can get the kill and then back out. But if you don't get the kill, you instantly lose the team fight or you just ruin the game. So shields are broken by concept. I hate the fact that, this Ambessa has just so much, like, okay. If you were to remove the shield on Ambessa, would that make the champion unplayable?
Not unplayable, but yeah, she'd probably be average back in the Aatrox tier. I think the thing that's annoying about Ambessa having a shield on that champ specifically, if you think about Camille, the concept I like to teach is don't hit shields, right? So if you're Garen versus Camille, you don't E her. You auto for auto and walk away. Wait out the shield and then go. Versus Ambessa, there's no waiting out the shield because she's just going to keep jumping on your head and beating the shit out of you because she has 4 dashes, are slow. It's just too much mobility to make it so you can't wait out that shield. That's why I think it's better on her than most other champs.
Now, according to the stats here, Ambessa actually has a pretty low win rate relative to some of the others we've covered. It's currently sitting at around roughly a 40, high 48, low 49% win rate. So what do people struggle with when playing Ambessa?
Yeah, the win rate's crazy to me because I remember making the recent tier list. I don't really care about stats too much, but I always take a look. She actually had the lowest win rate in like Diamond for a top lane champ. And that blew me away. I think it is just, she's a champ where people can do well, but not win games on. Kind of like that Renekton bus driving thing we talked about. You do want to push the pace of the game while you're strong. And it's easy to win lane on Ambessa. I think it's hard to squeeze your lane out and really utilize the kit to a high level, which is why I think it's mainly a good Master Plus champ. I think it was playable in Emerald and Diamond before the ulti nerf, but now it's not really recommended.
So Ambessa's just too hard for below Emerald. You think Ambessa's really hard?
Yeah, I think it's too hard to... It's a weird one. It will trick you. Like, you can play it well, and like a lot of Ambessa's like, why can't I win games, right? Because it feel like you're doing well, but you're not doing enough.
It's like Yone. I think it's so similar to Yone in that sense. Obviously, I don't think it's on probably the same level of difficulty, but it's close in the sense that, like, I love the way you frame that, Chip. It tricks you. And Ambessa is a champ that can trick people, just like Yone. Because what happens? They take a trade, like, oh my God, I just shit on this trade. I'm winning trades. Look, like, I feel like I can win lane. And then, boom, they turn around, they haven't done anything. They get into mid-game. They miss an R. They're just completely fucking useless. So I feel like that's the challenge with a lot of these champions where, like, they can do a lot, but it's very easy if you don't really understand how to leverage the kit moving into mid-game. You can fall off the face of the earth. The only difference, I would say, with Ambessa, I've just experienced this in my solo queue games. If the game does stall out and Ambessa gets to 3 items, I think she can be pretty disgusting, which is Yeah,
I always call it the Death's Dance second awakening. It's like you're broken, you're average, and then you just become broken again at DD. But yeah, I still think even though you do have that second chance, it's the DD spike's not going to be that strong if you're behind, right? Like you do need to push the pace of the game still.
So the way you think about the power curve, so yeah, insanely strong early, really good lane phase, mid game average, and then once you get 3 items plus, insane as long as you're keeping up with the pace of the game or ahead of the pace of the game.
Exactly, yeah. And you want to be looking to make plays. Like if you get Eclipse done at 10, 11 minutes, you're like, no one can beat you in lane. It's unbeat. Like you want to really get a lead because after lane in mid game, you actually lose side lane to a lot of champs if you're even. Like Yone, Camille, Jax, Fiora, everyone will beat you in side lane when the lane is long enough they can stick onto you. So if you're not ahead of them, then you're an Ambessa, like a bruiser that spikes early stuck under tower, under tier 2, right? So you do have to get a big enough lead in lane to be able to win side lane if you want to push and roam.
Cool. So yeah, it sounds like you're quite hot on Ambessa. You do. There's a lot of people play Ambessa in the top lane academy.
We had quite a few, but after the nerf, they're kind of going back into the shadows, I think.
But yeah, it's scared. Yeah, I mean, the pick rate's really... I wonder, the pick rate must have just dropped off the cliff with these nerfs.
Definitely.
You know, it's less pick than goddamn, like, Mundo, right?
Yeah,
like,
I used to verse it, like, every second game. Now I don't see it as much.
Fascinating. All right, next up we have Shen. Shen top lane. Now, Shen's been a jungler, God help me. He's been into the jungle role a bit, but looks like still works very well in the top lane here. He's got a 52% win rate right now. What is Shen? Is he just a pure utility champion? Does he obviously you've got the famous Expetu and stuff. He would try and solo kill people with the whole flash ignite. And so how do you win? Sort of similar to the Teemo question. Like, how does a Shen win games?
I think Shen now has a pretty good build. I always thought Shen was the worst champion with the best fan base for the longest time. Like, every time I put him low on a tier list, it'd always be, what? I've main Shen for years. He's so good.
Angry.
Yeah, but the champ sucked. But now because
how dare you?
Yeah, how dare I do that? But Dusk and Dawn, Titanic Hydra build, you can't just one-shot people. So the way I see Shen is like, you need to win lane. Because if you're under tower as Shen, you're useless. So 1 to 5, you're strong. 6, you're weak because you don't have an ulti in 1v1, right? You can imagine Shen ulti versus Renekton, Nasus, like anything. Your ulti is just trash in a 1v1. So you want to get an early game advantage. So the good Shen one tricks are versus play super aggressive early with Ignite. And they get their lead not to be, 300 gold higher on Shen, but so they can push me under tower, ulti places, and make plays. I wouldn't call him a utility champ. I do think he's actually snowball reliant, to be honest. You don't want to be walking around like a Malphite down 100 CS on Shen. You'll be useless. And yeah, it's all about utilizing your global to make plays, but they have to be high quality plays. Like Curtis will say with TF, don't feel, I'm Shen, I have to ulti around the map and just give 2 plates for no reason.
Yeah, you have to view yourself as a carry on these sorts of champions. And that's the weird mindset shift a lot of these champions require. Because again, think about the personality type that is naturally drawn to a champion like Shen. Right, you're not
support.
I want to have a little bit of utility. I want it, but in a way, you have to really get good at knowing your limits. What my real question here with Shen Chip is what is Shen inside of a pool? Is he an OTP champ? Do you have him as a niche pick? And in what ranks do we play him?
I think he is an OTP champ. I think having that awareness of like you look at a situation and you can figure it out in 1 second if it's going to be good or not. Is really hard, and especially your teammates are going to ping you for ults and stuff like that because they have the same mindset like you just mentioned. Oh, Shen support, he's going to help me win it no matter what his wave looks like. So you have to be really good at reading that very quickly. So I'd definitely say OTP champ. Some pro players get him in the pool, but pros are a bit different. 14 hours a day to play the game is not realistic. So I'd call him an OTP champ for sure. I think he's best in Emerald Plus because below Emerald, like just play Garen, just play Sett. He doesn't have that carry potential. Even though he has a bit more damage in his build, it's still not on the same level.
What makes a good Shen R and a bad Shen R?
So pretty much, no matter what, if they see the ulti and they try to disengage, they're still there, right? It's still going to work. If they see they're chasing someone, they see the ulti and they click backwards, that's like the worst thing ever. You need to make sure, pretty much to summarize, they need to be fully committed so that they can't disengage the play, even if you're ulting.
Yeah, I've been reviewing some Shen jungles recently, and we really get into the details what a good Shen ult and a bad Shen ult is. Especially, a jungler. Like, I guess the same for top lane. Like, I would see lots of Shen Rs they, Shen are bot and they don't get anything. They save their teammate, but they lose 2 plates top or like 2 waves. And the same with the jungler, right? It's like, okay, we Shen are bot, cool. We saved him, maybe even got a kill, but now we don't have Shen for the dragon fight or the herald. Jungler's a little bit more objective focus. So is that what you see? A lot of Shens just have just really bad ults that ruin games. Is that the biggest problem, you think?
Yeah, it's a great way to put it. I always say Shen ulti is not for saving people. It's for attacking the enemy team. That's it. It's like you're not going to TF bot ulti bot to save your Ashe from going 0-2 to 0-3, right? Same thing with Shen. You're only ulti to attack the enemy team, and you need to be the difference maker of the play. Like if your team's going to win without you, don't go. If you TP and maybe save one guy, maybe kill one guy, don't go. It has to be like they're going to kill my team, but if I'm there, we win and we get 2 or 3 kills and push out the wave, that type of thing. So again, that's really hard to read in a short amount of time. So it does take a lot of Shen games.
Yeah, I guess it takes a lot of game knowledge as well. Like you got to know like the gold values. It's like, okay, ulti into that, I lose too much there. Or like, as a jungler, it's like, okay, if I ult this player, I'm not thinking forward 60 seconds ahead of the game. Or I'm not thinking about, I actually could have just counter jungle and got more gold. It's more worth it. So I think it's a lot of game knowledge goes into the Shen R. And I also think as well, like the Shen R global is so unintuitive. Compared to, like you said, the TFR and the Karthus R or the Nocturne R, it's obvious that you want to kill people with those. But with Shen, we're telling people you should be killing people, but it's like, wait, but it's like a save.
It's such a multifaceted ability.
It's like you're R'ing onto an enemy, you're R'ing onto your teammates, right? So it's really unintuitive compared to any other global.
It's
in the
much
game.
harder.
I think it's like Galio. It's like Galio, right?
Yeah, but with Galio, at least it's a little bit more obvious because, Galio, you can't just go everywhere around the map. It's not really a global, right? But I think Shen R is really, really, really high skill cap. I view Shen as like a champ that scales with game understanding. Yeah. Right? The better you are at the game holistically, the better Shen you're going to be. It's just a very odd champion, but I personally love Shen. I'm a big fan. I think Shen is a cool champ. I think it's fundamentally good in solo queue. I think, big fan. Yeah, shout out Xpedru.
Yeah, all I even say is I think I was really hesitant for Shen being the jungle, but I think Shen's a great jungler, especially with the whole Dusk and Dawn thing and stuff like that right now. I think he's quite good. All right, next up we have Nasus. Now, this is going to be an interesting one. I personally think Nasus is super underrated. I think Nasus is such a good champion. Agree or disagree?
It just depends on, on the rank here. I think it's such a rank dependent champ, I reckon.
The Wither is broken by concept.
So where are we going wrong, Chippies? We're person to shape here.
So I hate this champ for students to play because it's like Mundo. You don't learn anything. Just farm and get strong. You spike a bit earlier, like you can do a level 6 all-in, not a level 9 all-in.
Shane level 6?
Yeah, Shane level 6.
You can do some things post-Shane, I'm telling you.
Yeah. But 1 to 5, you are just AFK, pretty much. Like, you're not winning any matchup in the game 1 to 5. So that's why I don't like him, and why he's not good in high rank, where laning is pretty much everything. I think below gold is probably his best place, just so people can feel out, like, play the game. Like, get to level 6, go for an all-in. It's super clear reference points, really easy kit to use. So just as like a training wheels champ, but I wouldn't want anyone to play it long term.
Okay, I guess I'm just thinking. Well, I think with the W's, there's the best ability in the game. Honestly.
Nathan, we live in a universe where people can play Vayne top. Remember?
That's true. Yeah.
Right. If I queue up and I see Nasus on my team and I see Vayne on the enemy team, I am leaving the lobby.
Yeah. So I'm the jungler, so I don't have the power to make the Nasus go.
I'm going to ban Rek'Sai, and then you tell me you're going to do that.
Sort of. Okay, so you think Nasus is more of a lower ranks champion? Sounds like you're not too hot on him. You don't really have any hot takes for Nasus. You just think he's just a scale up, win game type champion.
It's just more like. Yeah, scale up early. You have a strong mid game. The late game's not as good as people think. You mainly want to fight early mid game when you're 1 to 2 items, like Triforce, Frozen Heart, or something. Again, when everyone's running around with their shitty little Noon Quivers and Yuntal arrows, no one can kill you. But late game, you're just going to get kited by any comp. So yeah, but again, I think everyone that's playing a champion should have a reason for it. There's not really a good reason to play Nasus. There's other champs that do what he does better.
So what does Nasus do well into? Like, what sort of comps does Nasus want to see?
There's heavy melees that go into anything that a top laner would be happy to see. Just like melee divers, Yasuo mid, stuff like that, yeah.
All right, speaking of melee mid laners, we have Yasuo here. Yasuo top lane.
47% win
Abysmal.
rate.
One of the worst.
But a pretty high
Yeah.
pick rate, 3%.
Yeah,
It's
it's
actually
still
not
quite
that
high.
bad. Do you see a lot of Yasuo top?
Sadly, yeah. I hate when students play this champion. I think
Oh,
there's no point to play it. It's like
Okay,
to
can
play
you compare it with like Irelia and Yone? Like, are they just superior champions or just easier to play, or
Yeah.
what's?
I mean, they're all like similar in that vein of difficulty, but you're like Yasuo, even if you're really good at it, you're still going to get shit on by Renektons and all that. It's like, I just don't see the value. Yes, there's certain matchups like Yasuo and Gnar that can work, but is it really worth putting 500 games of Yasuo to pick against the one Gnar player on your server? Like, I don't really think so.
Yeah, like I feel like Yasuo is just way better into range champs, right? It beats so many. It wins every matchup basically in mid lane for the most part. Well, not every, but like 95% of them. Whereas in top, like it would lose to so many champions, wouldn't it? It would just lose to so many bruises.
Yeah, most bruises beat it, and even into range where in like a training tool 1v1 you'd win, you're just going to get ganked. You have no escape. You're just going to get killed by Nathan's Rek'Sai again on repeat. I just think it's too hard to play.
0-10. Yeah. So how do you make Yasuo work if you are going to play the top lane, or should you just tell people to just play it in mid lane?
And most importantly, what is Yasuo top's identity? What is his goal?
So his goal in lane is similar to Yone, where you chip away at them, then go for the all-in. So you can space. Like when I versus the Yasuo one tricks, they do try to play the spacing minigame with Q. It's not as good as Yone, because Yone has like easier to use mobility. But yeah, pretty much you want to get an early game advantage, so you should always take a combat sum, play aggressive early with lethal tempo. He's not quite as elegant as Yone. You can brute force a bit more. I think he's a bit stronger early. So you do want to play for an early game lead, and yeah, pretty much you have to snowball.
So you have to basically leverage your early strength, get the wave on your side, leverage your probably early lethal tempo, get some sort of an early kill or a significant CS lead, and then basically leverage that advantage to kind of snowball and kind of stat check the enemy, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And I just think it's hard to win on him too, because you can't split push. Your team fighting's average unless someone's nice and picks Zach jungle for you. I just think it's pretty awkward. But if you did want to win on him, you'd put a lot of time and effort into developing your laning and snowballing consistently without dying to ganks.
And so let's say there are some Yasuo tops out there and their lane is okay. They're getting kills. They're snowballing. How does he Yasuo? What are some of the things you look for in reviews with Yasuo players to actually translate leads and win the game?
So normally I look at their balance, or how they're side laning. If it's consistent where they can do that without dying, like did you just get lucky that game, or did you actually die to ganks inside? So I'll put a lot of work into them side laning well, because you have to farm really well to make this champ work. Like his items are expensive. So you have to CS well. And then I'd review team fighting a lot, because team fighting is super hard on that champ. A lot of Yasuo's just go in straight away, where you have to be very, very patient. You're pretty much a melee 80 carry. So you have to pick your moment really well.
So in a way, it's very similar to Yone in a way, where you got to really be synced with your team. You got to know exactly how to kind of team fight with utilizing your particular comp. Because my work with Yasuo, it's like there's a massive difference between playing a game where you have setup as Yasuo versus without setup, right? If you're paired with an Alistair or, like you said, a Zac or whatever, and you got a lot of knockups, great. Yasuo can kind of play itself in a lot of team fights. But then you play that Yasuo game where you've got barely any, you got like one tiny minuscule knockup. God help me is all I'm going to say.
Yeah, pretty much it's like, the main reason I don't like him is it takes so much games to use him, but even then you should only use him as a specific counter when your comp is good and when your matchup's good. But to get that good, you have to blind him and verse Renekton by top jungle and just be used.
The learning journey is just not worth you're not getting a reward. So like basically you're saying there are champions of the game that if you put that time into, you're going to get a way better return on like LP and like your solo queue climb comparatively if it were Yasuo. Is that right?
Exactly. And the journey will be way less painful and way less miserable. So yeah, that's kind of why.
Okay, got another old school league champion, Tryndamere top lane. The split pusher. What do we think about Tryndamere?
Trynd is in a weird spot where before he was just like the sustain king, where you go Halo Blade, where you go Grasp, and he was just like pretty much Tom Kench, where unpunishable in lane. But now people like the Halo Blades and bit of lethality and play for early advantages. I would just call this guy like a easy champ pretty much. You have to play against an opponent that doesn't know how to play around your early game threat. Normally when I verse Tryndamere, I just play for good farm, good back timers, that type of thing, because you don't want to interact with him that much. He's just going to hit you 3 times and spin away. But as the Tryndamere player, it's more so about, snowballing early game with Halo Blades Ignite and just constantly pressuring side lane. You want to be that constant threat of like, if you don't answer me, you're going to lose the tower the whole game. Because this champ is infinite sustain and no mana. So you don't have to recall, really. You just keep them stuck there forever, and always annoying, unable to play.
Yeah, so you've talked a lot about this episode already, like resource management, you think is something that is a good fundamental to learn as a top laner. Would you say Tryndamere skips a lot of fundamentals? You're not too hot on him for learning the game?
Yeah, he kind of breaks that element. Infinite sustain, no mana champs are just broken by concept, of course. But I would say, because you don't team fight, I think team fighting is like the second most important thing after laning. I know this is just pretty much the whole game, but a lot of people care more about macro. But I think if you're good at team fighting and you win lane most of the time, like you'll climb really well. But Trynd doesn't team fight. That's one reason why I don't really like recommending him.
So a lot of people struggle against Tryndamere, though, I would say. I mean,
It's like the Yorick.
Like Yorick, and especially in the lower tiers. So do a lot of people get excited about playing Tryndamere in the lower tiers in the TLA?
Not many people like playing him. I think he's pretty boring champion. If you think about his kit, it's literally just auto-attacking and a spin. There's nothing really exciting there. So people don't enjoy him. I think versing him, the two reasons people hate is because they get cheesed by Halo Blades Ignite, like I mentioned. They try to interact with him and get killed. And then you're behind a Tryndamere the whole game. And then in mid-game, you have to be really quick. So a big thing I complain about often is when you finish a Dragonfire as a top laner, Nathan might not like this, but never leash the dragon, never just go straight back to side, right?
No, I agree. 100%.
Perfect.
I won't start the dragon. I understand what my laners want. Trust me, Trippies.
Perfect.
I'm that jungler.
That's good to hear. Because a lot of players in the TLA and just players in general, they'll win a big fight and then help with dragon, finish the crab, push mid wave, hit the mid, and they're just sticking around for 2 minutes. But when you verse Tryndamere or Yorick, it needs to be push away, boom, fight, boom, back to top. Sometimes the fight won't even be done and I'll already be going back to top because I'm like, okay, it's pretty much won now. I've done my job, blown my combo here. So verse Tryndamere, you have to be really, really quick. Quick play and back to side.
Does Tryndamere work in high elo these days?
There are the occasional ones that pop in, but it's very rare. Only like the 10-year one trick, long-term guys.
Okay, let's move on now to Akali. I'm surprised Akali is more popular than Fiora and Camille and even your Olaf chippies. This is really sad. Why is Akali a top lane champion?
I think this champ is, if you only use it as a counter pick, it's a really, really good top champ. So if you only pick it into Camille, Jax, my whole champ, or if you just pick it into my champs, pretty much, you're going to have a great time, right? So any like fighter or carry top, it's unplayable to versus Akali. Like it's a range champ that can one-shot you at 6. There's nothing really you can do.
And it counters auto attack based champions.
Yeah. It's really hard to play against for most melees. Not beef, like Renekton will do good, of course, but most fighter carry melees can't play the game into it. So that's sort of the best spot to pick her. I think it's hard to get her into your pool. Not quite Yasuo level. So I would say for a Diamond Plus player, it could be worth it long-term to have her in your pool. And yeah, that's sort of where she is right now. Just an amazing counter pick, but if you blind her and play into a tank that rushes Kane to Rukun or like a Renekton, not going to be that useful.
It's kind of like, it sounds like it's a really good long-term investment. If you're willing to suffer through that first maybe 60, 70, 80 games, then sure. But once you get it to that point, you could probably just have it as that kind of niche counter pick. But I don't know, like I feel like you don't see, I feel like I might be biased here, but I don't really see many Akali top players. Like usually it's mid laners playing at secondary top. Usually,
yeah.
Do you have many like straight up Akali mains in TLA?
Very few, but a lot of people, they actually have Akali in their pool. Either they used to play mid or just like to Akali at some point, yeah. So I wouldn't say for people to go out of their way to add it to your pool, but if you already have past mastery and they blind pick Camille, Jax, Olaf, all those champs, really good.
What rank would you recommend someone started putting time into Akali top?
Emerald Diamond is the best, where you're still going to verse those champs. You're not going to verse Varus and Anivia every game. So, but you're going to be good enough to actually utilize Akali's range advantage.
Okay. Fiora. You can talk a little bit more about this one here, Chippies. Your famous
Fiora.
I mean,
when I think of Chippies, I think of Fiora, I think of Jax, I think of, this is one of your old school favorites, wasn't it, Chippies?
Yeah, but I'll be honest, I cringe a little bit when you did that episode of our best of 5 and I'm playing Klepto, Fiora, and Ornn, like just play a real champ. But but these days with like PTA Ignite and grass setups, it is a lot stronger.
So yeah, where
where-
is she at? I don't see a ton of it nowadays.
Yeah, what happened to Fiora? She's number
Where's she at?
27 on this list.
Yeah, so one trick only champ, right? We'll set that, and you have to be a long-term one trick, more than 500, probably more than 800 games. I think this champ
Why?
takes the micro is so hard. So again, you have to be elegant. I versed I think the rank 1 Fiora recently, and you know the vital, it's like pretty obvious you hit it head on. Hitting the very edge, the very corner with the max range Q is really, really hard. And if you miss the vital, the next vital doesn't spawn, you don't get the move speed, and it's like then you lose the trade really hard. So it's kind of like Irelia in a way, where if you miss the Q on the minion by 5 HP, GG. If you only do basic vitals on Fiora, like the easy hit-on ones, you're not going to get better. And if you try to do the hard ones, you're going to get killed a lot. But it's a skill you need to do. So yeah, the micro execution is really hard, and that's not even talking about the parry.
So how does Fiora win a game? What is her mid-game identity?
Monday Fiora, I think, is very snowball reliant. Like even though she scales well, you're not playing her to scale, because if you're at 20 minutes with Phage and Rev Hydra, you lose the game. Like they're just going to start Baron, right? And you have to 5v5. So normally Fioras go press the attack with Ignite and go really volatile 1 to 3 snowball heavy. Because normally your 1 to 3 is good, and then 5 to 9 you lose a lot of matchups. So snowball reliant champ, and then in mid game, pretty much the formula, you side lane until Triforce, and then you can team fight.
Interesting. So yeah, I mean, is it just that the player base has just gotten much better at punishing Fiora's power troughs? Is that why like we've seen less and less of her?
Also dodging vitals, because I think a lot of people are just better at dodging the vitals
Yeah,
now.
right.
They actually
Yeah.
understand how it works.
Yeah, it's partly that and partly just the meta. I think she's just in a bad meta. If you think about some of the best top lane champs in the game, Jayce, Rumble, Ambessa, Anivia, Varus, Vayne, they all shit on Fiora. So it's like, it's just a bad meta for her. I think, let's say next year they shake up the meta, nerf range top somehow, she'll be one of the best champs again.
Okay, and in terms of if someone wants to go on the Fiora OTP journey, what would you recommend in terms of where they should put their attention to? What are some common key errors you see?
All right, so please be at least Emerald 4 before starting the Fiora journey, or you are going to struggle. When I see people try Fiora, Riven, or Irelia below gold, I know it's just going to take like so much longer than if you just go good at key skills on an easier champ. So Emerald 4 Foundation, and then mainly focus for your 1 to 3, because you have no wave clear. So you need to be cleanly crashing your waves like Jax, or your Nexus will explode, and looking to pressure really hard level 1. So I actually think when a Fiora player is starting out, they should watch a bit more than they play. I think I've heard you guys talk about playing is more important, but I think for Fiora specifically, you need to see what they're doing in the 1 to 3. Because when I see a Fiora player just like hit the wave, go onto the guy casually, it's like, no, you need to be really pressuring this guy. Because at level 6, that Renekton, that Darius, it's just going to kill you.
So you really need to know your matchups as Fiora. You have to min-max the lane phase.
I wouldn't say the matchup spread is like super different. There are, of course, variables, but it's more like the formula. Like you have to be really pressuring them level 1 to 3, like not giving them any breathing room. When I play Jax versus Fiora, pretty much the Jax formula is you bash the wave down and crash wave 3. Then you lose trades but get push. And the Fioras are just like threatening auto, max range Q is so annoying. And I always tell myself, don't use E, because if your E's down, they'll kill you. But I don't know, they still pressure me to use it. So I think, you have to put so much pressure on the 1 to 3. And a lot of players like to be kind of chill in lane and just hit the wave and take little trades. But Fiora, you cannot chill.
Okay. Singed chippies. I'm very interested to hear your thoughts on Singed. I think of this entire top lane list, I think Singed is the best champ in the game. I think Singed is such a good top laner. I've had some really good Singed players. And it's really weird because like I'm sort of leaving them alone as a jungler, and they're just like even or just keep it up with farm, and then they're just like this menace in this team fight, and then they just like carry fights.
Yeah.
I'm really curious. I want to know how you teach Singed in a way.
Yeah.
And do you think Singed is underrated right now?
I definitely think it's underrated. I actually put him S tier on my Emerald Diamond tier list. I think this champ is so good. And
I know it.
I'm a win rate hater, but his win rate's always like top 3 in Emerald Diamond. I think he's a really, really good champ to climb in solo queue with, but I hate recommending him because you're not going to learn the game. Like I think a master Singed player would be like gold or plat on other champs because your skill set's very, very Singed specific. But if you're a long-term Singed player, you love it. Yeah, I think it's a great champ to climb with. I think GM and Chell is where it gets hard. That's why the best Singed in Korea, they all play mid lane Singed, actually. Because the matchup spreads easier in the shorter lane, right? But yeah, for top Singe, I think one of the best champs for Emerald Diamond, especially.
So what makes Singe so effective to climb in Emerald and Diamond?
The fact that you can pressure the map, pretty much. Players aren't used to top laners having impact until 15 minutes, but Singed, even from like level, not normally 1 to 3, you do it these days. Like the level 1 proxy Singe thing is outdated, it's not that good. Normally they do it at 6, because when you have ulti, you're unkillable, right? Because back in the day, proxy Singe was 0-10 and kept proxying. Now you can't do that. So, but at level 6 with tier 2 boots, you cannot die. So then you like proxy attack jungle, proxy attack mid, even run up to a dragon and TP back top if you have to. Like, it's one of the few top lane champs that can have that high impact in the game, which is probably why Nathan thinks it's the best champ in the game, because he's trying to do his Raptors and getting flipped off of it.
Well, I think Singe, if Singe, in my mind, if I'm in the game and I see Singed, the game's on a timer, right? And the moment Singe gets, I feel like once the game gets to like, let's say we're approaching two items. Singe has 2 items, and he's rocking up to that team fight with both summoners available.
Terrifying.
It's absolutely nightmare fuel.
Yeah,
Complete
it's actually the
fuel.
mid to late game for me.
Yeah, it's
it's not the early game. I know how to deal with it. Just ignore him and just take my
Yeah.
camps, or just start bot side and not start my top.
It's
camps
2
or
items
whatever.
onwards.
Yeah,
And that's when they I feel like they can single-handedly win fights. A good Singed anyway.
Yeah, if you don't have good disengage in your comp, like imagine you playing Ori with like Graves Pike, you're just gonna get flipped into the team with no mercy. So I do think there's an element. I do think he's a bit stronger, like 2 items, like Rylai's Deadman, something like that. Because late game when 80 carries and mids have 6 items, you will start to actually die.
2 items, yeah.
But 2 items, you cannot die on that champ. It's with your ulti up. It's impossible. So yeah, I definitely think that's hard to deal with.
What skills do you work on with a Singe to help with, like, let's say they've nailed the early game. They know they get to 6, they start proxying, they've got a pretty solid first, let's say 12 minutes or whatever. What are skills that Singe has to work on to translate leads into actual killed nexuses?
It's mainly team fighting. Some Singe will go too deep. Like, it's not as simple as just pop ghost and run into 5 people and flip the 80 carry. There's sometimes creative angles you need to go through a sweeper, or sometimes you just flip the front line. Sometimes you flip Viego and just get him killed. So I think it's a lot of team fighting. The mid game's straightforward. You push side. If they can beat you 1v1, you just flip them away and just run past them. But yeah, it's the team fighting that's hard.
What about W usage? You get into the details of W usage with Singe, like your little.
Yeah, definitely for lane. Yeah, on lane I talk about the poo for a bit, but I think most Singe players that come, they're quite good at laning, to be honest. They could get better at the spacing. They could be a bit more elegant, but it's mainly their team fighting where they struggle, or like range matchups, they'll go 0-3 or something. So that's something I have to work on too.
So we haven't talked much about proxying. So is Singe proxy at certain times? Like,
is
that part of the game plan?
That's what I mean. Past 6, proxy attack jungle, proxy attack mid. Yeah.
Okay, and we haven't really talked much about proxying for like a lot of these champs. So what's your view on proxying? Like, is that just sort of it's just case by case basis? It's about the game state. You don't just have that as your own strategy, or
it is a good skill. The hard part about it, students will always ask like, do I need to know where the jungler is to proxy? It's like, no, you need to know their threat. Will they actually kill you if they come? And that requires a good high level on like understanding what jungle can kill top, right? So for example, proxying versus Kayn, it almost doesn't matter what champion you're playing is, it's going to be fine. But proxying versus like a Fedrexai or Kiana, it's going to be a lot harder. So typically, proxying is great. Garen, Singe, Riven, when you have a lead in lane, you should always be looking to proxy and spread that lead across the map, not go from a 2-0 Riven to a 3-0 Riven, right? Because you're always going to maintain perfect CS and XP doing that and be more impactful than just winning 1v1.
And just to confirm, Singe is an OTP champ. You only recommend OTP in it? You wouldn't have it in a pool?
Never. Has to be OTP. That's probably like the most OTP champ on the list, I would say.
In terms of top lane. Interesting. Yeah. Okay, but you don't you would not recommend Singe to like a gold or below, or like literally emerald below. You would, is that?
They would have to come to me. They'd have to come to me pre-cooked on their Singe journey. Because like, imagine you have a plat student that like Sett and Garen. I'm not going to say, give Singe a try. It's just so weird. You're
it's
playing
so weird. You would never ever. It's just a different game. It's a mini game.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. You're not playing top lane. You're playing Singe. So it's like you have to find someone that likes Singe already.
Okay, next up we have Xin Zhao, who's on the list. I assume this is just because of a specific build, right? Isn't this life still crazy? What's the build right now?
Gunblade, I think Gunblade.
Dusk and Dawn, like something like that. I think I don't know. It's just
this is the flavor of the month. This is gone soon.
It's just cheesy, right?
It's cheese flavor of the month. I think it's better in lower ranks than higher ranks, but it can work as like a range counter pick. But yeah, it's going to be gone soon. I wouldn't too much stock into it.
Agreed. I don't think we look too much into Xin Zhao.
Next up is Pantheon. Pantheon top laner. Pantheon sort of just became a jungler more than a top laner nowadays. What happened with Pantheon? Was it the rework?
I think there's just too much sustain in the game. Like if you're a bruiser or a tank with D-Shield second wind, and Pantheon doesn't scale as well, you'd rather play a range champ like a Nivea or Vayne that'll win lane similar amount as Pantheon, but actually scale well, right? So I think there's just champs that do what he does a bit better. The exception being he does have that ulti global, but I think it's pretty hard to use consistently. I did verse the best Korean Panth recently, and it's mainly just really good at lane, right? So if you want to be a good Panth player, your laney phase just has to be cracked. But again, there's just champs that do his job better. Like back in the day, Renekton, Pantheon, the scariest lane bullies, so he's just kind of left in the dust a bit.
I feel like I kind of shed a tear for Pantheon. I love Pantheon.
Yeah, Pantheon mid as well.
I think just as like a kit, like design, like just aesthetics, like he's so cool. But like, I hope Riot do something about him, because you know how earlier you're talking about Aatrox in a way where he's just like average across the board. Like I kind of feel like Pantheon is just, I feel like he doesn't have any like X factors. I mean, I guess you could maybe say he's ultimate, but I don't know. He just feels so, just like his power spike takes so long to come online. Like, yeah, sure, you might have a strong like levels 1 and 2 or whatever, but I feel like then you lose like everything, every matchup like post 6, and then you go into this ginormous power trough, and then by the time you come on, like you do come online like post 3 items or whatever, but it like you lose every matchup. You know what I mean? Like it's so hard to get to that point. So like I don't know. I just feel.
Yeah, a good comparison. He's kind of similar overall identity-wise to Ambessa and Rumble, but those two champs are just way better. Like like fake melee range tops. They can all in after poking you down, and they look to spread their lead across the map. Like yeah, he's got the better ulti for roaming, but way worse combat power. And like you said, level 6 onward, you just actually lose lane in a lot of matchups.
Yeah, and there's no point having a roam-oriented kit if you're not getting prio.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So it's imagine Shen, but Shen losing every lane.
Yeah,
it's just like, what's the point? The Shen doesn't work, and that's why I feel like Pantheon has just been relegated to jungle now. You know, for that reason.
Yeah, there's just no reason to pick him over Ambessa or over Rumble. Same with Aatrox to Ambessa. So there's just better champs these days.
Yeah. Shed a tear.
Okay. Illaoi top lane. Now, this is typically viewed as like a low elo stomp champion. Do you still hold that opinion?
Yeah, definitely. It's just, I think below Emerald, below Gold is her best place. Most of the Illaoi one tricks are like at best high master, so you can't. It's pretty hard to get past that. The issue I have with Illaoi is like you're not very proactive. You can't really do anything. Like if they walk up and you ult them and eat them, sweet. If they try to 2v on you inside, sweet. But you can't really make your own plays. I think that's a big issue with her.
So given that you said Illaoi is a bit of a low elo stomper, would you recommend a top laner play Illaoi in the lower ranks to learn the game?
I wouldn't have her as a recommendation because she doesn't teach good skills compared to other champs. Because again, no proactive ability. It's very reactive the way you play. Like sure, you can walk up and W people, but Illaoi is very much like a little bit of a one-trick champ where you just push people onto it, like chill 1 to 5, push people onto tower and just go fishing for ease. It's not a very good tool to learn the game with.
Yeah, it sounds like, again, another mini-game champion.
Yeah.
And that can be effective in its own right. Like, you can get really good at kind of hitting all your E's and, becoming quite obnoxious in lane. But the reality is that, like, it will become a point where people know what you're doing. Your game plan is so one-dimensional. They're just like, all right, well, let's just not gank the Illaoi. Let's just let him do his thing. And we're just going to play everywhere else,
Yeah. Like, people
so, like, people kite you, but I was just going to say, like, I'm assuming what's going to happen for the people who play Illaoi in the lower elo brackets, they're not going to be thinking about how to impact the map. They're just going to get very, very, like, dialed in on just, like, hitting E's and things like that. And you feel like that skill set, it's such a unique trading pattern that it doesn't follow on to many other top laners that you may want to learn in the future.
Yeah, 100%. I've had a couple good Illaoi students make it up to master. And then, like you mentioned, people know what you do, and then they're going to really struggle if they wanted to swap from Illaoi to play other champs. So it's like, I think there will come, like, there's a cap with her. where unless
Right.
you want to be an Illaoi one trick for life, like a content creator or something, which is not the average player, then there's not real much value to pick her up. That's why I don't recommend her. But it can wait if you wanted to like climb your way from bronze to gold, like you could use her pretty well that way. Not a bad champ. And then if you go from a gold Illaoi to a gold Jax, back to bronze probably. So I think, yeah, it's going to be not really many transferable skills. It's the best way to say it.
Okay, Rumble. Now, we've already talked a lot about Rumble. Rumble's got lots of mentions in this episode so far. We are, look at the Platinum Plus stats, very low win rate, 47%. I've always thought Rumble is very hard to win games with, one of those type champions. What do you think about Rumble?
This is the only champ in the game I think is overpowered. I think it's just too strong, but for like over 2 years. It's getting annoying now. I don't want to be whining too much, but man, this champ's just too broken in lane. I do think in terms of solo queue, it's only effective in GM and Chow mainly, to be honest. Because again, you have to have that really high level micro spacing without dying to ganks. Like, I'll know straight away versing a Rumble, like, oh, this guy's LCK player, oh, this guy's in Korean Chow, like just by how they're spacing me. And when you verse the average Rumble, they might be okay at spacing and then die to ganks. And Rumble from behind, dog shit useless. But it does win pretty much every matchup. Like your best hope versing Rumble is to build a tank, go a tank with Kane and Gruken and still get shit on, but be fine. Or go a ranged champion and go even. It's like your only hope, really. I think the champ's just too good.
So okay. Well, obviously you're speaking from the perspective of, again, Grandmaster Plus here.
Yeah.
So the average, experience, so someone's queuing up in Platinum, versing a Rumble, right? What is your game? What should the average person be looking to do to beat a Rumble? What are they trying to, what weaknesses are they trying to exploit on this champion?
Definitely. So every Rumble I've seen below Master has really bad heat management. So I'd recommend anyone that hates versing that champ, just jump into Training Tool and like read the abilities and feel out the heat, because Rumble abilities without yellow heat, there's no damage. And if Rumble just overheats you and you all in him just as he drops, it's going to take ages to stack up. So it's like, there's going to be clear windows where you can punish a Rumble that's not playing the champion to a high level, and also spacing as well. The good Rumble players should be full HP and chipping away you. If you're Garen versus Rumble and you're both half HP, that's 1,000 times better for you. So trying to make it volatile if they make spacing mistakes and playing around the heat management, really important.
And I'm assuming Rumbles are dying to ganks. They're ruining their wave states with the AoE on their Q and things like that, right? Is that something you see a lot?
Yeah, bad heat management, dying to ganks is like the standard.
Yeah. Okay, so let's say you're talking to a Rumble player. How does a Rumble player, first of all, I'm just genuinely curious. How does a Rumble player go from winning lane to winning the game? What do they need to do?
So pretty much you just push out the sideway and look to fight. Team fighting can be hard. You need really high level ulti placement. You don't want to rush it. It's not the engage tool normally. Normally you follow up CC on your team is ideal. So if you see Rumble and Pro, normally they have like Nautilus or Vi or something. Really good combos. So ulti usage team fighting. Rumble, in my opinion, is like a pretty low def champ. Like you shouldn't be getting caught inside. You shouldn't be dying in fights that much. You play, unless you flash and make the hero play. But I'd say for them to really review their team fighting is the big part of it.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's really funny you say, in my opinion, Rumble shouldn't be dying that much, but I play a game of League of Legends and my Rumble is dying a lot.
I mean, I just never, I think Rumble is such a heavily skewed towards, it's like a very high pick rate in Korea, right? It's like a very, Korea have always prioritized Rumble because of its lane pressure. Obviously, people are mechanically skilled and yada, yada, yada. It's just not something that has had a lot of success in the West, I would say, traditionally, like NA and stuff like that. So do many people in the TLA even play Rumble?
Yeah, we have quite a few master players that play Rumble, to be honest, and they all get good at certain things, but struggle in others. Like some have bad heat management, but they can space quite well, and then some don't space very well, or they die to ganks. I think it's just hard to hit that balance of 100-0 trading, like while spacing, good heat management, not dying to ganks, and pushing the pace of the game. It's like hard to do all of that instead of just doing a couple of those.
When does Rumble spike and when does he fall off?
I think he's just broken the whole lane, but maybe Faded Ashes first buy. He's quite strong, and he'll fall off like late game 3 items plus. If you're even or behind, it's not good. You do need to be ahead. But yeah, I'd say anything past 2 items is not great because you mainly just build hanky AP items like Leandries and Riftmaker and stuff. So like you're not going to get the void staff death cap like crazy damage. You're mainly just like a beefcake later on.
Because I feel like the identity of Rumble, because I used to play a lot of Rumble mid, and I used to love old school Rumble. But yeah, they've really changed the identity of Rumble. I feel like they've ruined it in mid lane because it just doesn't have a lot of burst, I would say. Like they lowered the damage on Q. It's more like shred oriented. I feel like they've really pushed that champion into top more. It's way more sustained damage. It's way more like they really want that champion to not be building like full AP.
Yeah.
One shot. They want it to be kind of more sustained damage. Would you tend to agree with that?
Yeah, I think modern day Rumble is like mask stacking tankier builds, where back in the day, the old Rumble before the rework was like late game you'd get void staff death cap and be stronger at that point.
Yeah, exactly right.
The ulti would one shot everyone, but now it's not really. You don't build for like the ulti one shot. You just obliterate lane and it's kind of utility damage in a way.
Interesting.
Okay, enough of Rumble. Chippies loves Rumble. Volibear top lane. Now, Volibear top lane was one of the most frustrating experiences I had learning top lane, playing into a Volibear. I felt like I couldn't control the wave against him because he could just shove me in. I couldn't fight him because the W healing is just broken by concept. Am I just a noob? Like, what do you do against Volibear?
I wouldn't put it that way, but maybe I think against Volibear, it really depends on your matchup, actually. I think this champ's really good in certain matchups and just dog shit in others, right? So Volibear versus Gnar, you can't play the game. But Volibear versus something that has to melee range fight you, like Camille, you can't play the game. So it's going to be very polarizing what experience you have versus Volibear, depending on your champion. I think right now, but he is kind of an OTP champ. Like in terms of counter picks, you'd rather just have a Renekton or something like that than Volley, as he has more consistent value and he's better at team fighting. So yeah, it's like a one-trick champ where you're going to have a good day and a bad day pretty commonly.
It's such an odd champion to me.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, again, like you're a champion that is like, looks like just like this fat bruiser thing, but it can actually just completely obliterate a lot of lanes. But on the flip side, you look at it in some games and you just want to just get me out. It can't team fight. It just gets kited. It just is so easy to just disengage against. So like, is it a champion that is? It used to be really popular, right? Like a lot of people used to play volley top, didn't they?
It's because of the builds, wasn't it? It's the builds.
Yeah, I don't really see it that much anymore. And when I do see it, they're building dog shit items. They're trying to do like the Fury, the quick blades and stuff like that, and they just get one shot because it's the most fun build, perma stunning people. Where the good Volibears normally do a more tanky build, like AP or like Iceborne or something.
Interesting.
So Volibear, do you recommend Volibear at any stage? Let's say someone wants to, you say just OTP Vol. I mean, you said it's an OPTP champ, so I guess in general, we don't really like to recommend OTP.
No.
Yeah, it's pretty rare.
Volley has to call you, right? It has to call to you.
It's pretty rare. Maybe below Emerald if they're like, oh, I like playing Sett, but he always gets banned. Like you could squeeze in some Volibear, pretty similar, that type of champ. But yeah, pretty rare.
So identity winning games with Volibear, like let's say people do want to go down the Volibear OTP journey. How do you get good at it? What makes a great Volibear player?
I think mainly knowing your matchup spread. Because there's this really good Volibear in Korean when he versus like, he'll do 4 points in Q and like, that type of thing. Having little and rush tier 2 boots, like cooldown boots so that you can flash and they flash too and then you have flash advantage. Like there's little weird things you can do to get through the hard matchups and hard games. If you want to be a good Volibear player long term, you have to know how to be useful in the hard games, right? Like if you versus Lilia, it's going to be super hard. If you don't know what to do, you're going to be 0-10 and ruin the game for your team, right? So playing in the hard games, I would say winning games on Volibear usually looks like snowball through lane, keep your opponent stuck under tower. If you can dive them, sweet. If not, you look for like a flank 5v4 flash on the back line, something like that. But yeah, if you're not ahead, your team fighting's so terrible and you can't break the tower 1v1 if you're behind. So a lot of laning skill is needed.
Okay. Next up, we have Olaf. Now,
Right.
you could talk about Olaf for hours, Chippies. Me and you, we did a Challenger versus Emerald episode. You can look at that. We'll pop up on this YouTube video here. That was really fun. That was a really fun video. And the game that you brought, that VOD, was showing how to play Olaf when your team's just absolutely like rotting, like 1v9 type style. You're obviously a really big fan of Olaf. Where's Olaf right now in the meta? When would you recommend Olaf? Is Olaf just a counter pick champion?
So cut me off at about 1 hour. We were talking about Olaf all day, but
Yeah.
he's my current favorite champ. I used him on my climb to Career Chal this year because I think he was in a really good spot. I think recent patches is a bit harder for him because people are playing like Anivia and Storm Raider Surge is quite good. I feel like his value went down a bit. So I put him down from like A tier to B tier or something. Still a great champ. You can get Chal on him. Like I think he's a champ that's good from gold to Chal. I really like recommending him. I'm the Olaf salesman in TLA because I think he's a champ that you can main, but he's also a game-breaking counter pick. Like if you have 50 Olaf games and they pick a Mumu Leona, you're going to win that game no matter what your matchup is. The champ's too good. So I think it's a great champ for anyone to add to their pool.
So when you say counter pick, you're talking about heavy CC melee, mobile champions, like lots of CC. Like, what are some comps you'll look at? Like the Nautilus supports, the Rel supports. What about, you're talking about supports there? What about the top lane?
Yeah, you're not
matchups?
even talking about the top lane matchup. Is that not matter as with Olaf?
It does matter, but I mean, for all top lane champs, if you're in a good matchup, you're happy. So that's why I like to talk about the comp as a whole. So mid, it's like TF or even Lissandra, like Andy. These champs are their whole kit's based around CC is my main thing. Right? It's my main stick there. Even though Lissandra has a bit of mobility, it's like her W and ulti is her whole kit. TF stun, like Andy said, but you wouldn't want to verse Ari because a lot of mobility, even though she has CC as well. So like Syndra would be better. And then jungle would be straightforward, like Zac, Sejuani. Low damage, high CC is great. So for AD carries like Ashe and Varus, lower damage than like Jinx or Philios, high CC. And then support straightforward, any melee. For top, it's pretty much anything that's that's not cringe, like no Anivias, no Jayce, no Rumbles. So if you verse a melee champ that doesn't have a bunch of range in their kit, you're pretty happy, but mobility is key. Like Olaf versus Sion, you're pretty much guaranteed to get a solo kill, pretty much. So if they have low mobility, they can't escape you, really.
Okay, so for your Olaf customers, you've sold to the, Olaf to people, the people you coach into the TLA. How do you teach this champion? What are some narratives, and what are the common mistakes you see with Olaf?
So remember with Jayce, we said you don't want to try win lane, just stay full HP, don't die to ganks. Olaf is the opposite. You need to just fully send it. I think what I like to teach the starting point is the formula for Olaf, because even me playing in Chal lobbies, when I play most of my matchups, I want a 3-wave crash and base, because Olaf doesn't have enough mana to stay in lane for a long time. So I think his matchup spread in terms of variables is pretty low, which is quite nice. Because if every game you 3-0 crash base, come back longsword, get level 4, run people down, you can imagine an Emerald or a Plat student, that's going to work almost every single time. So I normally work on their formula, their 1-4, 1-5, and then I get super critical on their axe management and summoner spell usage. Those are the big 3.
What summoners do you go?
Goes flash pretty much always, but you can go exhaust into like Riven or Volibear, stuff like that. That they have to all in you to be useful.
And is this a champion like Darius, like flash go, like you're purely reliant on summoner spells to do shit in the mid game fights?
Yeah. Now that you get free TP at 12 minutes, you never take the actual teleport. So your summoner spell is really important. And like Darius, I always complain, like stop split pushing. If you get caught and lose your ghost, it's worse than losing your first child. Like you need your summoner spells on Olaf. It's so important.
Jesus.
You got to have that intensity, because I've lost games where I'm carrying the entire game. I make one mistake inside and lose flash, not even dying, give my shutdown. And then I couldn't carry that Baron fight without flash. It makes a massive difference.
Because that's the biggest weakness of Olaf, right? Is the fact that you have no mobility, right?
Yeah.
You have no dashes or anything like that, right? So really, really being tight on those summoner usage. So now Olaf is not an overly popular champion. Would you say that this is something that is more, you're just kind of getting a lot of people in TLA to play it, and just outside of TLA is not really seen? And if not, why is that the case? Why do you think Olaf's not that popular?
I think he's not super difficult to execute, but you'd always, like if you're playing Olaf versus Garen and like gold, Olaf versus Sett, I think normally those popular champs would win versus Olaf. So the execution, it's like, you need to know the formula, right? For someone that doesn't watch educational content and doesn't just playing, you'd always rather one of those easier champs. Even like Darius is more intuitive to play, I think. Because on Olaf, it seems, I've got Axe. I'll just throw axes at people and poke them down. You're going to go after 3 Qs and be stuck in lane useless the whole game. So I think the resource management and just not having a clear idea of what to do. Like people see Olaf like he used to be, where he's all in people level 1. But in my opinion, that's not the best way to play him. You normally play, like I said, for early wave control, good farm, and then level 4. Because every point in Q you get on Olaf, It's like very efficient because if you're throwing 4 Qs at them and you have 2 or 3 points in Q, it just seems like it's a more efficient ability than 3 points can mill Q, right? So normally you do play for Ornns, you do make it volatile, but people don't like waiting for their level 4, their level 5. And then they just always go I think.
I love this is one of my favorite parts of this episode, you know, these videos we do, Nathan, is that every coach we talk to in all these roles, we all have like one champion that we feel is underrated, underplayed, teaches a lot about the game and gets results.
So passionate about
and so
certain
passionate about it. Like I love Echo and I love Swain. These are champions that I feel like are underplayed, underappreciated, and can
underplayed, underutilized. They people playing at like 20% capacity.
But it's always that like the reference points are not intuitive to figure out. But once you figure out those reference points and you have like a formula or a way to like view the champion, it kind of pieces everything together and it becomes this like masterpiece. And it sounds like you've really done that with Olaf. So, you know, if anyone's watching this, you know, guys, check out, you know, get coaching with Chippy's Olaf. Get on the Olaf bandwagon and get some LP. It's just waiting.
Definitely.
It's so formulaic. That's why I love the Challenge vs Emerald video. And obviously we have the Olaf guide in the TLA as well that teaches all this. It really is beautiful formula and it all makes sense. You know, when I thought about Olaf, I don't really see people play because I see no one play Olaf like Chippy's does.
No.
Right? But it's so simple when Chippy's puts it together.
Yeah.
It's like no one's just figured it out.
No one's figured it out yet.
Because no one's put the time to figure it out.
Yeah, it's what I call, he's a good guide champion. Like Irelia is a bad guide champ. Even if you watch the best guide in the world by Irelia King, you're not going to be good at Irelia. But Olaf, after 100 games with that knowledge, you can make it work really well, even as a counter pick in your pool.
Okay, next up is Riven. Riven top lane. Now, Riven is, again, one of those champions that people love the idea of playing. One of the coolest champs. I mean, to be honest, the pick rate doesn't show it. It's a very low pick rate. You know, we're at number 35 on the list right now. Abysmal win rate in Plat Plus, 46%. So what's going on? Is Riven... what's the difference between Riven and like an Irelia?
I think pretty similar. The main issue of Riven, her biggest weakness, I always say, you have no sustain. So if you take a bad trade, you're kind of screwed. So it's very punishing on bad mistakes because you have no way to if you're not strong enough to kill them, you can't get the wave in. Because if you use your spells in the wave in front of them, they'll just kill you. So if you take a couple bad trades and you're low, you get really jailed quite easily. So I still think this is probably the best champion that's not like a new champ, you know? So I always say range advantages is key. Rumble, Jayce, Ambessa, all OP, but Riven's the only champ that's like an old school champ that's still really good. And you see Viper get like 3,000 LP in a rank 1 EU. You just, with like cracked win rate, rank 1, 2, 3, you can't do that on any other champ. Like it has to be Riven. So I think, yeah, again, really high skill ceiling and really hard to learn.
So what makes Riven so effective in solo queue, Chippies?
Because you see Rivens, like, I mean, obviously the Riven win rate here is terrible for Plat Plus, but there's so many famous Riven one tricks that have gotten to rank 1 on servers.
Yeah. I would say her skirmishing is probably the best out of any top lane champ. Like Riven, the early game skirmish, if you imagine, just insane. And a snowboard Riven, you can't deal with her. Like Riven, I know the build's a bit different now, but like Sundered Sky Riven and stuff like that, it's just so disgusting, jumping around with shields, low cooldown. I think she's probably the best skirmisher in the game. And solo queue is very messy, a lot of skirmishes, which is why you don't really see her in competitive much, because it's more disciplined, more like 5v5 team fighting. And the fact that not only do you have extremely high threat in lane to snowball, but she's a champ that can proxy and has high threat. Like Kerr's probably experienced playing Ori, just farming, and this Riven just flashes on her from after proxying. It's so hard to play.
I said this on another episode. I can't remember what it was. I said Riven is one of the... If Riven is ahead and Riven gets kills, Riven is one of the most disgusting champions to deal with in the game. She is so difficult to shut down once she's snowballed. Yeah,
I'd probably call it the best snowballing champ in top lane. Like if you're fed on Riven 3-0, you'd rather be Riven over everything.
Yeah, I mean, being on the receiving end of it, a Riven that's come into a fight, a dragon fight or anything, it is one of the most terrifying things in the game. The amount of mobility, the amount of damage, the amount of threat, and a great Riven that knows how to use flash and hold flash and get maximum value from their flash is incredibly hard to deal with. So why is Riven like what you've said before about like you have no sustain, if your wave is screwed, you get stat check, you're screwed, but let's say that aside. Let's say lane aside, right? Let's say someone knows their matchups, they're taking good trades, they're getting ahead. Is Riven a difficult champion to close out a game with? Let's say, we've just said that they're really snowbally, but if they were that snowbally, surely, there has to be some skills that these Riven players are doing in the mid game. So what do people struggle with specifically in the mid game with Riven?
Yeah, it's definitely fight selection and team fight execution. I think it's pretty easy to fix. There's some Rivens that oversplit push, but Riven's not going to sit there hitting tier 2. It's an easy fix, but one of the most important mid-game skills ever, I always say on any champ, is you look at a fight and you think this looks good, this looks bad. But you probably experience it too in your academies. 99% of players see a fight on my screen, I'm in. And then we pause 10 seconds before, like, your mid's 1 HP, your support's in base, like, do you need this fight? So you need to choose high-quality fights on Riven, or you're just going to give your shutdown over straight away. And if you fall behind the curve, you're useless. You're a full damage champ that builds pretty squishy items. Like, you need to be ahead of the curve to abuse Sunder Sky, Death Stance, your mobility, your shields. So I think that's a big part. And then fight execution. I always say to our Riven students, like, you're not AP Malphite, because they always try to engage. Just flash WQ3, trying to make a montage. So I think, playing the fight slow, holding your abilities, playing on the edge, and then like, boom, okay, Leon has done someone else, I can go in. That's a hard skill to learn too. And it punishes you way more on Riven than like a Renekton or something, where you're a bit beefier. It's not as bad if you get behind compared to Riven. So yeah, I think those are the main reasons.
Yeah, very common to the mistakes that I see with Viego players. Like they try and go flash W flash forward or whatever it is. Or
that's how you get
fights.
Montage clips, Nathan.
Yeah, you can get cool montage clips.
How are they going to get a montage if they don't do that?
Well, they could every 1 in 10 games, and the other 9 games they lose.
Yeah.
But
that's not fun.
Gives a secondary engage, more of a cleanup. I call it like the janitor mindset. You're one of the best janitor cleanup champs in the game. Like you're sitting there mopping the school hallways, Riven coming in when everyone's burnt abilities is probably the scariest thing in League of Legends.
So what rank, if you are, again, let's say Riven has called to you and you want to be a Riven player, what rank would you start to really think it's okay to kind of follow that calling?
Yep, I get a lot of students ask this, like, Riven's my favorite champion, but I'm just playing Darius for now or something. I think Emerald 4. Emerald 4 is my favorite foundation. That's where people have really good fundamentals of, like, they're not going to miss back timers very often. Wave control is going to be solid. They're not just going to, like, mindlessly team fight. If you got to Emerald, unless you're playing a super one-trick champ like Warwick or something, your foundation's going to be good, and then play your Irelia, then play your Riven. But when I see Rivens in Bronze and Silver, I just know it's like, you're losing so many games to small micro or just ability usage mistakes or missing a back timer. You're going to be stuck here for so long. Just get to Emerald with Sett or Garen, Shen, Olaf, and then move on to Riven when you've got a really good foundation.
Now on to Kayle. Kayle in the top lane chippies. Now, another controversial take that was from our last episode about learning champions and complex champs versus easy champs. You listed Kayle as an easy champion, which people got quite angry about.
Yeah.
So do you want to elaborate on that, Jayce?
Definitely. I think Kayle is the best champ to use to learn spacing, right? One thing I will agree with them on, that I don't know if they mean it this way, but spacing as a skill is really hard, right? It's a really high skill ceiling thing to work on. But Kayle out of all range champs is the easiest there because the reference points are extremely clear. 1 to 6, base, get Swifty boots, and then you can start kiting people, right? Then you win and just scale. The difference between Kayle and, like, let's say Kennen is Kennen, you have that burden of, like, you need to win lane and you need to be super proactive, TP, you have a lot to do. But Kayle, you can just farm and win a lot of games. Like, if you have 0 deaths on Kayle, you're going to win more than half your games. So it's like, it's not very punishing to learn in that way. And her ability is all super easy to use. It's just spacing is the hard part. But that applies to every champ in the game, even Melee's, like we talked about being elegant. So I wouldn't say Kayle specifically has anything really difficult to work on.
Interesting. That's actually a really interesting take because I haven't really heard her framed like that before. Because in a way, you are right, because she doesn't have anything else to really worry about. You know that if you kind of get to, the mid game with good farm, with low deaths, the game is kind of going to play it out. You know exactly what you're trying to do from a reference point perspective. You know exactly when you're strong and when you're weak. So it actually, in a way, cuts out, or if you do need to learn or want to learn spacing, it cuts out all the fat, essentially, right? Which is, it's a really good take, Chippy. I really like that. I haven't heard of the champ mentioned like that. Now, I don't think you're saying that, I think it's important to note, in terms of like, yes, that is a difficult skill to work on. Spacing is probably one of the most difficult skills in League of Legends to work on, but it's your best shot. It honestly is probably your best shot at learning that skill.
No, definitely. We have a lot of students have a ton of success on Kayle when I just roast them every day about their spacing. That's like the top thing I focus on because they know I don't want to die. I want good farm. I'm not going to die to gank. Like they know that. That's like Kayle 101. But the main thing I roast them about is spacing and then over farming, pretty much. Like there'll be a team fight where their team's doing well and they're like, oh, I'm not level 16 yet. It's like, it doesn't matter. Just ult your 5-0 Viego, like he'll carry him, that type of thing. So knowing when to deviate from the farm till 16 game plan might be a hard thing for some people. But as some of you think about where it's like, if I win the fight, even without 16, I should be there. I think a lot of people can come to the right conclusion.
What rank should people start considering Kayle? And is Kayle an OTP champion?
I think any rank up until Master, you can consider her. Definitely. I think she works everywhere. And no, I don't think OTP champ. I think if you're starting in lower ranks, so starting gold and below, you should just OTP her short term. But no, she's definitely not an OTP champ. I think there's a lot of players that have Kayle in her pool, like Raider even. He picks her in good Kayle games, makes her work really well. So yeah, I don't think you need to fully commit, super long term.
Yeah, Kayle's a pretty cool champ because, you're saying it can work in all the ranks up to Master, but also, you see like the Nemesis, the Desperate Nasus, like people have gotten really high with Kayle on the ladder as well. Like,
well, they're playing it mid. I do think top is slightly different.
You just can't get to that top lane.
What do you think, Chip? Let's say, what do you think, top versus mid Kayle?
I think mid Kayle you can definitely consistently get Chal on it, and it's very consistent. But top, even if you're amazing at Kayle, you are going to get 0-3 games sometimes. If you blind pick Kayle and they have Jax at least, like you're going to die. Guaranteed, no matter how good you are. So it's like, that's why I don't recommend it past Master unless it's only as your
because you can minimize more in mid, I think, because the shorter lane, easy to get tempo resets. A lot of the mid champs, like you're just gonna get D shield, like in second win. Like you can always find a way to minimize. Like Kayle never struggles to not die in mid. A good Kayle in mid anyway.
Mid,
but in top, I think it's a different.
You're not gonna get tower dove. That's a big thing, I think. Like, no one dives mid. Top, you're gonna have some level 3 Alistair just headbutt you into the wall if you're playing Kayle into a hard matchup, right? So yeah, it can get really hard that way to play it every game. That's why for Master Plus, I like when students have like a main champ, a main blind, and then Kayle is their secondary. Is way better.
And does Kayle R usage? What is a good Kayle R versus a bad Kayle R? Is Kayle R really self-explanatory? Just R whoever's getting targeted in fights. How do you teach Kayle R usage?
So Kayle R is not for saving people. It's a tactical nuke. You just want to blow up everyone. That's why you build like Death Cap and high AP items. You mainly want to use it as a nuke. Like sure, if they go on your 8-0 Jinx, save it, right? That's self-explanatory, but typically you just want to ulti like a Xin Zhao that goes in and they just hit 3 people with it. But that's the best way to use it consistently.
Interesting. Yeah, because I guess when you do have a lot of AP, it does do a shitload of damage. That's actually a really good point. It actually explains why you see so many Kayles when they do ult themselves, they flash into the middle.
Run in.
They run in, they don't run out.
That's a tactical nuke.
Yeah, nuke.
Yeah, I find the bad Kayles that I verse, they're scared all the time.
Yeah.
But the good Kayles, and like they are themselves defensive, they're running away with R. But the good Kayles, they're trying to solve the fight by just doing shitloads of damage, right? And they might die, they might come, but even if they die, they've done so much DPS in the fight, they win, their team cleans up anyway, right? So I find it's very easy to tell between a good and a bad Kayle, just by the way they fight in the mid game, team fighting.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, another new age champion, which just shocks me, just so low on this list.
No, you're not skipping Camille, Nathan. We have Camille. We have Chippy's baby Camille.
Sorry, we did. We're going back to...
When I think of Chippies, I think of Olaf. I think of Camille. I think of a few others. Camille's definitely in the conversation.
You got Challenger in our first boot camp with Camille, right? When she was released, was that?
Yeah. Korea, she came out. Yeah, I remember that.
2016.
2016? Yeah, we're 2016. End of 2016.
Yeah, so you were like one of the first players in the world to actually pick up Camille and actually learn Camille to a challenger level.
I remember all the pros I was versing were building like Sunfire cape on her and shit. I'm like, no, stop that. But I played her straight away. As soon as she came out, was my favorite champ for ages. But then when we came back and played our split, she just got banned every game anyway, so didn't get to use it that much.
So what is Camille's identity?
Camille, I would say you're strong 1 to 5, and then dog shit terrible 6 to 9 in most lanes. So you're mainly playing as a way to snowball your jungler 6 to 9. That's why people don't like Camille at the moment. It's like a jungle's meal, like food system, jungle Uber Eats. Like you can make your jungler fed, but you can't win 1v1. And then in mid game, you have to maintain good farm while making picks, pretty much. A big trap students fall into is like, I always say Camille has engage abilities, but you're not engaged. If you ulti 5v5 with Rav Hydra, you're going to get one shot instantly. So you're mainly just pushing inside, making them answer and make picks, but she has some of the highest threat in the game. As a mid laner, you probably feel Camille is just a nightmare for Victor, Syndra, or you can't play. So yeah, it's all about maintaining good farm inside while proactively making picks.
It's a bit of an odd champ, I think. It's a bit of it kind of can do a lot, right? You have engage, but you're not a primary engage. You kind of can duel people, but you're not the greatest duelist. But I think one of the things that Camille's always struggled with is wave clear. You're also a very poor wave clear. And I think that's always been the hamstringing element of Camille. So where would you say Camille is? Is she like a high-low champion? Is she a low-elo? Like what? Where? I can't actually. I genuinely don't know. Like what is? When is Camille the most effective?
She's in the best Emerald and Diamond. That's her best place. I actually think she's a really good champion in those 2 ranks. I think past Master Tier, you're going to be versing Varus, Jayce, Rumble, etc. every game. But Emerald Master, Emerald Diamond, you don't verse them very often. And when you do, they're not very good. And they're just going to die to ganks and stuff like that. So yeah, Emerald Diamond is the best. Below Emerald can work. But again, it's going to be easier to do the same thing on like Garen or something.
Why does she struggle below Emerald?
Below Emerald, just you don't have that ease of execution. Like you have no wave clear, no sustain. And mana cost can be annoying sometimes. And in team fights, your abilities aren't intuitive. Like every Camille student I've had at day 1, it's always ELT get 1 shot, right? Pretty much. So that's a hard habit.
Suicide bomber.
Yeah, it's like with Malphite, the ulti is intuitive to use. If you hit 3 people, it's good, right? But with Camille, it's not like if I ulti the carry, it's good. You have to know where everyone is. All of your team, all them. They have to have abilities down that will stop you. So that can be hard to read.
Yeah, a lot of map awareness. So in terms of the common mistakes you see with the Camille, where do you really want people to focus to get results with this champ?
I think mainly team fight. I think a lot of our Camille students are great at laning. I think it's the mid game, like they'll over or under split push, mainly under side lane, like they'll just group too much, running around with Triforce and just getting 1 shot. But yeah, it's all about creating numbers advantages. I always like to say, Camille, awareness of your own team can be more important than the enemy team. Because if you ult someone and 2 people aren't there, it's like, you're useless, right? Because they're not playing Camille. You're the only one playing Camille. They can't fly 2 screens across the map and follow you up. So I think you should really, any Camille player, be hypercritical on your skirmishing and team fighting. But that's not sexy. Like, people don't like working on team fighting. If I make team fighting guides, they don't do good. People only care about macro and lane, right? So, but Camille team fighting is just too important.
I feel like Camille is the definition of like a multi-threat champion. Like if you're paired with other divers, your life is so easy. If you're the soul dive, it's so difficult. Like I kind of view it when I'm playing a champion, like let's say Vex or something. Like if I've got like a Camille on my team and a Leona Kaiser and all these things going in, I can probably be a little bit rough around the edges and I'm going to do a lot of work. But if I'm the soul dive, I've got like I got like a Sion top or something, or like a Garen top, and I've got like basically no engage, like a Lulu whatever bot. I feel like it's very difficult to kind of have impact in the mid game or in my team fights. So would you say Camille is a champion that people should have in their pool, like a core 2-3, or to get results you kind of really need to dial in an OTP?
You can have her in your pool for sure, like a 2 or a 3. I wouldn't pick her up from scratch these days. But if she's in your pool, it can definitely work. Like if you pick her in a free game, you get to Triforce when you're even, and your comp's good, like you mentioned. Like Camille with Rakan, Zach, or Camille Gallia, right? If right now we queued up for
Camille
a duo,
Gallia,
we can't lose. So I think, it's a really good champ to have in your pool. Like even now, I'll play it if I see Gallia, I'm like, all right, let's go, let's send it. Because there are just certain comps where Camille's really good.
Okay. Zehen. 38 on this list. This is the new champion Riot has made last year. And I think Zehen is such a good champ. Win rate struggling in Platinum Plus. Did it just get nerfed too much? What happened to Zilean?
The meta.
Was Zilean was popular? The meta, okay.
Yeah. So Zilean, I really like this champ as well. I think he's similar to Darius in a way where if you pick him in the right spot, it just breaks the game. So if you verse Sion by Silas or something, it's unlosable. You're always going to win because you just stack your passive for free and just 1v9, right? Champ scale is insane. But the other end is true as well. If you play versus a Nivea top with like Azir mid, you're going to be useless. Like, you're going to do almost nothing. So I think that's why people don't like the champ, because they'll have games where they're 1v9, games where they're useless. In this meta, there is a lot of Vayne, Varus, and Nivea, all hard for Zilean.
So what's Zilean's laning like?
Laning is hard to teach because everyone thinks, I'm Zilean, I want to stack my passive. But versus a human, you can't stack your passive in lane. It has to be,
People don't just sit there and caveman, right?
Yeah,
they don't just caveman back here.
So you have to be a bit more elegant yet again. Like, you have to take short trades with like max range EQ, click away. If they go on, you go fishing for Q2s. Because the OP thing about him is, when you hit Q1, you can use your Q2, right? But you can wait ages before Q2ing. You wait like not 10 seconds, but just exaggerating. You wait like 10 seconds and then Q2, and then you hold the Q2 for 10 seconds. So it's like you're zoning them off the way for so long. You have to play that kind of like short trade zoning minigame. But people just try to play it like it's Darius and try to ghost people down the lane, but that's never going to work.
Yeah, it's one of those champs that trick you, right?
Yeah.
I think he's very
straight into it. It's like, okay, I meant to stack up my passive and that's really good for me. But the way my trade pattern works in the early lane, I need to go in and out. But then in the mid game, I need to be hitting the front line like a Darius, like stacking my, Darius stacking bleeds, Zilean stacking passive. So that switch is just really confusing for people.
Definitely.
When does Zilean spike?
I'd say one item, like Triforce level 11, like when you got your quest done, get level 10, level 11, Triforce, you're really, really strong. And then again, your favorite, the Death's Dance level 16, Second Awakening.
3 items, yes. The Second Awakening. I like this terminology, Second Awakening. I coach so many, Zilean jungles, because Zilean's popped up obviously in the jungle as well. And the amount of games I've seen where they've like done pretty average in the early to mid game, but just operation 3 items, and they just become a different champion. I'm like, you are popping off. Just get to 3 items, you will win the game.
Yeah.
I feel like Zilean's R is one of the best abilities in the game. Is it not an incredibly good ability?
People don't know how to use it. How meant to use it? I think people don't know how to use it.
So good.
You want to react to major spells. Like if they via ult you and you ult that, fight over, you win. If you ulti the Alistair combo, like you want to tank a major ability with it because you don't get CC'd, you pretty much don't take any damage. So for example, an easy way to explain it, when you play versus Jackson lane, 1 to 5 is really hard, but at 6, if he ever Qs onto you with E, just ulti. Even if he doesn't die, just ulti his E, you obliterate the trade. So team fighting is the same. You want to kind of pressure stack up and then ulti their combo or ulti follow up your team.
Seems like a champion that, again, scales heavily with game understanding.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like my intuition, I don't know a lot about the champion, but my intuition is that it's going to be one of those champs that a lot of pros are just going to be very good at. It's going to like be picked like as a niche pick. And then, but pros aren't going to be like the best at it. Because again, just scales with game understanding.
He's in a weird spot. I'd call him an OP champ in the wrong meta. Like he's just bad in this meta. But if the meta shifted and every game top was like, I don't know, Darius, Olaf, Camille or something, like he'd be really good. It's just the wrong meta.
Okay, so let's say we're on an alternate timeline. Okay, and in this alternate timeline, Nathan doesn't main Rek'Sai. I'm a support main. But you're still playing top.
Yeah.
And in this top line, in this alternate universe, any champion in top that has range is banned.
Oh, there we go.
They can't
You're not allowed to lock in, or you can't lock it in.
Nivea, there's no Varus, there's no Vayne. Where is Zilean?
Is Zen the best
in
champ
that
of the game?
reality?
Man,
Is Zilean one of the best champions?
You're getting all the top laners of the world excited right now. But I would say S tier. S tier, if there's no range, he just becomes S tier straight away.
Instantly.
Yeah.
Well, we need to invent some sort of device to get us there, because I think that would be a very fun reality to be in.
Top lane quest, range champs just get smited. They go up there.
Or if you lock in a ranged champion, you like lose half your stats or whatever.
Yeah. Sign me up.
Don't gain LP for winning. Just
Yeah. Okay. Next up, we have Gragas.
Greg.
Gragas top lane.
Charlie's a big fan of Gragas top.
Charlie's a
He's
big
not here,
Gragas top lane.
But if he was
fan.
here, he would be yelling at the top of his lungs, screaming about Gragas.
Yeah. I think this
Where
champ-
is he at?
He's just left in the dust too. Like if you think back in the day, everyone hated Gragas. Now you just don't see him because there's just better neutralizer champs. He's pretty much a good neutralizer into blind pick Jax's, blind pick Camille's, that type of thing. You can go even pretty well. But there's just champs that do his job better. And there's no great build for him right now. Like he had Everfrost before, but now he doesn't really have anything.
So he just that's his identity, right? Gragas is the neutralizer. He was meant to be picked like someone picks something top that he needs to play weak side. He needs to chill, and basically just kind of be a team fighting menace, right? That's kind of what he was there to do. What champs have taken his place? Who plays the neutralizers now?
I'd say Cassante would be. He's the new ultimate peel tank. Like you'd always rather Cassante than Gragas. Another one would be like Yorick into ranged, where before you'd pick Gragas into range, you can do Comet, but Yorick is just a better version. I think he is underrated though. I don't think his pick rate should be this low because again, he does well into range and it's a heavy range meta. But yeah, not really many people are blind picking like Jax or something like that you want to neutralize.
So what is Gragas really good into? What are his like, let's say top 5 matchups?
Probably Jax is a big one for sure. I think you'd do well into something like Teemo because you can just poke him down ultimate. So a mobile ranged or even, Jax. So champs that have to jump onto to be useful or a mobile ranged. Another one would be something like Malphite because you just out-sustain him, keep him stuck in lane, proc demolish in front of his face. So those would probably be 3 or 4 of the best ones.
Okay.
All right, this next champ is an interesting one. Cho'Gath. Cho'Gath top lane.
God.
I see Cho'Gath pop off sometimes. Where's Cho'Gath at the moment?
So this was actually the most fun champ guard I've ever made was Cho'Gath because he had the Halo Blades and like Irelia's build, but they nerfed his Q. So your Q didn't one-shot the casters anymore at level 7. So he did take a bit of a back seat. I think this champ's underrated. I think he's really good for below Master, maybe below Diamond. But above that, people will just dodge your Qs and you're going to get shit on by like Anivias and, Vayne. It's unplayable. So there's too many unplayable matchups to blind pick him. And as a counter, there's just better champs.
So Cho'Gath's a great champ up until Master tier.
Maybe up until Diamond. Let's say it like that.
So what makes him effective in those Elo brackets?
I like that with Halo Blades, you can play a grit. Like you can actually push for early game advantages. Halo Blades Cho does have a lot of threat and lane, and he scales well. So if you get a lead, you can move around with the high movement speed build and just make picks. I think he's quite easy to play in team fights too. I like to explain, you play more like artillery. Like you're not running at people trying to kill them. You're just sitting back, chucking Qs, making it hard for them to play. So it's like very clear reference points and quite a strong lane phase, to be honest. Like infinite sustain is broken by concept again, and his passive's just so good. So I think if you verse somebody that doesn't have super high level spacing on your Qs or wave control to draw you out of the tower, you can win a lot of lanes.
What's his build at the moment?
Build at the moment? That's a great question. I actually haven't seen Cho'Gath much recently. I think the Irelia
I don't know what
build's
the hell he
gone.
would build.
People just build tank now, I think.
Right.
Or Rockabout. Actually, Rockabout.
That's what I was thinking. Rockabout. Yeah, that's what I was thinking about as well. So would you say Cho'Gath is, because again, when I'm thinking Cho'Gath, I'm thinking again of a champion that might be okay in lane. It might, I guess, die to ganks. Usually Cho'Gath dies to ganks. But then struggles in mid-game closing out games. How does a Cho'Gath close out a game?
It's mainly through team fighting. You just push outside, go to the objective early. You don't want to be face checking as Cho, like a mobile, easy to kill. So you rock up to the objective early, help your team get vision, kill them when they walk in, and just force dragons, force barons, because you're always going to win the smite war. If it's a 50-50, you just eat it. But yeah, it's mainly just making them come to you. So you have to be really good at getting to objectives early and punishing people when they face check your vision. Because Cho'Gath Q best spell in the game if it couldn't miss, right? So if you have vision control, it's really impactful.
I feel like that's not what I see my Cho'Gath doing solo queue. Yeah. They're either staying in the side lane too long, they're getting caught in the side lane, they're behind in tempo, they're never at the neutrals early, and then they're just fucking useless. So shout out to the Cho'Gath that know how to play the game.
Yeah, know how to get to a goddamn objective early. Just Cho'Gath putting his body in the river location.
Scary.
Yeah. Helps me a lot as a jungler, especially like Viego players or whatever. Like they just really would appreciate that. Get to the goddamn, use your body, especially when you're goddamn stacking up your passive, your R insanely high.
Yep, definitely.
Okay, next champion we've got is Urgot.
Urgot, friend of the show.
Friend of the show.
I love me some Urgot.
Me and Curtis and Charlie were all massive Urgot salesmen in the early
days. I don't know anymore, but back in the early days, we were best buddies.
Do you think Urgot is great for teaching the game now?
I think he's good. I wouldn't put him on the same level as like Garen, Sett, Mord, those guys, because you are a ranged champ. But I think it can be good training wheels for being a ranged top player because you still need to use spacing. The problem the problem I have with Urgot students is they just play him like a melee. Like they're not poking people for CS. They're not maintaining it priority because this, long story short, for a melee like Darius or Olaf, bounce the way back, run them down. But Urgot, you don't really want that. You want to chip away at them, and then just go for the flash flip when they're low, right? So the wave control is a bit different. So that's why I don't quite recommend them. It's like a bit different to the average melee bruiser.
So is Urgot's got a pretty okay win rate at the moment. I mean, low pick rate, so they probably could be bolstered up by some OTPs. It typically is only played by OTPs. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, mainly only OTPs play it. I think it's a great champ though. I think it's actually quite strong. But maybe the mid is a bit harder for him. Like you don't want to miss Niveas and Barrett. I guess no one does except those guys. But yeah, I think typically, he's quite strong.
Is it played? Do you see it at all in your games in Master Plus?
Yeah, there's like 3 or 4 GM Urgot OTPs, maybe a couple that I see. It does feel quite strong.
Okay. What do they do really well?
The level 1, you can't play the game. Like they don't let you breathe at all. I think when I see my students play it, they're not leveraging that level 1 power. Like maybe they'll flip the guy if they farm and then click away and that's it. But don't let them breathe. Like level 1's so strong and you have to maintain priority that whole time, punish every time they farm. I think that's a really important skill. Just like really squeezing that range advantage you have because you're not a melee champ. Like you are a range champion that has the all-in of, a melee champ. So you need to use that range advantage extremely well.
So I did the video with Quant that will pop that up there as well, the Urgot OTP in NA. And the champion just beautifully taught wave control, like controlling the wave, because he's got this really weird spike where like you're the best champion in the game from like levels 1 to 3, and then you have this weird trough like where you're useless until you get that break point where is it at level 8 or 9?
Level 9 Black
where
Cleaver.
Your W, level 9 Black Cleaver, and also your W just like is permanently on, right? It's not like a cooldown or whatever it is. And so would you say that Urgot teaches great fundamentals in terms of wave control because you're so vulnerable levels 3 to 9?
No, definitely. Utilizing range advantage, wave control, and playing off clear spikes like level 1 and 9, I think it's a great champ to learn with. Definitely my top 5.
Awesome. Okay, next up is Tahm Kench, which completely shocks me. Tahm Kench is even on this list. I forgot Tahm existed in the game. It's higher than Gwen top lane. Is this a legit pick? Is this a candidate or something? Like, what's the point of picking Tahm top lane?
It's one of the worst champs in the game. I think there's no point. Okay. I think people that play Tahm just want to spit people under the tower. That's all they're playing for, that tower spit. I think this champ has no proactive way to get fed. The opponent can't really get fed off you, but you have dog shit wave clear and you scale terribly. So I just don't see the value on it, apart from your opponent not knowing what you do. It's like the only thing.
Yeah, I don't even want to talk about Tahm. I just get it off my screen. It's a useless champion. Sorry, Tahm Kench players.
Yeah, sorry, Tahm Kench players.
Yeah.
I think, is it just better in support because you can like eat? It's like good against like.
I've got my take here. Again, I'm cosplaying Charlie. I do not want to talk about Tahm since the rework. I was a massive Tahm Kench fan pre-rework. When it was had all that creative power and support, and it was just fun, and they just sucked the joy out of it. And I love Riot Games, but I want to go back to 2019, 2018, whatever it was.
When your R was your W.
Yeah, they swapped the abilities. You could go spellbook, you could have a bit of fun, and now it's just like it's just a worm, It's just this giant slug. Just ignore it. You know what I mean? Leave it. It does nothing.
It does nothing. All right, so next up we have
Vent.
Yeah, that's Curtis's Vent.
Or Tahm goes.
All right. Poor Tahm.
So Gwen top lane. Is Gwen an OTP champion or a pool champion?
It technically is an OTP champ, but I don't think it should be. I think people do OTP it. I think this champ's amazing as a counter pick and trash as like a main blind. Maybe not trash, but not a great main blind, to be honest. Because again, Gwen in the right spots, like if they have like HP stackers, meatballs that are coming into you, it's pretty much unlosable. Amazing champ. But if you play Gwen versus like Ignite Fiora, Lilia jungle, like you're not going to do anything. So I think, very situationally broken. I don't like it as a main blind.
I love Gwen. I think Gwen is a great champion. I think it has a high skill cap. I think it's a lot of great pick angles for it. Like I think it's one of those champions that if you have it in your pool in the right place, it can really, really kind of pay dividends. Would you say the learning journey for Gwen is tricky, Chippies? Like getting Gwen to the point where you can do your job?
I actually wouldn't say so. I think she's one of the easier champs to pick up and just put her as a counter pick in your pool. Like the reference points are clear. The abilities, there's like, the main thing you need to learn is how to use the edge of your W. Because if you EWQ, your character will be on the edge of it. And so you need to know where you stand before you do that so they can't come in. And then, but a lot of Gwens will just like W a skill shot, right? Like W Mordekaiser Q. But that's not what it's for. Even when I'm playing a melee champ like Jax or Renekton, they're going to be on the edge of their W hitting me and like you can't auto them. It's very frustrating. So once you learn how to use your W well, I think the rest of it's pretty straightforward. Like 100 to 0 trades with your Q, all in them at 6 when they're low, farm until 2 or 3 items, and then team fight front to back. I think it's quite strong. Maybe not front to back, depends on the comp, but yeah, team fight on the edge of the fight.
It depends on the comp.
Yeah, I think it's pretty
that's what I
straightforward.
struggle with was Gwen. I struggle with mid-game team fighting when I played a lot of Gwen.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't intuitive to me. Do I play front to back? Do I come in the flank? How do I use my W? Like finding the window in which you do want to send it with your ghost and your R. Like that whole thing I found quite tricky.
Yeah.
It did click eventually, but I would say for me, lane was very intuitive, right? The clear reference points. It was just like, how do I use my strength to win the game? And I had this tendency as Gwen to like over split push.
Yeah.
Do you see that a lot with Gwen players, over split pushing?
Definitely.
Or not really?
Gwen and Kayle play refuse to group until level 16. But if you're going to win the fight, if you're 2 items ahead of the curve and your team's like doing fine, you're going to win that fight anyway. So you can just group up. And yeah, the team fighting thing, the hard part is adapting to the comps. Because if they have Viego Camille, you want to front to back and just kill them. But if it's not like that, you have to play on the edge and, bide your time, wait for them to engage on your team or your team to engage on them. And that can be hard. That patience is quite hard to develop.
Why do you think Gwen is such a low pick rate? Why are people so intimidated or just don't want to play Gwen?
I think people hate nerfs. So she was really OP, I think, start of the year, maybe. And then she got a pretty big nerf. And she went from like being OP to being average. Like not bad, not great. And that scared off a lot of her player base. I think the nerf hurt quite a bit.
Interesting.
Is Gwen an R-reliant champion?
Yeah, I would say so. You don't really want to take fight to all-ins without it.
Yeah, so that's again going back to the reference points. Yeah, it's got a negative win rate right now in Plat Plus. Like,
surprises me,
what was the nerfs? What did they just move the numbers?
A lot of damage gone. Like her damage numbers were way too high, and now they're a little bit too low. I would say they'd only want to play her into. Oh, they got Mundo, nice free game. I'm going to scale for free. Or they have a tank jungle with tank support, like great Gwen game. So you don't want to main blind her.
But it sounds like in those games, you'd like to just pick Olaf in those ones.
I would, yeah. But some people like Gwen a bit more. So that's perfectly fine.
So now what we're going to do, we've got through the bulk of the quote-unquote meta top laners. We're going to do some quick speed running, right? I've got a few here. We've got to talk about Varus. Varus top, controversial pick. Give us a quick spiel on Varus top.
So Varus has so much popularity right now. Okay, so the hex plate on this patch that we're recording this, it got nerfed for range champion. So is Varus gone now?
Yeah, so we got a little buff from Doran's bow and then nerf from hex plate. I'll be curious to see if he's gone. I think maybe not as strong as a blind pick, because if you build a squishier item, you're not going to be as strong, right? But I don't think he's going to be gone for good. I think maybe people will use him more as a counter pick, but still, yeah, he's just too good in lane. He can't be completely gone unless they do a bigger change than just hexplate passive nerf. You don't have hexplate done till like 11, 12 minutes, right? Probably longer if you go tier 2 boots. So I don't think it's going to change as much as I think.
So what made Varus come in to invade the top lane role? What happened?
His kit didn't change. He didn't get reworked. He just popped up in every game.
I think Dusk and Dawn being added. Like the Dusk and Dawn build feels really good on him. The hexplate Dusk and Dawn, really, really strong. So I think people just cooked up a build when that item got added that makes him unkillable and one-shot everything, pretty much. Where before, what were people building? Like Kraken Slayer? It was just terrible.
So basically, but like just very simply, nowadays with Varus top, what makes him playable or obnoxious in lane is that he has. Walk us through to the average person. Varus top, how is that viable? It's an 80 carry. How is it allowed to play the top?
So getting a free TP means you can take kind of exhaust every game, so more access to combat sums and tankier build path. So again, like a Varus with Noon Quiver is way easier to kill than like Tunneler or Fade, right? So and they go tabbies and stuff like that. So I think tankier build path, stronger key items, and combat sums. That's the main reasons why.
And they can get away with building tanky items and still do a lot of damage because their damage doesn't come from necessarily the stats. It's more like the levels and the base stats on the passive. Is that right?
Yeah, just proccing passive like 3 or 4. You're just going to one-shot anything.
Okay, moving on.
Let's do the ranged like mages. Like,
like what Vlad? I want to take a look at Vlad.
All the ones that you've sort of talked about here. So so obviously the next ones
Vlad, Anivia, Ryze. Let's just talk a lot about these ranged.
Kennen.
Well, let's get specific first. I just want a quick skim. Like, let's talk about Vlad. Is Vlad a top laner at the moment? Do you see it? Is it weak? What's going on with Vlad?
I think he's not in a great spot because there's champs that are stronger in lane than him that also scale. Like Vayne, like Varus, like their lane phase is just more brutal than his. And they also scale, right? Of course, Vlad level 16, 3 item, but that's not really what you're picking top lane for. You want a champ that consistently does well early game and can spread that lead. But Vlad, it's kind of hard to, unless you have double subs, they're coming in, it's hard to impact the game as much as you'd like. So I think Vlad is just not as good as those other champs that have popped up.
So when is Vlad strong and what metas is Vlad usually strong?
I think normally into like melee carries, into Jax, into Camille, stuff like that. So metas where those champs are really good. Because he'll actually smash lane and outscale as well. And also, I think mainly just top matchup matters a lot. There's just champs that have popped up that do his job better.
Are there any top lane Vlad challenger players at the moment?
No, I don't think so. I think they mainly play mid. I know Elite 500 came Korean. He played 80
Elite
carry
500
Vlad.
plays. He plays a lot of top Vlad, doesn't he, though? Elite 500.
I think he Qs 80 carry, though. He gets like filled to top.
Okay, I see. You've been talking a lot about Anivia.
Yeah, so what was the 3 champs you said that you're playing against a Korean Challenge all the time? Is it Anivia, Aurora, and Ryze?
It was Varus, wasn't it?
Rumble, Jayce, Ambessa, Anivia, like the top 4 that I've ever yet.
Anivia.
Yeah.
So what Anivia? Yeah, so walk us through the Anivia thing then. Is this a fad? Is it going to go away soon, or is top lane just ruined now? Like, does everyone just know how to play counter top lanes and range top lanes? These mages are just the new meta.
Yeah, I actually feel there's no way to fix this unless they make like quest specific debuffs to ranged. I think it's just the average player getting better. My favorite comparison is if you imagine support back in the day, no one roamed, right? It just wasn't a thing. And then support started roaming. It's like, how do you stop support just running around the map level 3? It's like you can't really. So apart from the quest system they did. But for top, the only way is to enforce it by law with the quest system because people have just gotten way better. And like imagine the current patch we're on right now, but in season 7, if someone played Anivia, they would be terrible. They would be useless because they're just not good enough at spacing and piloting that type of champion. But now everyone's just quite good. So champs like Anivia have way more value. Even I see a lot of more Victor top and stuff. People are just playing champs like that.
So what makes Anivia at the moment good in solo queue in your games? I mean, it literally has a positive win rate.
Even in Plat Plus.
Even in Plat Plus, which is crazy. What makes it so effective in top lane at the moment?
So it's very, very stable. It's a range champ that doesn't rely on snowballing, right? So your win lane versus any melee and versus most range you'll chill. Like there are some answers, Irelia and stuff, but Anivia can play those out. And one thing that's super annoying is you can wall off your own minions as they cross your tier 1. And that'll stop the wave from ever bouncing back to them.
I forgot about that.
You'll never die to ganks. And you're like, when I'm versing and I crash a wave super cleanly, like perfect hard pushing, my wave's not going to come back nicely because they're just going to block their own one. So it's like very, very frustrating in that aspect. I don't know how they're going to fix it. They've removed the crumb of base armor. They're not going to do too much. But it's just extremely stable, doesn't need a snowball, and it's just always useful in the game. It's kind of like Ambessa, where it's just always a good champ.
I think a big part of it as well is that Anivia doesn't really need to build a ton of AP. You can go a lot of HP and still do damage as well, I guess.
Yeah, tankier build paths. Roa, Leandri's.
Roa. Yeah. And now you've also mentioned Aurora. Now Aurora has a bonkers win rate.
Well, I think one of the highest or the highest win rate.
One of the highest, if not the highest, 54% win rate, which is insane.
But the pick rate's very low though.
Yeah. Low pick rate. Aurora, I've played a lot of Aurora myself. So Aurora top, how does it function again? Is it just people getting better mechanically, can beat a lot of low range champions and they're just hard to gank because of W? Is that what's going on here?
Yeah, I think it's ungankable champ that wins all against any melee matchup, pretty much. I think the pick rate's low because the execution's hard. You have no healing sustain. You have pretty hard mana costs. So again,
Well, you get a bit of
this
healing
well.
back on your passive, though.
Yeah, a little bit, but it's
on the
not.
right, yeah.
Yeah, if you take a bad trade, it's not going to save you. So I think it is
Yeah,
punishing of
true.
mistakes in that way. It's pretty painful to verse, like 1Q auto Q, just half HP. I don't get it. Doesn't make sense to me just seeing it happen. But no, the champ's good. I think I wouldn't blind pick it that much. I think you need to know like this is a matchup where I will snowball. I think Aurora from like even or behind sucks. So you need to be in a matchup where you will snowball.
And Cassiopeia. Now, you didn't mention this, but I want to mention this because my hot take of this episode, coming from a mid laner, is I think Cassio top is actually underrated.
Yeah.
And a good Cassio top, especially with how effective she is at the moment with DFT and running a combat spell with Ignite or something, she can be terrifying. Am I wrong here, Chibbies?
No, I agree. I think this is the best champ that no one plays, pretty much. Like the strongest champ that no one ever plays it. So I just think the execution's hard. I've played on like 4 different servers, maybe 5. Yeah, 5 different servers, and there's only like 2 people in Korean Chell out of everyone I've ever versed that can play this champ in top lane. Apart, there's like mid laners that get filled, like versing Shock or something. But even then, like they'll die to ganks or something, right? Because they're mid lane mains. I think like pure Cassio mains, there's very few that can pilot it to the level needed.
So Cassio top you think is underrated. So if someone were to, let's say again, they want to go nuts, they want to pick an OTP champ, they want to, they really want a skill expressive, carry oriented top laner, Cassio could be a reliable pick, you would say?
Yep, start an Emerald at least. You need pretty high micro and be in for the long haul. Like 1,000 games plus for sure. I don't think you're going to have 200 Cassio games and start popping off. I've actually seen, I think almost every LCK top laner's tried Cassio a couple of times and then given up on it because they know it's not worth the commitment, but they see that it is a strong champ. So yeah, I mean, if you're planning to play it for many like months or maybe over a year, I think it can definitely work.
And just a few noteworthy champions. Kennen, OG champion, been in the game for a long time. The kit has basically been identical for as long as I can remember.
Yeah, they've never reworked
And
an
they've
update.
never
this kit,
reworked the
right?
champ. What's Kennen up to nowadays?
Yeah, he just doesn't, he does the same job as like Rumble, Jayce, but just not as good, pretty much. I think he's more snowball reliant as well than the other champs. So if you blind pick Kennen versus another range champ, you're not going to snowball. And a Kennen ulti from behind, it's like, doesn't really do that much. I just think he's not as good. Like, you'd rather be Aurora, you'd rather be Jayce than Kennen, pretty much every time.
Yeah, wave clear's unreliable. Trading is way less reliable. Low range.
Yeah,
A little bit of an outdated champ.
Yeah, the
It's
wave
hard.
blocking,
Like even though, sorry, go on.
yeah, the wave blocking your Q, like just compared to Aurora, the Q can't be blocked, but Cannons can. Even that's like a big difference maker.
Even that's huge.
Yeah.
And they both have AoE ultimates. Yeah, sure. Theoretically, Kennen in the right position, like getting on a flank in a team fight, can rip it open. It's just hard to get them off because you're never winning side. You're just getting shoved in.
Yeah, I only see.
I want to talk about
like when I'm making the
sorry,
Jax.
go on.
For example, when I'm making the Jax guide blind picking, like that's when I see the cannons come out of the weeds. But you never just see like a blind pick cannon slam.
I want to talk about Warwick because I'm just nitpicking some really high win rate champs. Warwick has a 53% win rate right now, absolutely popping off in Plat Plus.
Yeah.
Warwick is a champion I recommend as a great beginner jungler as well, right? Like, would you recommend Warwick for people in the top lane? Does it teach you the game, or is this just like a bit of a fad at the moment? A lot of people struggle playing against Warwick because he's like the king of 1v1 dueling, right?
Yeah, I'd never recommend someone to play him. I think he's a bad team. Like, he just breaks too many rules. You can take terrible trades and it just doesn't matter. I think he was actually low-key overpowered for ages, but they did nerf him. And now the mid is more range. So I think he's really good. And most of their win rate comes from Emerald Diamond. But Masters Plus, he's not that good because of the skill of the range top players.
Would you recommend him below Emerald even as well?
Nah, I just
Or
think
you just don't like it because he just doesn't teach the game well?
doesn't teach the game. Like, someone has to come to me already preloaded on the Warwick bug, I think.
It's sort of like a singed as well, you're sort of saying.
It's a minigame champion.
Yeah.
It is. It's just an odd kit. It's very odd. Think about how Warwick trades and fights comparative to like every other champion in the game. It's so odd.
Yeah. It's the only trade where you can do 100 damage and take 500 and it's good. You know, it just breaks too many rules.
And also Kled. Now, famously, the Baus on Lost Return has played a lot of Kled in pro play. Kled currently has a pretty good win rate here, 51% in Plat Plus. Kled top lane. Another OTP champ, I assume.
Yeah, full OTP champ. You can never, and if you play Kled, even as your main, you shouldn't have anything else. It's like a full one-trick champ. You have to really know the limits of this champ. Full mini-game champion all the way. I think he's slightly below average in terms of champ power. He's just a little bit too weak. Like, you can imagine playing Kled into Anivia. You're not going to have very much fun. So yeah, bad meta for him. I think maybe the numbers are a little bit low. This doesn't feel as scary as different metas where you used to build lethality or something.
So I think that's basically all the champions. I think we've really had a real red hot crack at all the top lane champions. I've learnt a lot and yeah, definitely probably created a few narratives of my own along the way here.
I'm getting this whole range top lane thing. I'm actually quite nervous for top laners. I feel like a lot of people are watching this episode are like, you know, all the traditional top laners, you know, obviously they're all way higher pick rate. Like, at least we're not to the point where Varus or Vayne, whatever it is, they're like 10% pick rate. Or
Vayne's pretty high.
Vayne
was pretty high.
Yeah, Vayne has picked up points. She's number 17.
Number 17, which is nuts. Teemo is number 6.
Oh, yeah. So I maybe it's starting to catch on. Maybe this whole range top laner
wildfire
is starting to catch on. And imagine, what happens if we like, it's range and no one's picking these melee top laners anymore, and then it just becomes this even lower. It's just range versus range, and then do we do a reverse meta where like now people are trying to counter the range champion? So
yeah, the only big
see like maybe
they have to change the quest system. Like range champs get punished more or less talented, whatever. Right? That's the only way. They have to enforce it by law, like they did with lane swaps. They have to make game wide changes.
Yeah, I feel like Riot don't want this.
No,
yeah,
probably not.
They don't.
This is something.
Well, they want to see more diversity. They have said that, but they don't want diversity at the cost of like lowering diversity or lowering the core base of what makes a top laner, right?
Yeah, I don't think they'll do it, but maybe, you know, a couple years from now, if Sett, Garen, no one's playing those champs, they might have to step up.
Well, thanks, Chippies, for taking the bulk of your day up by this episode. It was a very long one. My ears are bleeding at the moment from the amount of time we've been wearing these headphones.
I know that the Top Lane Academy members have been really requested this episode, so we're glad to get that provided to them. Any final comments, shout outs, anything here before we wrap up, Chippies?
No, it was a fun day. Time went by quickly. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, I'll see you all for the next one.
Good work, guys. Let's keep on improving. 3-block process. We'll see you guys on our next episode.